Natural disasters descend, and only the fittest survive. The world has succumbed to chaos, with a staggering human mortality rate of 98. In this apocalyptic landscape, civilization has crumbled and morality has deteriorated. In his previous life, Zhou Chen met a tragic fate, left to rot in the wilderness. Upon his rebirth, he awakened a spatial ability to hoard resources. Chapter 1. I have reborn in a parallel world. Ding. August 18th, 2033, 11:35 a.m. A red alert has been issued. According to meteorological reports, the super typhoon Mighty Tiger is expected to make landfall in coastal areas on the morning of the 19th, with wind speeds reaching up to level 12. Torrential rains are also anticipated to persist for several days. Citizens in coastal cities are advised to prepare for home safety in advance. The residents of coastal cities receive this alert simultaneously on their mobile devices. However, the majority dismissed it outright. In a Michelin-starred restaurant in the city of demons, a ravenous man caught everyone's attention. Patrons at such establishments are accustomed to a certain level of sophistication, and the man's crude behavior drew immediate disdain. A live-streaming female influencer pointed her camera at him, her face contorted with disgust. How can someone like this even dine in a restaurant? It truly lowers the Michelin standard. How vulgar. I shall never return. Even the waitstaff could not conceal their inner contempt. Every customer here prided themselves on their status, and they had never witnessed someone so destitute. Zhou Chen, oblivious to the judgment around him, devoured his meal with fervor, his hands grasping meat, vegetables, and soup, as he cleared an entire table of gourmet dishes. As calamity looms, only the resilient will endure. In his previous life, he faced super typhoons, torrential rains, floods, extreme cold, extreme heat, plagues, earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, and nuclear fallout. Resources were scarce, and corpses littered the ground, with a global mortality rate soaring to 98. For 3 years in this desolate world, he had merely survived, drinking tainted water and gnawing on moldy buns, even scavenging food from wild dogs. Did he care for others' opinions? Everything beyond sustenance was inconsequential. He has been reborn. Reincarnated a day before the deluge, he has awakened spatial powers. This time, he intends to stockpile resources with fervor, armed with the knowledge of impending disaster, ready to navigate the tempest with grace. Furthermore, he is determined to exact revenge on those who orchestrated his demise, ensuring they live a life worse than that of a dog. Having satiated his hunger, Zhou Chen settled the bill and departed. It was now 12:30 p.m., and the calamity would strike at midnight. The urgency to gather supplies was palpable: food, water, medicine, weapons, wilderness survival gear. His 3 years of survival experience had etched an essential inventory into his very bones. Zhou Chen rented a large truck and headed straight for the city's largest wholesale market. During his journey, he received a call from Old Sun, the security guard of Sakura Community. In his youth, Old Sun had been a street delinquent, loyal to his friends, but a knife wound cost him a leg, forever altering his prospects of family and fatherhood. Zhou Chen, possessing a pleasant demeanor, could engage in conversation with anyone. In the usual course of life within the community, greetings were exchanged, and occasionally, gifts of cigarettes and liquor from clients were shared with Lao Sun, fostering a cordial rapport between the two. In a previous life, Lao Sun met a tragic fate. A month after a calamity struck, he led the resistance against the invasion of survivors, only to be brutally stabbed multiple times, leaving his visage unrecognizable. That very night, however, his corpse mysteriously vanished, and even from the penthouse, Zhou Chen could detect the aroma of simmering broth. Upon his rebirth this morning, Zhou Chen, mindful of the security of the community, promptly contacted a renovation company to replace all the windows in his home with bulletproof glass and to install a robust stainless steel door. The door was fortified with 3 sections, each reinforced with a 10-centimeter thick steel bolt, ensuring it could withstand the mightiest of blows. In the harsh reality of a post-apocalyptic world, human nature can be treacherous. Often, the first threat comes not from outsiders, but from those closest to one. To make efficient use of his time, Zhou Chen enlisted Lao Sun's assistants to keep watch. "Xiaozhou, have you ordered any medical supplies?" A young man just delivered dozens of large cardboard boxes. Prior to his departure, Zhou Chen had contacted a sales representative from a pharmaceutical company, purchasing essential medications, anti-inflammatory drugs, antibiotics, cold medicine, hemostatic agents, trauma medicine, high-proof alcohol, and bandages, worth 1 million at double the price, including tetanus vaccines and insulin for diabetes. His sole stipulation was urgency. The supplies had to be comprehensive. These were life-saving medications in the face of disaster, becoming increasingly scarce as time advanced. With a single cold pill capable of fetching an exorbitant price, he had witnessed individuals trade a mere pack of cold medicine for a chance to enter an official base, underscoring the preciousness of these supplies. Yes, Lao Sun, kindly sign for the delivery and stack it in the living room. No problem. The doors and windows have been installed. I tested them with a hammer, and even my hands felt the shock. Nothing budged. Also, the fireplaces you requested have been installed in both the living room and the bedroom. Crafted from top-quality burn-proof steel. While waiting at a red light, Zhou Chen located Lao Sun's WeChat and transferred 10,000 yuan. The call remained active, and Lao Sun was perplexed by the transaction. What is this money for? Are you covering the remaining balance? No, it's a token of appreciation for your hard work. It's no big deal. You don't need to give me so much. Just accept it. If you trust me, once everything is settled, please procure some long-lasting food supplies. This impending typhoon could be severe. In life, one should never owe favors. As for whether Lao Sun would believe him, that was of no consequence. Zhou Chen's financial standing was, in fact, quite stable. Following the tragic loss of his parents in a car accident during his freshman year, he inherited a property and a processing factory, providing him with sufficient income to live comfortably. However, just last month, his close friend and his beautiful classmate had secretly conspired with his nemesis, resulting in a significant financial loss. In secret, he had bribed the essential backbone of the factory, lured away all significant clients, and even obtained his prints and signature, ultimately selling the entire factory at a pittance. After some convoluted dealings, it ended up in the hands of two individuals. Zhou Chen came to realize that these two had long been entangled. Just yesterday, this pair of scoundrels had the audacity to arrive in a newly purchased sports car to deliver wedding invitations to him. What audacity! Zhou Chen picked up a brick and rushed towards them. Had they not fled swiftly, they would surely have faced dire consequences. In truth, he could only blame himself for placing too much trust in others, not only in his good brother and the campus belle, but also in those key personnel. These individuals were his university classmates, graduates of a third-rate institution, cast adrift in the elite-laden metropolis, struggling to find even a decent job. Those with connections had already arranged their futures. The rest were merely a collection of aimless individuals, clinging to the hope of making it big in this city, fantasizing about one day being promoted to CEO and reaching the pinnacle of success. Yet, in a city teeming with elites, how could ordinary folks easily rise to prominence? This was a place that devoured its inhabitants, where countless youths buried their dreams, departing in disgrace. Reflecting on their 4 years together, Zhou Chen had hoped to lend a hand, bringing along a dozen of his closest friends to the factory, not only assigning them positions, but also generously offering high salaries. He sought no recompense, yet could not withstand the betrayal from these ingrates. Perhaps it was true what they said, a good person's life is short, while calamity lingers for 1,000 years. In his previous life, Zhou Chen had struggled at the lowest rungs of survival, even scavenging with stray dogs. Meanwhile, these ingrates, barring a few who met an early demise, thrived, at least appearing well-fed, unlike him, who had withered into nothing more than a skeleton. When they crossed paths, these beasts snatched away his last half-bun and mercilessly beat him, leading to his demise on a desolate street without any medication. Zhou Chen shook his head, casting aside these tumultuous thoughts. Vengeance would come, but not now. In a few days, money would become worthless paper. He needed to spend it quickly. The sum at his disposal was sufficient to gather a stockpile of essential supplies. Zhou Chen made several trips before he successfully transported the entire batch of goods. After each trip, he would drive the truck to a relatively secluded corner nearby, allowing individuals to enter the cargo hold and store the supplies within a designated space. He took a moment to indulge in a cigarette and meandered around a street before returning for the second and third trips. Subsequently, Zhou Chen ventured into the vegetable wholesale district, the meat wholesale district, the bottled water wholesale district, and the grain and seed wholesale district. In total, he expended over 2 million, systematically gathering all the supplies into the space. The space possessed preservation capabilities, alleviating any concerns regarding the storage of vegetables and meat. With the provisions temporarily gathered, only weapons and wilderness survival gear remained. The clock now read 5:10 p.m., and time was not on his side. Chapter 2. My good brother, are you afraid? While Zhou Chen was tirelessly occupied, his ungracious image of voraciously devouring food at a Michelin restaurant had already gone viral across the internet. Naturally, some individuals were eager to share this in the company group chat, tagging everyone. Is this Zhou? The factory is gone, employees have fled, he is nothing now. Is it really him? What is he doing, converting his sorrow into gluttony? Could it be that he is overwhelmed and is having his last meal? Are you suggesting he intends to take his own life? Haha, who can we blame? We've been his dogs, toiling endlessly, and this year, asking for another salary increase is like reaching for the stars. Yet Zhang is generous, doubling our wages without hesitation. Zhang Li lounged in his luxurious office, leering at Su Wanwan, who was clad in black stockings. True to her name, Su Wanwan was a vision of beauty. Her visage and figure could render any man weak in the knees. During their school days, she was unanimously regarded as the campus belle, a goddess in the hearts of countless otaku. Zhongli licked his lips, convinced that Zhou Chen's downfall was indeed a consequence of this woman. Upon seeing the messages in the group chat, Zhongli wore a self-satisfied expression. Zhou Chen is furious. Furious? Su Wanruan tugged at her skirt, which had rolled up to her waist, momentarily failing to grasp the implication. Zhongli showed her a video filled with thousands of mocking comments from netizens, relishing the spectacle. Su Wanruan frowned. He wouldn't actually eat that meal and then go off to end his life, would he? Zhongli sneered, and what of it? What concern is it of ours? When he stands before the king of hell, he can only blame his own foolishness. Su Wanruan disagreed. If he were to take his own life at this juncture, it would tarnish our reputation considerably. Zhongli, believing himself to be quite sophisticated, lit a cigar and took a puff, saying, no, his demise would actually be beneficial for us. Are you not worried he might recover and gather evidence against us? Su Wanruan felt a twinge of guilt, her voice rising a couple of octaves. What could he possibly accuse us of? If clients and key personnel choose to leave, who could possibly stop them? As for the factory sale at a low price, his seal and signature are on the contract. Rest assured, regardless of the means by which this signature was acquired, it will be exceedingly difficult for him to procure evidence to substantiate that he was ensnared by others. Zhongli bore a sinister expression. As long as he draws breath, I cannot find solace. Can you? What if he unearths evidence? Would that not render our arduous efforts futile? The substantial sum of money we have only just secured, the factory we have only just initiated, the affluent lifestyle we have only just begun to enjoy, would it all come to an end? Do you truly wish to return to those days of hardship? Su Wanruan envisioned her luxurious sports car, the opulence adorning her every inch, and the faces of her parents and younger brother, who had transformed from disdain to obsequiousness. She recalled the days when she could only envy those who flaunted their LV bags. Her gaze turned icy. What do you propose we do? Zhang Li's smile was venomous as he began to peruse his contact list. Naturally, we ought to provide him with a bit more provocation, ideally. We would compel him to leap from a building. Zhou Chen was driving towards the largest military outdoor goods store nearby when he unexpectedly received a call from Zhang Li. How has your day been, my good brother? Not bad. Heh, my brother, you're being rather inconsiderate. Soft and I are personally delivering an invitation, wishing to invite you to our wedding next month, but it nearly felt like you'd smash me with a brick. Since you want to attend the wedding, you must come to tonight's class reunion. After all, we are all good brothers. If anything is troubling you, do share with everyone. Zhou Chen initially contemplated declining, but suddenly conceived a brilliant idea. All right, but I prefer not to venture out. However, I wouldn't mind a drink downstairs. Zhang Li was taken aback. Huh? Zhou Chen smirked mockingly. What's the matter, brother? Are you frightened? Before Zhang Li could digest this, the call was abruptly terminated. Enraged, Zhang Li contemplated hurling his phone. Damn it, am I afraid of him? Su Wanruan, listening intently, inquired. What does he mean by that? Zhang Li cursed a few times before gradually regaining composure. Humph. What significance could it hold? Do you genuinely believe he dares to go down with us? When Zhang Li had initially purchased a residence in Sakura Community, Zhou Chen had even lent him a sum of money. After plotting against Zhou Chen, Zhang Li and Su Wanruan, who had overnight become wealthy, had remained at a hotel, never returning to the community. Su Wanruan's expression darkened. Let it be. Be cautious not to overreach. He harbors a deep-seated hatred for us and might truly seek vengeance. Zhang Li's eyes gleamed with malice. What is there to fear? Even if Zhou Chen has become a rabid dog, with so many of us present, if he dares to harm me, then Chen Chang and the others can all take their leave. With this thought, he promptly sent a message in their group. Dear brothers and sisters, the venue for tonight's gathering has been changed to my home. We shall have a barbecue in the garden this evening, and I have invited Zhou Chen to join us for a drink. The members of the group were left bewildered. Your home? Isn't Zhou Chen residing on the top floor? Inviting Zhou Chen? You truly dare to do that? What unsavory deeds have you committed with Su Wanruan? And are you not at all aware of the peril? Do you not fear that Zhou Chen might descend with a knife to settle the score? Thoughts abound. Yet they remain unspoken, for they are not particularly honorable. Everyone eagerly offers their compliments, lauding Mr. Zhang's generosity, believing that by aligning with him and Sister Su, they shall reap the rewards. Despite Zhang Li's outward bravado in the presence of Zhou Chen, an undercurrent of trepidation courses through him. He cannot fathom Zhou Chen's true intentions. Having conspired with Su Wanruan to bring Zhou Chen to such a dire state, who would believe that Zhou Chen harbors no desire for vengeance? Zhang Li has only just begun to savor the pleasures of being a prominent figure, and he is loath to invite calamity, or, worse yet, meet a fatal end. Zhang Li hastily summoned his closest associates, Chen Chang and a few others, to his office, where they engaged in hushed discussions. Zhou Chen, however, remained indifferent to Zhang Li's concerns. Zhang Li, a man who most feared disdain and could hardly withstand provocation, was internally convinced that Zhou Chen sought mutual destruction. Yet, despite his overwhelming fear, he would steel himself to return to the community that evening. The reasoning was simple: a multitude of sycophants awaited him. Returning to the community was advantageous. Once there, escape would be impossible. This way, he could witness the brutal fate that awaited these beasts in the apocalypse. When resources grew scarce, the spectacle of dogs turning on each other would surely be entertaining. As for tonight, Zhou Chen could go to hell. Collecting more supplies would be far more rewarding. When the time came, he would relish the thought of denying them sustenance. Upon arriving at the outdoor supply store, he meticulously gathered every conceivable item: disaster survival kits, various sizes of tents, raincoats and boots, military cots and chairs, water bottles, sleeping bags, climbing picks, ropes, binoculars, radios, power banks, fire axes, flint sticks, Swiss Army knives, machetes, multifunctional entrenching tools, waterproof flashlights, and batteries. He ensured to procure large-capacity solar panels, leaving no stone unturned. Additionally, he ordered ice cleats, multifunctional straps, and heavy-duty tactical vests, 2 sets of each. 10 boxes of emergency blankets were deemed essential. Within a fortnight, the city would face water and power outages, making the highest-powered noise-canceling home generators indispensable. He also ordered 20 inflatable boats and rafts, for after a flood, debris would litter the water's surface, making these vessels susceptible to punctures and potential sabotage. Better to have an excess than a deficiency. The shopkeeper was taken aback. Everything else is manageable, but that knife is a restricted item. Chapter 3. The onset of catastrophe. As disasters struck, violence reigned, and human lives were treated with utter disregard. For an ordinary person, confronting such chaos unarmed was tantamount to courting death. Firearms were a distant dream, but self-defense knives were imperative. Zhou Chen maintained a serene demeanor. "You are the expert. Surely, you can find a solution." The shopkeeper, though conflicted, relented. "Please wait. I will retrieve it from the back storage." Encountering a major client, the shopkeeper was unwilling to forfeit this lucrative deal. Upon the shopkeeper's return from the warehouse, Zhou Chen inquired, "Do you know where I might find snowmobiles?" The shopkeeper was momentarily stunned, shaking his head. "We are in the south. Such items are only available in the north. Perhaps you could consider online shopping?" Zhou Chen silently sighed. Even within the free shipping zone, orders placed on the platform would not arrive until at least the following day. With the impending disaster, it was uncertain which highway would become congested. Leaving insufficient time to prepare, he settled for a compromise. "Do you have ice skates?" In an icy environment, as long as he could run fast enough, no one would be able to harm him. The proprietor chuckled. "Indeed, I do. Last year, out of curiosity, I bought 2 pairs to hang on the wall as decoration. I've only tried them on once. They are size 44, which should fit you. If you don't mind, I'll fetch them right away." The hovercraft requires diesel. A year later, the city of demons fell, and all survivors fled the city. Even with transportation, the fuel consumption was astonishingly high. However, the sale and purchase of gasoline and diesel in large quantities were prohibited. Fortunately, after the disaster struck, the highways were littered with abandoned vehicles. As long as he could run fast enough, he need not fear gathering sufficient gasoline. While Zhou Chen was contemplating, his phone rang. Upon checking, it was a call from his aunt. Zhou Chen had an aunt who, in her youth, strayed from the right path, marrying a man of ill repute, and the couple made their living through gambling. His parents, failing to set a good example, naturally raised a son lacking in skills. When Zhou Chen's parents were alive, they often provided assistance to this family. After their passing, the couple deceitfully swindled him out of hundreds of thousands under the guise of familial ties, only to squander it all in one night. Now, as his cousin had grown up and taken a girlfriend, he boasted about not marrying without a house, despite their gambling lifestyle lacking the means to purchase a marital home. Thus, they resorted to playing the victim and emotionally manipulating Zhou Chen into taking responsibility. How absurd. He was not the one who had fathered the child, so why should he bear any responsibility? To coerce him, they had even rented an apartment in Sakura Community a few days ago, taking turns to confront him with their heavily pregnant woman. In their rented space, they had not even a single thick blanket. In a previous life, his aunt had come to Zhou Chen, kneeling in apology, weeping profusely, pleading for his forgiveness. Remembering his deceased father, he momentarily softened and opened the door. The instant the door swung open, their true colors were revealed. They brandished hidden kitchen knives, injuring Zhou Chen's arm and forcing him out of the house. In the freezing cold, he was left to fend for himself. Zhou Chen could not help but let out a cold laugh. He promptly added them to his blacklist. At a chilling -70 degrees, even with electricity. The air conditioning fails to raise the temperature. It is the fireplace and firewood that prove to be the most practical solutions. Zhou Chen navigated to a lumber yard on the outskirts. By this time, darkness had descended, and the typhoon howled ominously, with raindrops cascading from the sky. The lumber yard lay deserted, with a large yellow dog tethered at the entrance, dutifully guarding the premises. Zhou Chen retrieved a bone from his space and tossed it towards the barking dog, which immediately began to wag its tail in excitement. Climbing over the wall, he found himself in a vast open area, where piles of firewood loomed like mountains. Zhou Chen did not disturb the logs or planks, but instead collected several tons of waste wood and sawdust into his space. This considerable quantity would suffice for his needs for an entire year, even if burned continuously for 24 hours in the bitter cold. Noticing a payment code affixed to the wall, he transferred his remaining 30,000 yuan. As he departed, he conveniently took 2 chainsaws with him. Zhou Chen then proceeded to his final destination, the storage area of the industrial park on the city outskirts. This location housed warehouses for large supermarkets like Sam's Club, Costco, Walmart, and Carrefour. Having previously worked in a factory within the industrial park, he was quite familiar with the area. At this hour, 9:10 p.m., it would take him over 2 hours to drive there. With the typhoon approaching, the prospect of a zero-cost acquisition seemed imminent. During such a powerful storm, a level 17 typhoon could easily sweep both people and vehicles away, rendering the warehouses vulnerable to theft, with the police unable to respond swiftly. On his journey, Zhou Chen passed by a sprawling greenhouse fruit farm. The fury of the typhoon intensified, filling the air with the sweet aromas of fruit. A closer inspection revealed the scents of strawberries, watermelons, grapes, and apples. Each greenhouse had farmers bustling in and out, frantically moving boxes of freshly picked fruit, fearing that any unharvested produce would be lost to the winds or flooding. The strawberry farmers, in particular, wore heavy expressions. Being shallow-rooted, strawberries would surely succumb to flooding. Prolonged exposure would rot the seedlings. Farmers cultivating other fruit varieties were not in much better spirits. Even if their trees escaped the floodwaters and the tempest, the fruits would likely not endure. One could only hope that the weather forecast was inaccurate, wishing for a milder typhoon that might dissipate with a mere sigh. Otherwise, their efforts for the year would be in vain. Zhou Chen parked his truck by the roadside and lit a cigarette. Once the farmers had distanced themselves, he leaped into the fields, gathering both seedlings and soil into his space. Even if these fruit trees survived the deluge, they would certainly not withstand the frigid temperatures. Rather than let nature's wrath destroy them, he preferred to salvage them for himself. To his surprise, he completed a substantial circuit, collecting nearly 20 acres of fruit-bearing land. Left behind were rows of iron frames, swaying precariously in the wind, while plastic sheeting flapped atop the trees, carried away by the gusts. Having spent an hour, he realized his time was running short. Zhou Chen navigated through red lights, pressing on relentlessly towards the industrial storage area. The 15-ton behemoth of a truck swayed precariously under the onslaught of a level 12 typhoon, resembling a flamboyant, yet cumbersome serpent. Zhou Chen gripped the steering wheel tightly, perpetually sensing that the vehicle might topple at any moment. In the distance, the chimes of a church bell echoed, marking the stroke of midnight. A ferocious level 17 super typhoon wreaked havoc, sending the roadside cars tumbling like leaves in a tempest. As calamity descended, the world officially entered the era of catastrophe. With a thunderous crash, Zhou Chen burst through the doors, flooring the accelerator and sending a warehouse gate flying. The ferocious winds of the typhoon surged in, toppling the rows of shelves stacked at the entrance like a cascade of dominoes. Zhou Chen donned his cap, flung open the door, and leaped out, rolling up his sleeves for a frenzied spree of $0 shopping. The staff monitoring the Walmart control room stood in shock, alarms blaring with an ear-piercing shriek. "What in the world?" they exclaimed, unable to fathom how the figure on the screen could cause items to vanish instantaneously wherever he went. "Is our system infected? Quickly, alert the authorities, we're being hacked." Indeed, they concluded, the images before them were surely manipulated by an intruder. This is terrifying. How could these items possibly disappear into thin air? Zhou Chen swiftly returned to his truck, reversing his course towards the nearby Sam's Club. In truth, the inventory of a single Walmart was more than sufficient for Zhou Chen to sustain himself for a lifetime. However, with the imminent melting of glaciers and tectonic shifts, the landmass of the Earth would diminish to a mere fraction, all while still needing to house humanity. To ensure the continuation of human civilization, factories must be established to restore a semblance of industrial life, leaving even less arable land for agriculture. Thus, an abundance of supplies was never unwelcome. Rice, flour, vegetables, fruits, and other essentials could not withstand the onslaught of floods and extreme cold. Their wastage would be a tragedy. With a resounding crash, Zhou Chen broke open the storage door of Sam's Club, sending the monitoring staff of Sam's Club, Costco, and Carrefour into a frenzy. Just moments ago, they had mocked Walmart's security system for being hacked, never anticipating such swift retribution. Good grief. The executives of these supermarkets were alarmed. However, with the super typhoon reaching a terrifying level 17, the police were powerless to respond, leaving these leaders in a state of anxious disarray. Another thunderous sound reverberated as Zhou Chen, relying on his memory, smashed open the warehouse of Yajinjia. Damn it, Zhou Chen fumed. When had the small supermarket's warehouse transformed into a mound of steel bars? These bars, both smooth and ribbed, were bundled in 2-ton increments, stacked in thousands. I'm not involved in construction, he lamented. He accepted it, for it was indeed a valuable asset that would prove useful in the future. The expansive warehouse was divided into several sections, and as he ventured deeper, he encountered a plethora of stainless steel sheets. To his astonishment, nestled at the far end was a magnificent vehicle. The sight of this behemoth brought an overwhelming joy to Zhou Chen, nearly bringing him to tears of happiness. A brand new, rugged off-road Kamaz, it could traverse desert and rocky paths with ease. With this vehicle at his disposal, no matter how treacherous the terrain of the apocalypse, he felt emboldened. In his previous life, there were those who drove Kamaz trucks and raiders, recklessly bulldozing through, causing survivor groups that resorted to robbery to scatter in fear. Occasionally, some foolhardy individuals would charge at them, meeting a grim fate. It was a common occurrence for them to be left mangled, some even crushed beyond recognition. Faced with such a domineering mode of transport, Zhou Chen, like countless other survivors, could only harbor envy. The surprises continued. As the rear of the vehicle was piled high with nearly 50 barrels of diesel, each barrel contained 200 liters, totaling approximately 10,000 liters of diesel. In that moment, Zhou Chen was genuinely grateful for the little pickled vegetable. He transferred all the supplies from the warehouse into his space, effectively leaving the little pickled vegetable with no escape route. In the pouring rain, Zhou Chen cast a glance at the nearby Hualyan sign, contemplated briefly, and then made a swift U-turn. He drove closely alongside the warehouse wall, heading towards the incubation park located 2 kilometers away. He intended to establish a base there while also gathering supplies, a plan he had devised from the outset. The incubation park was home to fledgling companies, lacking in funds but rich in dreams and ambitions. According to his memories from his previous life, there was indeed a remarkable tech company among them. It was a startup specializing in nanotechnology for undergarments. The fabric they developed could maintain a constant temperature of around 25 degrees Celsius when worn. In his previous life, during the second year of the calamity, he had been captured by a group of survivors and imprisoned in a cave, destined to become a sacrificial lamb. Through the conversations among the guards, he stumbled upon this astonishing secret. They were a band of like-minded gamblers who, during a flood, ventured out in search of supplies and accidentally discovered this innovative product. With a spirit of experimentation, during the invasion of the extreme cold, this group of a dozen individuals survived solely thanks to the undergarments made from this fabric. Moreover, from their discussions, it was evident that this developed fabric was exceedingly rare. Only a few within the group had received garments, while the rest had perished, frozen solid. Zhou Chen resolved to secure this fabric at all costs. The incubation park was vast, and as for the exact section, building, floor, or room, he would have to search them one by one. This was of little concern, as he could not leave until the super typhoon had passed. As long as he searched diligently, he feared not losing track of it. And he could also collect other useful supplies along the way. The iron fences of the incubation park, aged over the years, had long been toppled by the Category 17 super typhoon, allowing Zhou Chen to drive the truck directly into the staircase entrance. The vehicle was positioned sideways, blocking much of the wind's force, preventing him from being blown away as soon as he stepped outside. Zhou Chen did not immediately commence his search of the building. With ample time at his disposal this evening, he felt genuinely hungry after a long day. He lingered on the first floor, selecting a company with a relatively clean environment. Retrieving a pair of heavy-duty pliers, he deftly severed the chains. Upon entering, he casually chose a table, producing an induction cooker, a frying pan, a steak, and a bottle of red wine from his belongings. He took a piece of butter and placed the steak into the sizzling pan, searing it on both sides. Drizzling a touch of red wine over it, and garnishing it with a sprig of rosemary, a delicious meal was thus prepared. Outside, a fierce typhoon raged, with the windows rattling incessantly. As Zhou Chen savored his steak and sipped the red wine, a sudden sense of something missing struck him, prompting him to retrieve a fruit platter. While indulging, he perused his phone. The internet remained relatively functional, with news predominantly focused on the unprecedented super typhoon. Reports of uprooted trees, collapsed bridges, luxury cars being damaged, and tornadoes tearing through skyscrapers left netizens across the nation astounded by the storm's destructive power. While countless influencers went live to comfort their followers, Little did anyone suspect that this heralded the onset of the apocalypse. Zhang Li had bombarded him with countless calls and even added him to a WeChat group. The Shengli company group consisted of familiar faces. Zhang Li's intention was, of course, to provoke him. The group chat was abuzz with messages. Zhou Chen opened it to find videos of gatherings featuring barbecues, drinking, dancing, and various revelries from Zhang Li and others. The crowd was sizable, with Chen Chong and others bringing their girlfriends, all joyfully dancing in matching ultra-short skirts and black stockings to the pulsating music. The initial videos were taken in an outdoor garden, which had since been relocated to the living room with the arrival of the typhoon. Zhang Li tagged him in a message, "Brother, didn't we agree to go downstairs for a drink? Why are you hiding? Afraid we might mock you?" Naturally, sycophants followed suit with their jibes. Zhang Li had tagged him several times, evidently eager to flaunt his delightful life in front of him. Although his methods were less than honorable, the thrill of sudden wealth often incited a desire to show off. Zhou Chen smirked and sent a voice message in response. "Apologies, everyone. I genuinely intended to join you for a drink, but something urgent came up unexpectedly." Zhang Li and Sakura community eagerly awaited Zhou Chen's response. Sitting up straight, he quickly beckoned everyone to check their phones and hastily replied in the group, "Oh, what a coincidence. What pressing matter could possibly compel you to cancel our gathering?" The implication was clear. Zhou Chen was deliberately avoiding meeting them. Chen Chong and others quickly chimed in. "Indeed, it's been a while since we've seen you. And we've missed you. Who would have thought you'd stand us up?" "Zhou Chen, there's truly no need for this. We're all good friends. Whether there's something or not, we should gather and strengthen our bonds. Yes, we all know you've been feeling down lately. If you're unhappy, share it with us. We're your best listeners, and none of us would ever mock you. Please come down quickly. Everyone is waiting for you. What do you expect? For us to carry you down on a palanquin? Nothing that a hearty meal cannot resolve, Zhou. You must believe that bread will come, and love will follow." Ha. Zhou Chen aimed his phone camera at the window, recording a video. Zhang Li, astonished, remarked, "You really aren't at home?" Zhou Chen replied in a languid tone. "Is there any doubt? The factory has closed. Business has dwindled. One must seek other ventures. I found myself engrossed in conversation with friends, and now, with the approaching typhoon, I can only return home tomorrow." He chuckled. "Do not leave without me. I insist on sharing a drink upon my return. Rest assured, it will truly be a toast. And there is no need to fear me. Ha. The formidable typhoon, classified as level 17, cannot persist indefinitely. By tomorrow morning, it will diminish to levels 5 or 6. Traveling in the short term should pose no issue, yet heavy rains are expected to linger for several days. It remains to be seen how many residents will seize this opportunity." Zhou Chen felt a surge of confidence that Zhang Li would remain behind, certain that this group would not brave the rain for supplies. A crowd accustomed to reaping without labor had consumed all the barbecued food, leaving only fruits and beverages, sufficient to last them a couple of meals. When they finally realize the impending threat, the flood will rise at a visible rate, soon engulfing the entire first floor, leaving these individuals without any shelter. As they bicker and shift blame, the flood will reach the second floor, and only after much deliberation will they decide who to send out in search of food, while the bitter cold silently descends. The extreme chill, plunging to -70 degrees, marks the beginning of their torment. Chapter 5. Is this the buff of a reborn individual? Chains upon chains were forcefully dismantled with heavy pliers. Zhou Chen swept through the building from the first to the third floor in one breath. In truth, there were few useful supplies. However, he managed to gather a significant amount of paper, pens, and nearly new printers. He meticulously searched each floor, even collecting wooden tables and chairs for future use as firewood. He amassed several hundred cans and bags of tea, albeit of ordinary quality commonly found in supermarkets. Nevertheless, in a post-apocalyptic world, they remain valuable commodities. The tea culture of China has endured for millennia, cherished not only by the elderly, but also embraced by the youth. The deep affection for tea among the Chinese resonates. As a cup of clear tea evokes nostalgia for home. The third floor predominantly housed e-commerce companies, with average computer configurations. After careful selection, he collected over 100 units. Many studio windows had shattered during the typhoon. Half the belongings were swept away by the winds, while the other half were drenched by the rain, leaving the corridor littered with paper debris. Zhou Chen moved swiftly, searching room by room, floor by floor. After breaking locks, a mere glance sufficed to determine the utility of the contents, taking what was useful and dismissing the rest without a second thought. He unsealed various delivery boxes, uncovering a heap of clothing, trousers, shoes, shampoo, laundry detergent, and even a folding bicycle. Upon reaching the fourth floor, he discovered 2 oversized delivery boxes beneath a desk at a workstation. Upon closer inspection, it was found to be a box brimming with raincoats. The brand was familiar, with each box containing 10, and 100 boxes in total. Zhou Chen instinctively glanced at the employee badge on the workstation. Xiong, do you possess 4 kidneys? Purchasing 2,000 raincoats at once. Will you ever use them all in your lifetime? Are you not concerned about them expiring? You are not just a bear. You are a tiger. The packaging was adorned with colorful granules, showcasing a playful design, yet this item was indeed quite valuable. In chaotic times, a woman's worth may be measured in mere 3 pecks of rice, while in prosperous eras, she could be valued in gold. Throughout any dynasty, the status of women in tumultuous times is tragically low, often becoming instruments of gratification, whether by choice or coercion. In apocalyptic scenarios, women fare even worse. Unable to afford even 3 pecks of rice, relying instead on a piece of bread, a packet of instant noodles, or a handful of stale rice. As civilization crumbles and morality dissipates, the world becomes rife with bloodshed and violence. The darkest facets of humanity are magnified, with certain violent organizations viewing women as mere objects, employing various means to control them, rendering them tools for bartering resources. They suffer injuries and ailments without any chance of receiving aid, forced to labor until their last breath. In such dire circumstances, certain diseases spread rapidly. Many male survivors have come to realize this truth. The notion that dying beneath the peony blossom is romantic is but a falsehood. Momentary gratification pales in comparison to the will to survive. With countless lives lost to natural disasters, there is an extreme shortage of doctors and medical supplies, making survival itself a struggle. Who would dare to gamble their life on childbirth under these conditions? Yet, humanity is inherently emotional. The more arduous life becomes, the stronger the yearning for comfort. Consequently, the value of raincoats naturally increases. Zhou Chen unceremoniously stowed them away and continued his exploration of the building. Upon entering a studio near the end of the 5th floor, he was startled by several figures. Is someone there? Zhou Chen instinctively raised the heavy pliers in his hand, preparing to strike first, a remnant of past psychological trauma. As he quickly turned on the lights, he realized it was merely a few plastic mannequins. This was a garment manufacturing company, with several sewing machines and tables occupying most of the space. Rolls of fabric were piled on the tables, while 2 computers sat in the corner, and several plastic mannequins were arranged by the window. One mannequin was adorned in a lightweight gray undergarment. Zhou Chen retreated to the doorway and glanced up at the sign. Huaxin Constant Temperature High-Tech Company? Constant Temperature Clothing? The incubation park spanned from Area A to F, covering 5 kilometers, with 100 buildings in each area, and each building consisting of 5 floors, housing dozens of rooms on each floor. By randomly wandering into a building, had he stumbled upon the fabled anti-cold artifact? Was this the buff bestowed upon those reborn? Filled with excitement, Zhou Chen rushed forward and reached out to touch the fabric of the undergarment on the mannequin. It was light, soft, and skin-friendly, merging 3 characteristics into a single delightful texture that was simply exquisite. He could hardly contain his eagerness and tried it on. The moment it touched his skin, he experienced a pleasantly cool sensation. Isn't it a miraculous fabric against the cold? Why do I feel a bit chilly instead? It is now mid-August, and even with the raging typhoon outside, the temperature hovers around 35 degrees Celsius. I still feel a touch of heat. Yet, in mere moments, that sensation of warmth dissipates, as if I have been transported to a room cooled to a delightful 28 degrees. Can this fabric truly provide a thermoregulating effect? Is it not merely a guardian against the cold, but also a protector from the heat? It is said that the owner of this company is a researcher himself, whose aspiration is that one day the fruits of his labor will adorn the bodies of astronauts. What a pity! Had it not been for the impending apocalypse, this individual would surely have achieved great renown. Zhou Chen was exhilarated, quickly changing back into his attire, treating the thermoregulating garment as a precious treasure to be stored safely in his space. As he eagerly gathered the fabric, he discovered that among the several pieces, only one shared the same texture as the thermoregulating clothing. The others bore a resemblance, but were decidedly different. This implies that the remaining pieces were likely either experimental samples or failures. Zhou Chen, however, was not overly disheartened. After all, being alone, possessing a single thermoregulating garment was already a significant satisfaction. Moreover, the fabric was a roll, typically reaching lengths of 20 to 30 meters, allowing for the creation of multiple outfits without issue. The only dilemma was his lack of sewing skills. Yet, many were skilled in this craft, and he could easily find someone willing to take on the task in exchange for food, as many would eagerly accept such an offer. With this in mind, Zhou Chen promptly cleared out his workspace, leaving not a single needle behind. Dawn was approaching. The intensity of the fearsome typhoon was gradually diminishing. Yet the relentless downpour appeared increasingly fierce, threatening to engulf the entire world. In the dimming light of dawn, Zhou Chen felt as though he had traversed into another realm, a desolate wasteland. 5 kilometers away, Two once majestic skyscrapers stood in opposition to one another, now reduced to ruins. The skyscraper on the left appeared as if a giant had struck it with a hammer. Its upper structure vanished, leaving only the lower floors standing defiantly against the storm. The right skyscraper was pierced by a bus, with only the rear half exposed to the elements. The old industrial buildings had been transformed into mere rubble, their machinery submerged beneath the floodwaters. Floating in the currents were the lifeless bodies of men and women, young and old, all halted by the fallen tree trunks, culminating in a harrowing mound of corpses. Help! A man lay amidst the debris, his legs contorted in an unnatural position, impaled by rebar from a collapsed wall. Blood continuously washed away by the torrential rain. He struggled in agony, calling out twice before falling silent. Zhou Chen clenched his fists, knowing that such tragedies would unfold daily. Chapter 6. Whether you believe it or not, do not weep when the time comes. At noon, the super typhoon had weakened to levels 5 and 6, and the world was enveloped only by the sound of heavy rain, the darkened sky seemingly on the verge of collapse. The residents group of Sakura community buzzed with activity throughout the morning, all in shock at the terrifying destructive force of the recent typhoon. Initially, it was presumed that, like in previous years, the aftermath would only consist of minor incidents such as waterlogged roads and toppled billboards. However, upon waking, it felt as though the world had transformed. How frightening. Is this the apocalypse? The glass in my home rattled throughout the night, depriving me of any sleep. Do you hear that? The sound of ambulances has not ceased for half an hour. I have heard that many lives have been lost. Browsing online, I discovered that numerous skyscrapers across the nation have collapsed. Can you believe that? I have also heard that the building of my company has fallen. Does that mean I can skip work? The typhoon has subsided. Should we venture out to gather supplies? The rain is even more torrential than last night, and the greenery has been submerged. Perhaps it would be wiser to remain indoors. Indeed, who knows the actual conditions of the roads? What if a manhole cover is loose and one were to step in, only to be swept away? Is that truly a possibility? I want to sit at the kids' table. I must go out. I have been dining out for days, and there isn't even a single scallion left at home. Goodness. Someone shared a post on social media, and another uploaded a video showing bodies floating in the river. Oh, those are indeed corpses. My heavens, how horrifying. At this moment, the community committee matron, who serves as the group administrator, intervened. Unverified information circulating online can lead to legal consequences, and as individuals who have received higher education, this should be self-evident. I hereby caution all residents that if anyone spreads rumors causing public panic, I shall not hesitate to involve the authorities. Upon her announcement, the group fell silent. Listen to me, she continued. Although the super typhoon has passed, it is still pouring heavily outside. Venturing out in such conditions could lead to accidents, only adding to the chaos. It is prudent to stay home for a few hours and reassess the situation later. What if the flood deepens in those hours? How then shall we step outside? The matron, displeased by the dissent, adopted a grave tone. If the flood rises to a level that prevents citizens from venturing out, rest assured, the organization will dispatch personnel to distribute supplies to the populace, ensuring that every resident in the community receives assistance. Remain calm. We must trust in the strength of the organization. I will notify everyone of any new developments at the earliest opportunity. Her words brought a measure of reassurance to the residents. Although the community committee is merely a local initiative, it possesses the recognition of the organization, thus lending an air of authority to its actions and communications. Moreover, human nature inclines toward inertia and the desire for convenience. The prospect of not having to leave home, avoiding personal expenses, and receiving free provisions delivered to one's doorstep is a temptation many find appealing. Zhou Chen scoffed. This matron could be quite detrimental. While her words held a semblance of truth, they are context-dependent. Will the apocalypse announce itself to inform everyone of its intent to obliterate the earth? This torrential downpour is set to persist for several days. In just a few hours, seawater will surge into the city, and floods will swiftly submerge the second floor. Floodwaters, reaching depths of 7 to 8 meters, will confine the populace indoors. Venturing outside now represents the residents' final opportunity to procure essential supplies. In fact, long queues have already formed at many supermarket entrances, and numerous stores have been entirely stripped bare. At this juncture, leaving home may still yield some resources. A similar scenario unfolded in the past, where the self-righteous community committee members futilely attempted to prevent residents from venturing out for supplies, ultimately resulting in countless tragedies. The initial victims were often the elderly and those living alone. Zhou Chen, unable to contain his frustration, sent a voice message. This unprecedented typhoon has reached a staggering level of 17, affecting a significant number of people. The extent of the disaster is unimaginable, and the authorities are overwhelmed. Who has the time to deliver supplies? If you lack provisions, you must leave your home immediately. The committee member promptly singled out Zhou Chen, 212301. Oh, you think you know everything. Did you not hear what I just said? Stop inciting trouble here. Can you really perish from missing a meal? Zhou Chen retorted vehemently. What nonsense. You are hindering everyone from gathering supplies. If people end up starving, will you bear the responsibility? Watch your words, young man. Who's starving to death? What era are we in? Are you questioning our national strength or the capabilities of our community? I even suspect you're deliberately inciting panic among the residents, aiming to provoke social unrest. I ask you, if people do starve, will you take full responsibility? Can you bear the weight of so many lives? The exchange escalated in the group chat, with other members remaining silent. Being called old vegetable skin by the young man, the committee member's face turned a deep shade of green with anger. Zhou Chen, is it? I will remember this incident. Once the flood recedes, I will certainly report you for disturbing public order. Zhou Chen shot back. Don't wait for the flood to recede. If you have the guts, report me now. I'm ready. He then shared a grim photo of a pile of bodies in the group chat. In matters of old Sun sighed deeply. Reflecting on the recent events, I had a feeling something was amiss. Just as the typhoon had begun to weaken, both ambulances and fire trucks were deployed en masse. Thankfully, the inner ring buildings are more concentrated, making the situation considerably better than in the suburbs. Zhou Chen had just hung up the phone when he noticed a flurry of messages in the owners group for Building 21. Many expressed their indignation. To the person at the top floor, what kind of absurd images are you recklessly sharing? Just moments ago, my son was playing on his phone and was frightened to tears by your post. My wife, 8 months pregnant, was startled by your alarming image, nearly losing her balance. She now complains of abdominal pain. If anything were to happen to her, or the baby, can you compensate for that? Let alone a pregnant woman and child. Even I, a man in my 30s, was taken aback. What a lunacy. You must have sourced those images haphazardly from the internet. Do you not fear repercussions? This society has gone utterly mad. Even the smallest matters can incite a horde of chaos. Such garbage exists right beside me. I contend that individuals like you should be apprehended and dealt with decisively. As a resident of the first floor of Building 21, Zhang Li would not overlook any opportunity to belittle Zhou Chen. Zhou Chen, I understand you've been through a lot recently, but intentionally inciting panic is where you err. Typhoons strike coastal cities at least once or twice a year. Instances of buildings collapsing and fatalities do occur. However, the images you shared are excessively exaggerated. The morgue couldn't possibly produce that many bodies. You cannot let your own misfortunes drive you to seek revenge on society by scaring others into distress. Zhou Chen merely retorted, "Ha fool." Chapter 7. Rescuing a large yellow dog. No matter how torrential the rain, it could not hinder the strides of the official rescue teams. Zhou Chen, equipped with binoculars, spotted police officers, firefighters, and medical personnel in the distance. However, the roads were blocked, and vehicles could not pass. Clad in orange life jackets, these individuals struggled through the flood, holding hands as they navigated the treacherous waters. Their hearts were heavy, tears welling in their eyes. Before setting out, they had received aerial photographs and believed they were mentally prepared, yet the devastation before them was overwhelming. They thrived in the summer kingdom, basking in daily adulation. Yet to the headquarters, they were merely employees. Now, their hefty annual salary was at stake. Zhou Chen savored a piece of steak and sipped freshly squeezed juice. He unearthed a motorcycle from the ruins and set off for home. This path had been traversed for over a decade, even without signposts or a clear road. He could navigate his way home with his eyes closed. Along the journey, he did not forget to gather supplies. The ominous dark sky and torrential downpour served as the perfect guise. He collected a delivery truck that had been reduced to its chassis, a toppled water truck, a mooing yellow cow caught in the flood, and several pigs that had swum by. From the debris emerged individuals, 1, 2, 3, some walking alone, others supporting one another. This area, close to the inner ring, had densely packed houses, with only a few old structures succumbing to the relentless typhoon. These people bore various injuries, their faces blank in the downpour. The shared sorrow of humanity resonated, as the harrowing scene brought tears to many eyes. Zhou Chen remained unmoved, for he understood that despair could darken the human heart. Those who wept for the deceased in this moment might one day wield a knife for a mere morsel of bread. Helicopters soared overhead, one after another. Some ventured into the distance, while others descended closer to the ground. Fire trucks roared through, forcefully carving a path with tenacity. Among the ranks, someone shouted through a megaphone, urging residents to return home and refrain from venturing out recklessly. The low-lying homes engulfed by floodwaters and the severely injured would be prioritized for immediate evacuation and careful treatment. Zhou Chen circumvented the rescue teams and, relying on his memory, located a nearby gas station. Fortune smiled upon him as he stumbled upon a semi-trailer fuel truck. Under the typhoon's wrath, the truck had shattered the store's glass, with much of its body lodged within, leaving only a foot of its rear exposed. Zhou Chen rushed over, inspecting the vehicle closely, finding no damage or oil leaks. To his delight, it was filled to capacity with 30 tons of fuel. The apocalypse relentlessly tormented humanity, and even the earliest established official survivor bases fell victim to an unending wave of natural disasters. Survivors were compelled to migrate repeatedly for their very existence. In his previous life, Zhou Chen, like the vast majority of survivors, had traversed numerous provinces on foot, desperately seeking a momentary refuge, his feet worn to tatters. Blisters the size of eggs were punctured only to reform. They turned into blood blisters, festering into sores, with even a toe lost. Many survivors collapsed along the way, never to rise again. With this fuel, he could seek out more high-performance vehicles to enhance his chances of survival. Every time I reminisce about the apocalyptic survival experiences of my previous life, an involuntary chill runs down my spine. I stowed away the fuel tanker and retrieved 4 plastic water tanks from my space to drain all the remaining fuel. Unfortunately, the stock here was rather limited, otherwise the fuel tanker would not have appeared. However, this was of little consequence. Once again, I mounted my motorcycle and sped towards the next gas station. Throughout my journey, I siphoned fuel from vehicles of all sizes. Various brands of off-road vehicles and trucks, as long as they were not severely damaged, were collected into my space. As I traversed a deep water area, the faint sound of barking dogs echoed amidst the rain. The further I advanced, the clearer and louder the barks became. Woof, woof. A large yellow dog was clinging to a tree trunk, incessantly barking at me. Upon closer inspection, I noticed that the dog was tethered by an iron chain, the other end of which was entwined around a tree fork. I felt no sympathy for the dog. In my past life, I had often competed with wild dogs for food, and those feral beasts were notoriously vicious, even resorting to cannibalism. On one occasion, I had nearly been bitten to death. As I turned my back to leave, the large yellow dog emitted a mournful whine, watching me depart with an expectant gaze. A moment passed, and our eyes met. I stroked my chin, contemplating seriously. To make those beasts realize that their existence was an elderly woman squeezed into the crowd, wailing inconsolably. My son, why are you so foolish? The factory is gone, but life must go on. How are your father and I supposed to survive? Chapter 8. A clash of enemies beneath the curtain of rain. The walls of Sakura community crumbled, and iron railings collapsed in disarray. The ground was flooded to a depth of 15 meters, with torrents rushing toward the underground parking lot. Vehicles submerged in the flood collided with one another, ultimately jamming the entrance in a chaotic pileup. Residents confined to their homes could only helplessly watch as their cherished cars were destroyed. Zhou Chen entered the community, navigating through the water on his motorcycle. Goodness! A voice shouted from above. Immediately, numerous residents rushed from their living rooms to their balconies, their expressions filled with excitement. Brave one. Impressive. Brother, what is the situation outside? Zhou Chen arrived at Building 21 and glanced at Zhang Li's ground floor apartment. The small garden was engulfed in murky floodwaters, with only the crowns of 2 small trees visible, while debris and household appliances floated on the surface. The apartment was uninhabitable, and Zhang Li and others were likely crowding on the second-floor landing, awaiting rescue. With the elevator out of service, they could only ascend the stairs. As Zhou Chen reached the second floor, he discovered over 20 men and women seated on the steps. Zhou Chen, Chen Chong exclaimed, his face a mask of astonishment. The old classmates sitting beside him wore equally shocked expressions, unable to fathom how Zhou Chen had managed to return amidst such deep waters. At that moment, footsteps echoed. Zhang Li, accompanied by several women, rushed over from the direction of the elevator. Upon recognizing Zhou Chen, he immediately demanded, "Why didn't you answer my call? Why didn't you reply to my messages?" He gestured angrily. Aside from Chen Chong's girlfriend, ask everyone here if they haven't tried to contact you. Zhou Chen casually replied, "Oh, did Su Wanshu also reach out?" Zhang Li was momentarily taken aback, while Su Wanshu, hiding behind him, averted her gaze from Zhou Chen. Feeling guilty, the way Zhou Chen looked at Su Wanshu infuriated Zhang Li. Despite having betrayed Zhou Chen, he felt an unsettling sense of vulnerability. Taking a step forward, Zhang Li attempted to block Zhou Chen's gaze, but Zhou Chen, towering over him, easily peered above his head, focusing on his woman. Feeling like a fool, Zhang Li discreetly retreated a step, shielding Su Wanshu behind him. "I'm discussing the phone calls. Why bring up Su Wanshu?" Zhang Li emphasized her name with feigned affection. Looking smugly at Zhou Chen, "You've never shared a bed with her, yet here I am, in countless positions. Isn't that a bitter pill for you to swallow?" Zhou Chen cast a disdainful glance downward, scrutinizing Zhang Li. "Just because you called, do I have to answer?" Zhang Li, incensed, erupted with fury. "Were it not for you, I would not have returned. Now the house is submerged in water. Why should I care about your house being flooded? The house has no connection to you. But your car certainly does, doesn't it? That luxury vehicle worth over $1 million now lies submerged. The more Zhongli thought about it, the angrier he became. The house being flooded was inconsequential. At worst, he could replace the furniture and appliances. However, his newly acquired sports car, which he had barely flaunted for a month, had been drenched by the flood and swept into the underground parking lot, rendering it a total loss. As thoughts of the car crossed his mind, Zhou Chen, standing in the corner, felt a pang of regret and cast a reproachful glance at Zhou Chen. Zhou Chen chuckled. It's all my money being spent. Why should I care? Why do you feel pain over it? Hearing this, both Zhongli and Zhou Chen were momentarily speechless, unable to utter a word. They had not anticipated Zhou Chen's bluntness. Chen Chong and the others also faced the same predicament, their vehicles submerged and their tempers flaring. Although they had purchased insurance, the streets were flooded with vehicles, and the insurance company executives were likely contemplating their own demise. Zhou Chen, what about our cars? They inquired. Indeed, had you not insisted on gathering for drinks, would we have driven here? Another added. The terrain near my rental is significantly higher. No matter how heavy the rain, it wouldn't flood the tires. We don't care about your issues with Zhang, but what do you propose regarding our cars? Zhou Chen turned and retorted sharply. What are you all complaining about? Was it I who called each of you for this gathering? Do you have any records of communication? Show me who summoned you. Chen Chong and the others were incensed. Their faces flushed, glancing helplessly at Zhongli. Yet, as Zhongli's associates, they knew they had to maintain their rapport with him, fearing to offend. Thus, they redirected their frustration towards Zhou Chen. Zhongli, noticing the collective gaze upon him, felt a surge of anger. Damn it, you bunch of ingrates. You come flocking to me at the scent of success, and the moment there's a hiccup, you start blaming me. Have you forgotten that it was my ideas that helped your salaries rise from mere thousands to 20,000? Were it not for my audacity, would you each have the means to spend hundreds of thousands on cars? Seeing Zhang Li's hostile expression, Chen Chong and the others lowered their heads. Zhang Li clenched his fists and shouted at Zhou Chen, let us set the cars aside for now. Had you not expressed a desire to socialize rather than stay indoors, would I have canceled the prearranged dinner and brought everyone here? Now we have no place to rest and not a drop of water to drink. Shouldn't you find us a suitable location? Zhou Chen raised an eyebrow. Set aside? Should I? Zhang Li gritted his teeth and waved his hand dismissively. Fine. Let's consider the car issue as separate from you. We will take responsibility. Upon hearing this, Chen Chong and the others felt a renewed sense of grievance. You say the car issue is not your concern, but who are you to decide that? Can you truly make such a judgment? Then how about you, Zhongli? Compensate us for a new car? Cursing under his breath, he observed how Su Ruoxuan and Zhongli, those two despicable individuals, had amassed wealth at the expense of Zhou Chen's factory. And what of us? We still clung to the hope of persuading Zhou Chen for some compensation. Yet, at that moment, Zhang Li's face bore an unmistakable warning. Chen Chong and the others could only suppress their grievances deep within. Zhang Li shot a fierce glare at Chen Chong and, with impatience, turned to Zhou Chen, urging, take us to your home quickly. We are both exhausted and hungry. We will leave once the flood recedes. In response, Zhou Chen landed a punch squarely on Zhang Li's face. You damn well know this is my home, not yours. Do you think you can just come and go as you please? The blow was not light. Zhang Li staggered, colliding with the corner of the wall. He instinctively covered his face, blood seeping through his fingers. A wave of shock swept through everyone present, their expressions a mixture of disbelief as they gazed at Zhou Chen. Why did he suddenly resort to violence? Until now, Zhou Chen had always presented himself as exceedingly accommodating and gentle. Especially when he smiled, his eyes sparkled with warmth. And his grin was like the sun in winter. He had never shown a hint of anger. Otherwise, they would not have perceived him as easy to bully. Year after year demanding salary increases, sometimes even twice or thrice within a single year. This was their first encounter with Zhou Chen's wrath, and the first time witnessing him resort to physical confrontation. It seemed he had truly reached his breaking point. After all, his closest friend had conspired with his beloved to usurp his factory. If this were to happen to them, they would not have endured such humiliation for a single day. Su Ruoxuan cast a disdainful glance at the disheveled Zhang Li, yet she approached and helped him up, turning to Zhou Chen with reproach. Zhou Chen, you have gone too far. Why must you resort to violence when we could discuss things amicably? Zhou Chen scoffed coldly. What gives you the right to lecture me? Everyone knows what kind of person you truly are. If I were you, I wouldn't even have the face to show myself in public. Su Ruoxuan's expression shifted dramatically. Zhang Li, who was particularly vain about his appearance, applied skincare products more meticulously than most women. He stared at the blood on his hands, infuriated, and shouted, Zhou Chen, this is your own doing. Everyone get him. The tension in the air was palpable, and suddenly an urge to relieve oneself surged within me. Put away your knife. I jested. I was merely joking. You may leave, and we certainly will not impede your exit. Zhou Chen had no intention of truly resorting to violence. For a fleeting moment, he had indeed contemplated the notion of dispatching each of these brutes right then and there. However, after 3 years of survival in this apocalyptic world, he possessed an edge of ruthlessness. Yet, he preferred to observe with cold detachment as these beasts turned on one another, their petty squabbles over scarce resources igniting conflicts, backstabbing, and betrayals. Such drama was far more entertaining. Zhou Chen kicked at the large yellow dog, which cowered behind him, tail tucked and trembling, too frightened to bark. What a nuisance. Coward. Zhang Li and his companions wore ashen faces, feeling as though Zhou Chen's insults were directed at them rather than the dog. Yet, with a knife in hand, who would be foolish enough to confront him? As Zhou Chen ascended the steps, passing by several of Chen Chang's former classmates, they pressed themselves against the wall, eyes fixated on the blade, fearful that he might strike at any moment. As he reached the corner, Zhou Chen suddenly turned, casting a commanding gaze over the assembly. Chen Chang and his friends hastily gathered their girlfriends and fled down the stairs, a throng of 20 or so men and women huddling together. Anxiety coursed through the crowd as they looked up at Zhou Chen. He glanced at Su Ruan, then at the other 2 female classmates, and finally at Chen Chang's girlfriend with a smirk. Remember, I only allow women to stay overnight at my place. Realizing the danger posed by the knife in Zhou Chen's hand, Zhang Li quickly covered his mouth, suppressing the harsh words that threatened to escape. It was only after Zhou Chen's footsteps receded into the distance that they dared to unleash their frustrations. Damn it, who does he think he is? We should never have let him go. I refuse to believe he would actually kill someone. Next time we encounter him, we'll make him regret it. The men vented their anger for a while, yet the real issue remained unresolved. A short-haired girl timidly inquired, "What shall we do now?" Zhang Li furrowed his brow. "Let us endure a little longer. If it rains heavily after dark, a rescue team will surely come for us. So many low-income residents are affected. I refuse to believe the authorities will turn a blind eye." Chen Chang's girlfriend discreetly tightened her legs, whispering, "We've spent the entire day asking the second-floor residents for the use of their toilet and water. There are so many of us. They must have grown weary of our requests." Given her connection to Chen Chang, Zhang Li displayed a semblance of patience. "Then let us try the 3rd, 4th, and 5th floors. If we speak politely, they should be less inclined to refuse us." Amidst the crowd, a thin young man suggested, "Why don't we just leave this place? My apartment, along with CCS, is on a higher floor. We can all squeeze in together." Just as the group began to deliberate, Zhang Li erupted in anger. "Are you out of your mind? How many of us can swim? I would rather part with this Armani than stay in your dilapidated abode. Surely residing in a 5-star hotel surpasses your shabby quarters." The gaunt figure bore a burning sensation on his face, akin to having received a resounding slap in front of the crowd. He retreated to the back of the throng, casting a fierce glare at Zhang Li. The 10 or so women present were equally opposed. "I refuse to venture into such filthy waters." One exclaimed, "Indeed. I purchased this dress just yesterday for 1,000 yuan. Another chimed in, "My shoes cost 2,000, and the sales clerk warned me against getting them wet. What if I catch an infection during my menstrual cycle? I am not particularly averse to dirt, but I cannot swim." The atmosphere grew increasingly heavy. At this juncture, CC, mentioned by the gaunt figure, stepped forward. "How about this? Let us select a few gentlemen who can swim to venture out for help. Or perhaps rent a rubber boat, or even a bus. We cannot remain in this corridor indefinitely." After counting, it became apparent that only 3 men in attendance could swim: Zhang Li, the gaunt figure, and a fellow named Luo Feng. However, Zhang Li was unwilling to part with his Armani. The gaunt figure had recently suffered an injury, and Luo Feng had undergone surgery for hemorrhoids just last week. Chen Chang and his girlfriend were indeed capable swimmers, but having seen posts on social media of individuals succumbing in floodwaters, they were wary of risking their lives. With a shared glance, they feigned incompetence in swimming. Observing the situation, the group realized it was yet another futile discussion. Upon returning home, Zhou Chen immediately began inspecting all the bulletproof glass and the steel door secured with 3 locks. This expenditure was indeed worthwhile, especially the formidable door, once locked. It was impervious to any external force. The living room was cluttered with dozens of large cardboard boxes, each meticulously checked, confirming the availability of all necessary medications. The salesperson had proven quite capable, even procuring a half-box of emergency medicine. It was no wonder he had confidently assured Zhou Chen, "Brother, with double the payment. Any medication will be at your disposal." Having invested nearly 60,000 yuan in a genuine fireplace, it was now installed. One unit was embedded in the living room wall, the other in the master bedroom wall, with chimneys extending outside, alleviating any concerns of carbon monoxide poisoning. Simply toss in some firewood, and it was ready for use. With both fireplaces ablaze, even in temperatures plummeting to -70 degrees, They would sufficiently warm the 120 square meter home. After storing the medications, Zhou Chen led his large dog into the bathroom, filling the bathtub with water while bathing the dog. Once the leash was unclipped, he dried its fur, tossed it a bone, and let it outside without a second thought. Stripping off his clothes, Zhou Chen immersed himself in the warm water, blissfully closing his eyes. This brief respite lasted 2 hours until he was roused by a cacophony. Drawing back the curtains, he beheld the ocean surging into the city. The ferocity of the encroaching seawater was overwhelming, swiftly submerging all structures below 10 meters, advancing from east to west, and infiltrating every corner of the city. As several fishing boats surged with the rising tide, they ruthlessly crashed into towering skyscrapers, causing the Pearl Tower to collapse in an instant. Leaving the city of magic bereft of this iconic structure, chaos erupted among the residents, many of whom began to sense that something was amiss. This was no ordinary natural disaster. While fear gripped their hearts, they lamented their lack of stored provisions. There exists a prevailing mindset among the populace. In times of trouble, seek the police. However, they soon discovered that the lines were perpetually busy. Not only could they not reach the police, but every conceivable rescue number was unreachable. Zhou Chen donned a bathrobe and, with a towel in hand to dry his hair, ventured into the kitchen. A sumptuous feast awaited him. Filet mignon paired with eggplant caviar tart, seafood pasta, pan-seared cod with asparagus, creamy mushroom soup, a platter of vegetable lasagna, a fruit salad, and a glass of 1982 Lafite, all set to the soothing strains of a violin piece. As Zhou Chen savored the music and the exquisite meal, he found himself indulging in a moment of sheer pleasure. Suddenly, the persistent ringing of Su Ruo's phone interrupted his reverie. Slicing into a piece of steak, he answered the call with a leisurely demeanor, activating the speakerphone. Zhou Chen, could you let us take refuge at your place? The flood is reaching the 4th floor, and we want to come over. Yes, I'm aware of certain matters, but after all, we are old classmates. Are you prepared for what that entails? What do you mean by prepared? Zhou Chen let out a cold laugh. Crawl to me and grovel. Chapter 10. Kobe beef for the dog. The busy tone echoed from his phone. It was evident that Zhongli had snatched the device and smashed it to pieces. Zhongli had always been this way, sensitive and insecure, perpetually fixated on the possessions of others while desperately clinging to his own. Su Ruo's call at that moment was surely on speaker, right in front of Zhongli. The command to grovel, whether mere humiliation or a genuine suggestion, was intolerable for him. Setting the phone aside, Zhou Chen returned to his culinary delights. As he savored his meal, he couldn't help but notice the dog cowering in the corner. Its neck was adorned with a collar of black fur, and the more he looked, the more familiar it seemed. Could it be? Is this not the watchdog from the lumberyard? Da Huang. Zhou Chen called out tentatively. The dog, huddled in the corner, perked up its ears, displaying confusion, contemplation, caution, and fear. Ultimately, it resignedly crawled from the ground, inching closer with trepidation. Zhou Chen extended his hand to stroke the dog, but suddenly grasped its neck fur, eliciting a sharp bark. The dog bared its teeth in struggle but dared not bark aggressively, only whimpering softly in a plea for mercy. Zhou Chen locked eyes with the animal, his expression icy. The world has changed. If you as Zhou Chen released his grip. The large yellow dog tucked its tail and scurried back to its original corner, wishing it could meld into the wall, its eyes warily fixed upon him. Never mind. The lumber yard was bustling with activity, with people coming and going, some petting and others teasing. One could hardly expect a guard dog to suddenly transform into a ferocious beast, lunging to maul intruders. The intent of bringing it back was merely to provoke that pack of brutes. In truth, Zhou Chen held no lofty expectations for the yellow dog. In reality, during the 3 years of the apocalypse, pets like cats and dogs had been nearly consumed to extinction by survivors, with the few that remained being fierce and aggressive, often banding together to attack humans. If this dog did not change, it would ultimately end up as a mere dish of dog meat. Survival of the fittest. This was true for humans as well as animals. Suddenly, the alert yellow dog perked up its ears. Glancing at its new master, and receiving no signal, it lay still. Zhou Chen, come out. How dare you covet my woman? Zhongli felt a profound insult. What was even more infuriating was that, during the call on speakerphone, everyone had heard Zhou Chen demand his woman to kneel. Zhongli's face burned with humiliation. Though he feared the knife in Zhou Chen's hand, he felt compelled to confront him to salvage his dignity. Climbing from the 4th floor to the 23rd, his anger dissipated into exhaustion. Damn. I knew deep down that you still have feelings for him. What is so special about him? Isn't he just as good looks? Su Ruan, infuriated, exclaimed. Are you foolish? Jealousy, without considering the situation, is absurd. Do you think that just because they call you General Zhang, you are truly an impressive figure? Behind closed doors, they are undoubtedly disparaging us as unfeeling and ungrateful. Can't you control your tongue? Chong and the others pretended to avert their gazes, feigning ignorance. While inwardly they were mocking her incessantly, a young woman stepped forward, visibly impatient. What is going on? I'm exhausted and just want to sleep. If I have to sit in the corridor any longer, I swear I'll explode. Zhang Li, consumed by jealousy, snapped back. What are you going to do? Who do you think you are? If you want to sleep, just go home. The young woman, incensed, turned to leave. Zhang Li, have you lost your mind? Su Ruan was beside herself with anger and hurriedly chased after her in her high heels. Although the young woman was a socialite who frequented bars, she had a relative in industrial firefighting, and Su Ruan had exerted considerable effort to invite her to the gathering. With that outburst, had all her efforts been in vain? If the young woman held a grudge and made things difficult, would the factory even be able to operate? Zhang Li, you are a complete buffoon, more hindrance than help. Realizing his mistake, Zhang Li rushed after her to apologize. Xiaoqing, please don't be angry, let me explain. Once he left, the others naturally followed suit, and an uproar of footsteps filled the stairwell. Upon returning to the 4th floor, the young woman had been momentarily placated. Through the window at the stairwell, they could see the rising floodwaters illuminated by the streetlights, while a group of people anxiously contemplated their predicament. At that moment, Zhou Chen initiated a video call. Zhang Li immediately answered, ready to vent his frustrations at Zhou Chen in front of everyone, desperately seeking to regain some dignity. However, the instant the video connected, his voice seemed to get stuck, and he couldn't utter a word. In the video, Zhou Chen reclined on a plush leather sofa, draped in a clean bathrobe, with a lavish half-eaten feast spread before him. He held a glass of red wine in his left hand and a piece of Kobe beef to feed his dog with his right. Zhang Li couldn't help but swallow hard at the sight. The sound of his gulp echoed as Zhou Chen's languid and magnetic voice reached everyone's ears. Still here? It seems you'll be spending the night in the corridor again. TSK. Zhang Li, Chong. As men, you're failing miserably. How can men allow women to suffer hunger? Alas, I must take a soothing hot bath now. Ladies, if any of you come to your senses, don't forget to message me. Zhou Chen, this isn't over. Chapter 11. Are you not afraid of inviting wolves into your home? After tidying up the kitchen, Zhou Chen lay down on his bed, only to find himself pulled back into the community group chat. The neighborhood committee's matron was reassuring everyone not to panic while urging mutual assistance. Do not be alarmed. Although this flood is severe, it will recede once the rain stops. The flood has risen to the 3rd floor, and the residents on the same level are assisting one another, allowing those from the 1st to the 3rd floors to temporarily stay in their homes, which should only be for a day or two at most. Meanwhile, homeowners whose properties have been inundated should not despair. As long as everyone is safe, we can assess the damages once the waters recede. The neighborhood committee will certainly assist in reporting these losses and strive to help everyone apply for disaster relief. Many residents in the community are facing food shortages. For those with supplies, it would be noble to share a little to support one another during this calamity. Unity is essential in these trying times. However, some homeowners immediately retorted, how can you still speak? The water level was manageable at noon, yet you prevented us from going out to procure supplies. Now we are all left hungry. Another chimed in, exactly. If we had just bought a few bags of dumplings back then, we could have lasted a few days. Damn it, my wife is about to give birth, and we have no fish or meat, just a few greens with no nutritional value. The elderly woman intensified her tone. Good intentions are being met with ingratitude. I was concerned for your safety. While the water was passable, the murkiness posed a risk. What if an accident had occurred? Would you have blamed the neighborhood committee for not warning you? I must caution some individuals against causing further trouble. As I mentioned earlier, let us support one another through this night. I believe that by tomorrow, a substantial amount of supplies will arrive in the community. Given the circumstances, all homeowners realized that complaining is futile. Those without shelter began seeking help in the group chat. Residents without food started asking to borrow provisions. Brothers on the upper floors, could anyone offer a place to stay for the night? If anyone has extra supplies, I'll pay for them. The group chat was soon flooded with messages, rapidly accumulating to 99. Zhou Chen shook his head in resignation. The residents of Magic City are known for their fastidiousness, often regarding overnight food as unhealthy, insisting on fresh meals for every occasion. Few have the habit of stockpiling supplies. Typically, they purchase only what is needed for the day. Even those who heed typhoon warnings and prepare in advance rarely possess food that lasts beyond a week. It's not just tomorrow. Residents may very well be going hungry by tonight. The neighborhood committee member did not forget to call out Zhou Chen. Zhou Chen, I know you live alone. I brought you back to the group to remind you that if anyone seeks a place to stay, I hope you will not turn them away. We are all neighbors in this community. If you don't lend a hand now, don't expect anyone to assist you in the future. Her final words carried an unmistakable tone of personal admonition and veiled threat. Zhou Chen was unperturbed, retorting on the spot, before pointing fingers at others. Perhaps you should lead by example. Everyone knows your children work abroad, and it's just you and your spouse at home. I trust you wouldn't refuse the pleas of affected neighbors from the same building, would you? The elderly woman from Building 10 turned pale. She had just used her spouse's health as an excuse to deny assistance to two households rendered homeless by the flood. This little rascal was clearly intent on confronting her. There is no need for your reminders. Had it not been for my spouse contracting a severe cold that could be contagious, I would have already welcomed all the neighbors from the first to the third floors into my home. How fortuitous. Zhou Chen, weary of engaging with this hypocritical old soul, noted how this individual often exploited their position within the neighborhood committee, having taken advantage of others on numerous occasions. Curious about the discussions within the owners group of Building 21, he glanced at the messages only to find a plea for assistance from Zhang Li. Hello everyone. I am Zhang Li, the owner of Unit 101. Is there anyone who could offer a place to stay? It would be ideal if you have some spare food. We haven't eaten for an entire day. Apologies. I have just agreed to help the owner of Unit 102, came a response. I promised the owner on the second floor. Zhang Li from Unit 101. Was it your residence that hosted a gathering last night? With so many guests, where would you accommodate them? Apologies, my friend, but with your large group, my home lacks sufficient provisions to assist. Zhang Li waited in vain as no one offered their support. I understand we are a large group, and I do not wish for anyone to assist us without compensation. How does 3,000 for one night sound? Meals will be paid separately, and we will leave once the rescue team arrives tomorrow. How absurd. Does anyone here truly require your 3,000? Still, no one was willing to help. Zhang Li had no choice but to increase his offer. 6,000, please lend us assistance. While we can manage, we have several ladies in our group and would be grateful for a living room where we could lay down some bedding. 6,000? With so many of you, it will turn the house into chaos. Perhaps it's best to reconsider. Despite Zhang Li's many pleas, he received no response. At that moment, everyone remained crammed in the hallway on the fourth floor, their gazes fixed upon him. He could sense the discontent brewing among Chen Chong and the others. If he could not resolve such a trivial matter, it would undoubtedly tarnish his reputation as a leader. With gritted teeth, Zhang Li was compelled to further raise the stakes. 15,000. Meals will be calculated per person, 500 each, and we will accept whatever is available, even just a bowl of eggs. With such a substantial offer, he hoped to entice someone to respond. 15,000, just for one night? Yes, I can transfer the funds to you immediately. Once you receive it, we will come upstairs. Zhang Li exhaled in relief while hastily replying, all the while cursing the silent owners for their lack of assistance. Zhou Chen observed that the individual speaking was a tenant from Unit 602, a single woman working for a foreign enterprise, who appeared quite attractive. He was not well acquainted with her. In his previous life, when he was driven out by his aunt's family and forced to fend for himself, she was still alive. Those who survive in extreme conditions are never simple beings. Zhang Li and his group had been lured to this situation. Their numbers were considerable, and as they realized the impending doom, they would inevitably become the most formidable faction in Building 21, capable of any misdeed. Zhou Chen felt a sense of responsibility to issue a warning. Miss, there are nearly 30 of them, with a significant portion being men. Are you not concerned about inviting wolves into your home? Who knows whether the rescue team will arrive tomorrow? Who knows when the flood will recede? Spending money for one day is one thing, but would one be willing to spend for 3, 4, or even 10 to 15 days? At that point, would one have the capacity to drive others away alone? Both parties were on the brink of reaching an agreement when Zhang Li was seething with rage, wishing he could unearth Zhou Chen's ancestral grave. Miss, do not heed his nonsensical ramblings. He harbors personal grudges against me and is deliberately causing me trouble. Among so many homeowners in the group, how could I, a factory owner, afford to be untrustworthy? How could I conduct business in the future? Moreover, we now live in a society ruled by law. If I truly default on payment, after the flood recedes, you are entirely within your rights to report me. Zhou Chen's words had some effect, as the woman from Unit 602 indicated that she needed to consider further. Just then, Zhang Li sent another message. Miss, I will pay as promised. My girlfriend has a rare item, a fragrant grandmother, which she bought only half a month ago and is worth several tens of thousands. It is undoubtedly genuine. As long as you are willing to assist, this bag will be yours. The previously silent owner from Unit 602 replied with a message. May I first inspect the goods? Upon reading this, Zhou Chen felt utterly disinclined to respond. Just as he was about to toss his phone aside and sleep, the group chat erupted with voice messages. Brothers from Unit 101, it must be inconvenient for so many of you to be cramped together. Thus, I can offer a bedroom and a living room in my home for 10,000. You can use hot water freely. We have eggs and noodles. It would be 300 per person. How does that sound? Unit 1101, you can come up right now. I will prepare eggs and noodles for everyone. Zhou Chen couldn't help but scoff. Another invitation for trouble. His aunt had always been money-hungry. As a chronic gambler, earning over 10,000 for a single night of lodging was an opportunity she could hardly resist. Moreover, the house was rented, to begin with. However, her family's intention in renting was to pressure him into providing funds for his cousin's wedding house, leaving them short on winter clothing. Once the bitter cold arrived in a few days, would they not be frozen like dogs? Perhaps a bit of food could sustain them for a few more days. Enough to gather strength to venture out and scavenge for supplies to take home. Yet, now, for a pittance, they were selling off their food. A band of beasts and a family of scoundrels. There would surely be a spectacle to witness. But there was an even greater possibility. They might conspire against him together. Chapter 12. The city beneath the water. Zhou Chen awoke at 5 in the morning, with the world enveloped in the relentless sound of pouring rain. Through the window, he observed that the water level in the community continued to rise, with the fourth-floor units already half submerged. Many residents had been awake throughout the night, inundating the group chat with complaints. After a simple breakfast, Zhou Chen retrieved dog food and a bowl from his storage, ensuring that De Huang had enough provisions for the day before promptly changing his clothes and heading out. He had set his sights on a few fishing boats that had been swept in by the sea the previous day, intending to venture out in the rain to investigate. Hoping to acquire one, he ascended the stairs to the fourth floor, took out the inflatable boat, inflated it to 80%, and gently set it into the water to row. Above, someone witnessed the scene and mistakenly believed that a rescue team had arrived, shouting from the window down below. Amid the torrential downpour, the individuals strained their voice to the point of hoarseness, yet the occupants of the rubber boat remained oblivious to the commotion. Residents, hearing the noise, leaned out of their windows, fervently waving their hands. Were they not members of the rescue team? Were they the homeowners of the community? How astonishing that a rubber boat would be present. Brother, are you going out to procure supplies? Take me with you. Brother, could you bring back some provisions? Ideally, fish and meat. I'll pay you. Brother, could you inquire at the nearby police station if they can send supplies to the community today? Zhou Chen paddled through the floating debris of wood and branches, pretending not to hear. With the water level reaching depths of over 10 meters, where could he possibly go to ask? Best to have fish and meat? In a few days, if he could manage a bowl of congee, he would consider himself fortunate. Not far from his departure, Zhou Chen quickly found a corner to change into a speedboat. With the speed of 50 kilometers per hour, he swiftly headed towards the eastern bank of the river. Along the way, numerous residents trapped in the upper floors waved frantically, seeking his assistance. Zhou Chen encountered a rescue team, their members engaged in the grim task of retrieving bodies. The small rubber boat was laden with no less than 10 corpses, and the team hesitated to continue, as further efforts would leave them with no space to sit amidst the floodwaters. The encroaching seawater had transformed the city of Mo into an aquatic metropolis, submerging all the historical buildings from the Republican era. The once accessible roads had become a labyrinth of waterways, where, aside from various floating debris, the bodies of both people and animals drifted. As Zhou Chen passed by, water rats circling the corpses chirped and hastily dove beneath the surface. Upon reaching the Jiangdong New District, only the upper half of the Pearl Tower remained visible, housing hundreds of survivors. These individuals were greatly distressed, crying out and yearning to return home. Near the tower, police officers and members of the Blue Sky Rescue Team were present. Zhou Chen surveyed the surroundings, his gaze drawn to a fishing boat wedged between two buildings, 2 kilometers distant. Just as he was about to turn around, he heard someone calling out to him from behind. Brother, wait. A figure stood amidst the watery ruins, beckoning him. Clad in the uniform of the Blue Sky Rescue Team, the person appeared to be in their 40s. From over 30 meters away, Zhou Chen instantly recognized him. Chen Jinghua, the captain of the first team of the Blue Sky Rescue Team. In his previous life, this man had saved him. It had been the second year of the apocalypse when he nearly starved on his way to Ha City. It was this very individual who had rescued him. Since the onset of the natural disaster, Chen Jinghua had tirelessly devoted himself to rescue efforts, enduring the loss of his parents and children in the frigid cold. After the earthquake, the entire city fell into ruin, yet Chen Jinghua and his team never relinquished their rescue efforts. Throughout this arduous journey, one by one, his comrades tragically perished, leaving him as the sole survivor. Fleeing to Ha City, Chen Jinghua resolutely joined the local rescue team, dedicating every moment to saving survivors. When exhaustion overwhelmed him, he would find a corner to rest briefly before plunging back into his vital work. Zhou Chen had accompanied him as a rescue worker for a time. Sharing a common bond as residents of the devastated city, Chen Jinghua took special care of him. At that time, Chen Jinghua was remarkably thin, his eyes reflecting both the weariness of experience and a glimmer of hope. However, just 2 months into his service, he succumbed to illness. The rescue team's doctor revealed that Chen had long been aware of his late-stage stomach cancer. In the absence of medical care, he refused to languish in bed, choosing instead to make the most of his dwindling days in pursuit of meaningful contributions. This was one of the rare glimpses of humanity Zhou Chen witnessed in the 3 tumultuous years of the apocalypse. Zhou Chen gradually approached, halting 5 meters away from the ruins. A heavy expression crossed Chen Jingguo's face as he managed a faint smile. Brother, these are extraordinary times. The city is in dire need of rescue equipment. I would like to request your speedboat on behalf of the organization. It's not mandatory, but would you mind? It's inconvenient. Zhou Chen replied, gesturing vaguely behind him. I believe I spotted a speedboat over there. I'm unsure if it's still operational. Allow me to check. Is there a speedboat over there? Chen Jingguo inquired, aware that all watercraft in the city had been commandeered by various rescue teams, possibly washed ashore by the tides. Thank you, brother. If you could check it out, and, if it's usable, help bring it back here, it would be immensely helpful. The flooding has devastated much of the supplies, and every boat lost is a significant setback. Zhou Chen turned sharply, sending a spray of water in his wake. Upon reaching an isolated spot, he retrieved a speedboat from his supplies, filling the tank with diesel before returning with it in tow. Chen Jingguo, who had been discussing rescue strategies with his team, was taken aback when the young man actually returned with a brand new speedboat. Zhou Chen tossed the rope into Chen Jingguo's hands, stating, I took a quick look. It appears to be brand new. I hope it has fuel, as I need this one for myself. Chen Jingguo was elated. I cannot thank you enough. I was too hasty earlier. You've provided a tremendous service. Please be cautious. Debris is scattered everywhere on the water. Observing Zhou Chen's dark skin, rough hands, and the lines etched on his face, Chen Jingguo felt compelled to speak. Captain Chen, I have a suggestion. What suggestion? Don't rush to save everyone. It's impossible to save them all. To help more people, it would be prudent to concentrate efforts on gathering supplies for the winter. Gathering winter supplies? Why prepare for winter in the sweltering heat of summer? Zhou Chen had already walked away, leaving Chen Jingguo in contemplation. Wait, how did he know my surname is Chen? Zhou Chen approached the fishing boat, only to discover that it had split in two at its midsection, leaving him uncertain of its repairability, though he possessed no skills in that regard. He navigated the surrounding waters throughout the morning, locating 4 additional fishing boats, each bearing damage, yet none as severe as the first. He meticulously noted their positions, planning to return after dusk to salvage them. Numerous supplies floated upon the river's surface, carried further away by the current, likely originating from nearby shopping centers. Zhou Chen retrieved a hook-like tool from his space, pursuing these supplies and deftly snagging them one by one. The first item he salvaged was an opulent mattress, valued at 2 to 3 million, reputedly a favorite of a certain female celebrity. Chapter 13, The Frigid Invasion. Where drops freeze to ice, a torrential downpour lasted an entire week, causing the water level in the city to rise by 3 meters. During this time, Zhou Chen tirelessly collected supplies. For the first 3 days, he scoured the riverbank day and night, initially cautious and selective, discreetly tossing items into his space whenever no one was around. As night fell, his demeanor transformed into one of unrestrained frenzy, hurling an astonishing quantity of floating logs into his space, over 100 tons. At first, he reveled in his endeavors, with official, military, and civilian rescue teams passing by, turning a blind eye to his actions. After all, the organizations were overwhelmed with their own responsibilities, rather than allowing valuable supplies to be swept away by the flood. It seemed more prudent to support this enterprising young man. In a city grappling with disaster, many citizens were already facing hunger. With his relentless spirit, Zhou Chen might soon find himself supporting an entire building, or even a community. If Zhou Chen were aware of their sentiments, he would surely express gratitude for their regard. But he would also insist they were overestimating him. On the evening of the 3rd day, a rubber raft drew near, and a man claiming to be a district chief approached Zhou Chen. He inquired about the residential community to which Zhou Chen belonged and the current supply situation there. Ultimately, he revealed his purpose, representing an organization that wished for Zhou Chen to distribute the salvaged goods to several communities in dire need of food. As a contributor to the nation, the organization promised to award him a certificate of honor and a banner of commendation. But these matters could only be addressed after the floods receded. Under the rain's veil, Zhou Chen sat on the unstable inflatable boat, pulling the hood of his raincoat low to obscure most of his face. He remained silent, hastily presenting several salvaged blankets, boxes of canned beef, and crates of liquor to the man. In the next moment, he revved the engine to its maximum and sped away. The district chief, still lamenting the merciless flood, was splashed by the wave Zhou Chen left in his wake. Comrade, we do not seek to confiscate your hard-earned supplies. We merely request your assistance. From that moment onward, Zhou Chen dared not linger by the river's edge. For the next 4 days, he roamed various districts, employing the diving equipment he had salvaged to plunge into the depths and fervently gather more supplies. When fatigue sets in, one emerges from the depths to seek a secluded corner to rest, replenishing energy with a morsel before promptly submerging once more. In truth, this method of resource gathering is exponentially more efficient than any effort along the riverbank. Hundreds of tons of metal components, including gold, silver, copper, iron, and tin, have been amassed. The variety of screws is so bewildering that distinguishing one from another becomes a daunting task. With over 1,000 machines, ordinary, precision, and high precision, collected indiscriminately, whether they may be of use or not, they are taken upon sight. Automotive parts from Bosch, Siemens, Denso, Continental, Visteon, Eisen, and others have accumulated to the extent of filling a football field. Most of these metals have either never been submerged or have been sealed, ensuring that their quality remains virtually unaffected. As the extreme cold approaches, a 3-month span of frigid temperatures looms, with ice encasing depths of over 10 meters, solid and impenetrable. Any recovery or excavation will become immensely challenging. Containers scattered from the dock, regardless of their contents, are collected without hesitation. An excavator, dismantling illegal structures atop a roof, is also taken away. Dozens of pharmacies have been breached, their doors pried open one by one. Having endured 3 years of survival in a post-apocalyptic world, he has developed an insatiable hunger for resources, leading him to seize every opportunity to stockpile, even though he possesses enough supplies to last several lifetimes. Yet, the urge to hoard remains uncontrollable. As long as he can gather, he will relentlessly do so. Zhou Chen is caught in a whirlwind of activity, dismissing the incessant chatter of the group chat that bombards him day and night. It is easy to anticipate the complaints and discussions that fill the air. Following a super typhoon, torrential rains continue to pour for a week. Water levels rise, and the number of disaster victims increases. Yet only those whose homes have collapsed or who are injured are taken in batches to temporary relief points. This is a global catastrophe of unprecedented flooding. And despite the organization's efforts, they are stretched thin. They cannot possess the strength of multiple beings, making it impossible to complete all rescue operations swiftly. Television and online platforms display the same host every hour, offering repetitive reassurances to the afflicted, urging them to remain calm and support one another in unity to overcome this crisis. Numerous esteemed experts take the stage, eloquently articulating analyses, judgments, and conclusions regarding the catastrophic flood, ultimately assuring the nation that the deluge will soon ease. With forecasts of reduced rainfall in the coming days and the hope of clear skies on the horizon, a week has passed, and residents trapped in their homes find themselves either on the brink of running out of supplies or already enduring hunger. The words of the experts are met with skepticism by the populace, yet a glimmer of hope persists. A few days prior, during a moment of respite, Zhou Chen glanced at his phone. The community group chats and social media were filled with cries of despair. A single pack of instant noodles was being offered at a price of 100 yuan, yet no one was willing to sell, even at that exorbitant rate. The community committee members naturally became the targets of scorn among all the residents. At this juncture, some recalled the initial warning from Zhou Chen. Curse it! Had I foreseen the impending hunger, I would have insisted on venturing out that day to stock up on supplies. To the brother surnamed Zhou, I must admit, I misjudged you. I sincerely apologize. Brother Zhou Chen, I owe you an apology as well. I should not have berated you that day. Do you still have any food at home? Perhaps you could part with some for me. We live in the same building, do we not? The consumption of your supplies should not be so rapid. So in these trying times, do not be stingy. Lend a hand to everyone. Of course, Zhou Chen chose to ignore such pleas. He took special note of Zhang Li and his companions, who were, as expected, enduring a most miserable existence. This group of ruffians divided into 2 factions, with Zhang Li leading Qinchang and others into apartment 602, while the lanky monkey and Luo Feng commandeered unit 1101. The female tenant of 602, along with her aunt's household, had barely stocked up on provisions, and within 3 meals, their supplies were entirely consumed by this band of gluttons. Inviting the gods is easy, but sending them away is another matter entirely. A week passed, and this group neither paid for their stay nor showed any inclination to leave. For days prior, the aunt had begun frantically calling him for essential supplies. Even those old classmates of the ruffians begrudgingly lowered their pride to request purchasing provisions from him. Zhou Chen simply turned off his phone. Who on earth had the time to indulge you? As night fell and the bitter cold approached, Zhou Chen seized the moment to salvage the last box of supplies, promptly launching his inflatable boat towards the Sakura community. Upon returning home, he found the once robust yellow dog had lost considerable weight, huddled in a corner. The fruits, biscuits, and snacks on the table had been devoured by this creature. Noticing the dog had refrained from making a mess, Zhou Chen sheathed his knife and retrieved a large bone from his storage, tossing it over. The yellow dog's eyes glimmered with eagerness as it pounced upon the treat. Zhou Chen took a hot shower and spent an hour cleaning. Before sleep, He opened the window to enjoy the rain for a while. Half dreaming, he was roused by the biting cold. His awareness was still hazy when he heard the anxious barking of the yellow dog. Sitting up in bed, he immediately felt the bone-chilling cold. The dog was desperately scratching at the door. The cold wave infiltrated the building effortlessly, making the air feel as sharp as a blade. He donned his thermal attire, layered with cotton pajamas, and finally wrapped himself in a substantial robe before shuffling to the door. The moment he opened it, the trembling yellow dog clung to his long leg, exhaling a cloud of mist as it barked. Zhou Chen hastily retrieved a stack of firewood from his storage, tossing it into the fireplaces of both the bedroom and living room. With the aid of alcohol, roaring flames erupted instantly. Survival is an animal's instinct. The yellow dog promptly leaped onto the sofa, seized a cushion, and hurried to the fireplace for warmth. Zhou Chen dragged a single chair over to the living room fireplace, poured himself a glass of red wine, and settled into the chair while browsing his phone. Old Sun called, his teeth chattering from the cold. Little Zhou, awaken. Quickly. Put on your warm clothing. Above all, do not succumb to slumber. The weather is exceedingly treacherous. It is currently a frigid -30 degrees outside. Old Sun is also hastening to rouse the others, and after a brief exchange, they conclude their conversation. Zhou Chen believes himself to be resolute. Yet the fact that Old Sun thought of him in that moment stirs a flicker of emotion within. At -30 degrees, water freezes instantly. The sudden shift of over 50 degrees in temperature has left many unprepared. However, the temperature continues to plummet by the minute, and by dawn, it is predicted to reach a staggering -70 degrees. A world of ice, frost in August. This extreme cold has led to billions of people around the globe perishing from the cold. Chapter 14. Living worse than a dog suddenly. A heavy snowfall blankets the entire city. Initially, the snowflakes are small and dense, transforming into large flakes resembling goose feathers within minutes. After half an hour, a thick layer of snow accumulates on trees, rooftops, and balconies. Even through tightly sealed doors and windows, the mournful howling of the wind can be heard. The blizzard obscures visibility. In no time, the residents of the entire neighborhood are awakened by the cold or by someone calling them. Lights begin to flicker on in household after household, as everyone scrambles to find their winter attire. However, this is the southern region, where the coldest winters typically reach only -10 degrees. Households are equipped with only thin down jackets, utterly inadequate against the biting cold of -30 degrees. People don layers of thermal wear, several sweaters, and velvet coats, fastening scarves and donning multiple pairs of socks, yet still feel the chill. The cold, bone-chilling cold. Some fashion enthusiasts find themselves with only cashmere coats, lacking even a thin-down jacket or a single thermal garment. They can only wrap themselves in every sweater available. Huddled in bed, too fearful to step onto the floor. The most unfortunate are Zhang Li and his companions, along with Zhou Lily's family. Zhang Li, along with a dozen others, resides in apartment 602, where the scant offerings of women's clothing barely suffice for two. The rest can only huddle in bed, trembling together. The lean monkeys residing in 1101 rummage through their cupboards, only to discover that this family possesses neither a thermal shirt nor a thick blanket, similarly huddled together for warmth. Zhou Lily's family, having welcomed these opportunists into their home, now deeply regret their decision. After merely 2 days of paying for their accommodations, these individuals have overstayed their welcome, with the rescue team failing to arrive, rendering them unable to evict the intruders. The scant provisions, sufficient for a family of 4 to last a week, have been devoured in just 2 days, leaving not a grain of rice behind. Among them, one is a pregnant woman who has gone several days without food, relying solely on water to stave off hunger. Their previous concerns about starvation have now been compounded by the sudden drop in temperature, as they must also fret over the possibility of these intruders seizing their only 2 air conditioning blankets. They drag the wardrobe to the door, effectively barricading the entrance to the room. In this moment, they disregarded any concerns about discretion, layering 2 thin air conditioning blankets atop one another for individuals huddled together, shivering. What sort of wretched weather is this? It's freezing. Dad, do you think those scoundrels will come to steal our blankets? Honey, I am truly famished. Mom, what should we do about Xiao Yun's hunger? Zhou Lily, with her head buried in the blankets, gritted her teeth and extended a hand out into the cold air, her fingers stiff and trembling, struggling several times before finally grasping her phone. They must have Zhou Chen, that little rascal, bring down winter clothes and food. No. Even if he were willing to bring those items down, could we ensure their safety? What then? Let us call him and inform him that we'll be staying at his place. Yes, he lives alone and has plenty of spare rooms. Plus he has lived in that house for over a decade, undoubtedly possessing many winter garments. In a frantic attempt, she dialed the number, only to remember that their phones had all been blocked. The wardrobe creaked open, and the door slowly parted. The group of thin monkeys, huddled on the living room sofa, nearly frozen to death, gazed at the family of four swathed in blankets, their faces betraying gluttonous expressions. Zhou Lily's heart raced, trembling not just from the cold, but from fear. Don't do anything rash. We're going upstairs to gather supplies. The thin monkeys, having moved in the same day, were aware that this family's matriarch was Zhou Chen's aunt. They had followed Zhou Chen for years and were well acquainted with the tales of his gambling aunt. One party had betrayed Zhou Chen for money, while the other had swindled him and sought to pressure him into buying a house. Their mutual disdain was palpable. As they exchanged disparaging remarks about Zhou Chen, their camaraderie evident. Were it not for the issues of debts and hunger that arose on the third day, they would have never come into conflict, and several times they nearly came to blows. Now, in the biting cold, the stronger faction sought to seize the blankets, while the weaker party had no means to resist. The thin monkey was particularly agitated. Did Zhou Chen agree to provide you with supplies? Zhou Lily shook her head. Our phones have all been blocked. We plan to go upstairs to find him. After all, I am his aunt, his late father's sister. Rest assured, once we secure the supplies, we will certainly share half with you. This was the plan they had concocted while nestled under the blankets. Without resorting to deception, they would likely never escape the confines of this place, and even the scant 2 air-conditioning blankets they possessed would be seized. They were, after all, gamblers and scoundrels, inherently more attuned to human nature than the average person. As long as they could step outside, as long as they could manipulate their way through Zhou Chen's front door, they would not return. No matter how abundant the supplies at Zhou Chen's home, they could not be foolish enough to share with so many, who knew when the rescue team would arrive. Ensuring their own sustenance was paramount. The thin monkey called over Luo Feng and another man, the three of them tightly wrapped in a single blanket. We're going together. Zhou Lily's family was naturally unwilling. You want to go too? It's freezing outside. You should wait at home. We will definitely return. Stop wasting time. If so many of us go together, what if he refuses to provide supplies? Either we all go, or you leave 2 behind. The incorrigible gambler dares to be clever with the old man. Thus, 2 groups formed hastily, each wrapped tightly in blankets like 2 wriggling fat worms, braving the biting cold wind as they ascended the stairs. Meanwhile, downstairs, Zhongli was shamelessly asking Zhou Chen for supplies. I won't take it for free. I can pay. Just name your price. You must have winter clothes, and surely you can spare a few thick blankets? And what about food? Instant noodles, bread, noodles, or buns will do. You can't possibly say that you have none of these essentials at home. Before the fireplace, a roaring blaze held a frying pan, a clay pot, and a grill. The frying pan sizzled with 2 steaks, the clay pot simmered with a whole black chicken, and the grill was adorned with skewers of lamb, beef, fish, shrimp, meatballs, and an assortment of vegetables. Zhou Chen snapped a photograph and sent it. The instant noodles you mentioned, I truly don't have at home. Zhongli, curled up in his blanket, widened his eyes and couldn't help but swallow hard. After 5 days of drinking only water, he was so hungry that he felt dizzy, staring blankly at the delicious food in the photo, wishing he could dive into the image and feast. In a bid to share warmth, they moved the sofas from the living room into the bedroom, pushing them together. A dozen people huddled closely. Upon seeing Zhou Chen's photo, each person could not help but swallow again. Mr. Zhang, hurry and tell him to send down the food. We can go up to get it ourselves. Yes, it's better to go up and grab some food, along with clothes and blankets. Ah, he has a fireplace. That's wonderful. We could stay at his place. Mr. Zhang, quickly inform him that we are coming up now. Zhang Li's expression turned unnatural. Do you think he will let us in? At this, everyone fell silent. Just a moment ago, they had been blinded by the allure of the food in the photo, forgetting the deeds they had done to Zhou Chen. Only Yang Sitian from room 602 and the young girl looked bewildered. The girl, looking anxious, asked, what exactly happened between you and Zhou Chen? No matter how great the conflict, he wouldn't just abandon you, would he? Silence enveloped the group. Conflict? If only it were merely that. Given Zhou Chen's character, even if there were some disagreement, he would have forgotten it in a heartbeat. Zhongli wished to keep his less than honorable side hidden from outsiders. He continued messaging Zhou Chen, driven by the tantalizing prospect of food. Zhou Chen, I know you harbor grievances, but we are not deserving of such a fate. We are truly on the brink of starvation and freezing to death. You cannot just stand by and watch us perish. In the next moment, he received another photograph. In it, a slender, fair hand held a piece of steak, feeding a dog. Zhang Li's face turned green with rage. Damn it, feeding high-end steak to a dog. Almost immediately, he received a third photograph. In the photograph, there lies the same large yellow dog, with a sizable dog bowl placed before it. The bowl is overflowing with steaming food, succulent chicken legs, tender and crispy skewers of meat, and an array of grilled vegetables. A group of people stands nearby, filled with both anger and urgency, their eyes glistening with hunger as they swallow hard. So much meat. Why do we live in a state worse than that of a dog? Zhou Chen sent a voice message. Alas, my food supply is scant. And I must also feed a dog. With so many mouths to feed, I truly find myself at a loss. Chapter 15. Let death come elsewhere at last. They reached the 23rd floor. Zhou Lily's family of 4 and the 3 slender monkeys were on the verge of tears. The ascent from the 11th to the 23rd floor, which should have taken only a few minutes, had taken them a full hour, an hour of sheer torment, where every minute felt like an eternity. The frigid wind penetrated every layer, slicing against their faces and feet like a knife against flesh. They huddled beneath their blankets, leaving only their eyes exposed, which made moving about quite cumbersome. Each step they took was met with the walls on either side, resulting in numerous bruises. They stumbled several times, their bodies meeting the icy floor, leaving them crying out in despair. Countless times they contemplated turning back, but that was not an option. Returning meant facing a slow death by freezing or starvation. Upon sighting Zhou Chen's front door, their eyes brimmed with excitement. They yearned to enter immediately, don warm winter clothing, leap onto the bed, wrap themselves in thick blankets, and persuade Zhou Chen to prepare a feast. Even a simple pot of instant noodles would suffice. The thought of steaming noodles cradled in their hands was comforting, and the taste would surely be divine. They were starving. On their way, they devised a plan. Zhou Lily's family would knock on Zhou Chen's door while the 3 slender monkeys would hide nearby. Should Zhou Chen dare to open the door, they would rush in en masse, overwhelming him. Could he truly expel all 7 of them? If he were wise, he would readily provide them with winter clothing and delicious food. Should he choose not to comply, they would ensure he had a rather unpleasant encounter once they regained their composure. With hearts racing, Zhou Lily's family approached Zhou Chen's door with stiff, careful steps. The slender monkeys crept closely behind, pressing against the wall, seeking refuge in a blind spot where they could not be seen through the peephole. Clad in short sleeves and shorts, they found their thin air conditioning blanket utterly inadequate. The moment they pressed against the wall, they nearly jumped from the cold. The slender monkey signaled for Zhou Lily to knock. She nodded, her hands hidden beneath the blanket, gesturing wildly to her husband and son. The intimate family, well attuned to each other, understood her intentions perfectly. The moment Zhou Chen opened the door, they would surge in, swiftly closing the door behind them, leaving those 3 nuisances outside. Damn it, they had always been the ones to con and mooch off others, neglecting their debts. How dare these pests impose upon them? To speak without integrity is truly disgraceful. Not only have they failed to pay for their accommodation, but they have also consumed all the food in the house. Now, they dare to seize their blankets and wish to share in the resources of Zhou Chen's family. Such audacity is laughable. All the provisions in Zhou Chen's home belong solely to him. Urged by the emaciated monkey, Zhou Lily trembled as she extended a finger to press the doorbell. After a half-minute, sounds emanated from within, footsteps approaching the front door. The group, unable to contain their breath, stood ready to rush inside at a moment's notice. Yet, the door did not open as they had hoped. Zhou Chen's voice came through the door. Who is it? Though disappointment washed over them, the sound of Zhou Chen's voice stirred excitement, particularly for Zhou Lily's family. The 4 of them, related to Zhou Chen, believed that despite their prior unpleasantness, Zhou Chen's kind-hearted nature would prevent him from watching them perish from hunger or cold. Zhou Chen, it's me, your aunt. We have something to discuss. Could you please open the door and let us in? No. If you have something to say, then speak quickly. This unfeeling rejection heightened the anxiety not only of the 3 hidden in the corner, but also of Zhou Lily's family, their hands tightly clasped beneath the blankets. If Zhou Chen refused to assist them, they truly would starve. No, before succumbing to hunger, they would freeze to death. Zhou Lily urgently called out, Zhou Chen, please open the door. We haven't eaten anything for several days, and there isn't a single warm garment in our rental. Please, let us borrow some winter clothes and a bit of food. Thanks to the warmth from the 2 large fireplaces, the chill had been significantly diminished, bringing the indoor temperature back to around 10 degrees Celsius. With the enhancement of the thermal clothing, Zhou Chen felt less cold. At this moment, he had even removed his thick robe, leaving the buttons of his blue quilted pajamas undone. Leaning against the wall, he held a steaming chicken leg in his left hand and his phone in his right, snapping a close-up photo of the chicken leg to send to someone via WeChat before addressing those blocking the door. I need the winter clothing for myself, and I do not have enough food for my own needs. It is impossible for me to share my resources with you. These words sent chills down the spines of those outside. An agitated Zhou Lily instinctively lashed out. You heartless little brat. I am your own aunt. What is wrong with asking you for some supplies? Just like your deceased parents, you act as if giving something away is akin to cutting off a piece of flesh. Everyone was taken aback, their faces etched with anxiety and anger. Are you out of your mind? If it weren't for the desire to remain inconspicuous, the emaciated monkey would have charged forward to slap that old woman. At a time when one should be pleading, she resorted to insults, even disrespecting Zhou Chen's deceased parents. Was she intent on offending him to ensure they were turned away? Indeed, Zhou Chen's voice echoed from within, cold and laced with palpable hostility, even through the door. When my parents were alive, did they not provide you with sufficient financial support? Was it not their money that sustained you too when gambling left you both unable to afford meals? Could you not pay your son's tuition without their assistance? When you and your spouse borrowed from loan sharks for gambling and were on the brink of losing a hand, was it not my father who personally withdrew money from the bank to rescue you? My parents helped you considerably while they were alive. It may not concern you to remember their kindness, but your incessant verbal barbs are unwarranted. Your plight is of your own making. As the young brat exposed your sordid history, Zhou Lily instinctively prepared to unleash a torrent of curses, only to be restrained by her husband's timely intervention. Her countenance became exceedingly grim as she contemplated her family's current predicament, forcing her to swallow her indignation for the moment. Humph, that little brat truly lacks respect. Raised without proper manners after losing his parents at such a tender age. Just wait until I storm into your home and seize the supplies. I will rain down scorn upon you. Zhou Chen, it was an error on my part earlier. I have always been in the wrong. I have long cherished the goodness of your parents in my heart. Were it not for them, your uncle and I would have long since suffered grievous consequences from our debts. Your cousin would not have had the opportunity to pursue his education. I am well aware of all this and have kept it close to my heart. Truly, Zhou Chen, I know our relationship has been strained over the years. And you may believe I am fixated on your finances, but you are mistaken. I am indeed your true aunt. How could I wish you harm? My requests for money stem from a desire to help you save. I worry that you are too young and spendthrift, should you squander your inheritance. How could I face your parents in the afterlife? Laughter emanated from Zhou Chen within the room. So, I should be grateful to you? Zhou Lily recognized that her words would not deceive Zhou Chen. She could only muster the courage to continue fabricating her tale. Zhou Chen, I assure you, I have not deceived you. It is good that we have laid everything bare today. I promise I will never again ask you for a single cent, Zhou Chen. Please open the door. We are still kin, after all. For the sake of your father, you cannot disregard our lives. Zhou Chen, I implore you. Your cousin has always been in poor health, and your cousin's wife is heavily pregnant. If this continues, it will surely lead to calamity. Must I kneel before you to gain entry? I acknowledge my past mistakes. Your father was my only elder brother, and his passing has left me in deep sorrow. If only he were still alive. Zhou Chen, leaning against the wall engrossed in his phone, could not help but scoff. Can the words of a degenerate gambler be trusted? In my previous life, I witnessed the true faces of this family. Their hearts were as ruthless as their actions when it came to seizing property and resources. An aunt's blade struck his arm. An uncle's club landed upon his back. A cousin's knife aimed for his belly. That pitiful pregnant woman almost cleaved his skull with a kitchen knife. Had it not been for his quick reflexes, he might have perished at his own doorstep. Zhou Chen replied in a nonchalant manner, I shall consider it. Zhou Lily was filled with indignation. What was there left to deliberate? Couldn't he simply open the door and allow them inside? Just as she was about to speak, she heard Zhou Chen's voice. How about this? You all return for now, and in light of my father's kindness, I'll provide you with a small amount of supplies. Return? What nonsense. Zhou Lily was exceedingly anxious. It's freezing out here. Just open the door and let us warm up for a moment. We'll don our winter clothes and take the supplies before leaving. You must trust us. Zhou Chen flatly refused. Either return now and wait while I gather some supplies to bring down, or you'll have nothing. Just stand at the door and wait. After saying this, Zhou Chen returned to the living room, reclining comfortably on the sofa. Supplies? He wouldn't even part with a single pack of instant noodles. Get lost. If you're going to die, do it elsewhere. If you freeze to death at my doorstep, I'll have to deal with it. What a hassle. Chapter 16. No resolution. Seeing Zhou Chen's unwillingness to open the door, Zhou Lily's family found themselves at an impasse, unable to decide whether to stay or leave. As the initiative rested solely with Zhou Chen. Nearby, the lanky monkey and his two companions could no longer contain themselves. They tiptoed to the door, pushing Zhou Lily's family behind them. Zhou Gu, it's me, the monkey, Luo Feng, and Xiao Shun. Is there something we can discuss? Zhou Chen, too lethargic to even shift his position, languidly responded from the sofa. The living room was somewhat distant from the door, but with careful listening, they could still hear him. Encouraged by his companions, the lanky monkey took a deep breath and summoned his courage to speak. Zhou Gu, I implore you to open the door. We're on the brink of freezing to death. We haven't eaten in 5 days. Please, we beg you for some food. 5 days without food. Yes. The 10 of us didn't stay with Zhang Li and the others. We temporarily took shelter at your aunt's house, but her supplies were scant. After 2 days together, we ran out of food. TSK, how pitiful to have gone so long without nourishment. If you feel pity for us, then for heaven's sake, open the door. The lanky monkey, steeling himself, continued. Zhou Gu, I know you're still angry with us, but we had no part in the factory incident. We only learned about it at the last moment. It was Zhang Li, yes, Zhang Li and Su Ruan who conspired with Chun Chang to harm you. Zhou Chen replied. I hadn't even begun to drop hints, and you've taken the initiative. The lanky monkey's two companions were taken aback. Why would you say such a thing? Faced with his companion's skepticism, the lanky monkey could only desperately gesture. Forget about that. Let us just get the door open first. Do you really want to freeze or starve to death out here? Do you think that by saying a few flattering words, Zhou Chen will simply open the door? What does he truly desire? Are you unaware? If tension is hardly our progenitor. However, we must refrain from such actions unless absolutely necessary. For even accomplices face the consequences of their deeds. Luo Feng, Xiao Shun, and the slender monkey shared a close bond, immediately grasping the implications of his words. Resonating with his course of action, footsteps echoed from within, pausing at the threshold. Though the door remained unopened, it was evident that his words had, at least to some degree, made an impact. The slender monkey, emboldened, began to speak fervently. Brother, we are truly coerced. By the time we learned of it, the factory had already been sold. Chun Chang is but a lapdog to Zhang Li, threatening us with dismissal should we refuse to conspire with them. You know, brother, we lack educational qualifications, technical skills, and come from humble backgrounds. Without the factory, finding decent employment is virtually impossible. Yet, we harbor disdain for individuals like Zhang Li. Had it not been for your assistance, brother, would he have been able to purchase property in Mo City? Chun Chang's family is impoverished without your financial aid. Could he have afforded a home in his hometown? And as for Li Sisi, it was you who financed her further education. As for Su Ruan, her pretentious demeanor speaks volumes. You are now well aware of her true character. Brother, we are willing to testify that it was Zhang Li and his cohorts who fabricated evidence to conspire against you, embezzling from your factory and colluding with the opposing company to ensnare you in a detrimental contract, costing you a fortune and nearly leading to your ruin. The family of Zhou Lily, squeezed behind, was taken aback. Such a scandal had transpired? No wonder they were relentlessly pursuing money for a home, only to be met with indifference. It became clear that their financial woes stemmed from these despicable individuals. The slender monkey grew increasingly animated, his indignation swelling as he likened himself to Zhou Chen's most loyal subordinate, denigrating Zhang Li and his ilk as inferior to refuse. I comprehend your sentiments. You may return now. I shall procure additional resources shortly. The slender monkey and his companions were elated. Indeed, Zhou Chen possessed a compassionate heart. However, brother, we are cold and famished. We lack the strength to descend. Might you permit us entry into the room? You may either return or remain here and freeze. The choice is yours. Zhou Chen ambled back to the living room, his phone in hand, where Zhang Li's visage on the video call bore an expression akin to one who had ingested something repulsive. Zhou Chen had contacted him, leading Zhang Li to mistakenly believe that the former was willing to relinquish some resources. Their enmity was palpable, yet Zhou Chen was known for his soft-heartedness. With so many lives at stake and having once been classmates, he surely could not bear to witness their demise from hunger. He had steeled himself for significant financial loss, prepared to spend a little more, while also bracing for a few scoldings from Zhou Chen as a means of venting frustrations. Let the reprimands come. After all, it would not cost him dearly. Nourishing his stomach was the priority. Yet, he was unprepared for Zhou Chen merely allowing him to overhear those words. Damn it! The scrawny monkeys dared to betray him. Zhang Li severed the video feed, his gaze fixed on Chun Chang and his companions, who had retreated to the living room to huddle for warmth, lost in contemplation. It was evident that Chun Chang and his group harbored ulterior motives, likely already nurturing treacherous thoughts. Zhou Chen's earlier words were unmistakable. He was willing to assist, yet the numbers were overwhelming, rendering his help futile. Whether this was the truth or merely a tactic employed by Zhou Chen, it indeed sowed discord. Otherwise, Chun Chang and the others would not have suddenly claimed the room was too cramped and opted to move to the living room. They huddled together, whispering, occasionally glancing in his direction, fearful of being overheard. For the sake of resources, the scrawny monkeys had already turned against him. He could not afford to offend Chun Chang and his group at this juncture. He still required them as enforcers to deal decisively with the traitors above. He intended to instill a lesson in all, demonstrating that those who dared to betray would meet a grim fate. As for Chun Chang and his companions, they were no longer of use. Once the disaster passed and normalcy returned, he would dismiss them one by one. Perhaps this was precisely the scene Zhou Chen yearned to witness, his group turning on one another like dogs in a fight. Yet, even with the knowledge of Zhou Chen's intentions, he found himself powerless to intervene. After all, one must nurture the source of sustenance. Damn it, a pack of ungrateful wolves. Zhang Li momentarily quelled his inner fury. Donning a smile, striving to appear as natural as possible, he clapped his hands to garner everyone's attention. Ladies and gentlemen, I have discovered a method to procure supplies, which will not only keep us warm, but also provide us with hot meals. Really? Upon hearing this, everyone's eyes sparkled with intrigue. Zhou Chen added a few logs to the fireplace, producing a toy ball to entertain the dog. As time passed, the outdoor temperature plummeted to -40 degrees. Amidst the roaring flames, the indoor temperature rose to a comfortable 20 degrees, creating a cozy atmosphere. He shed his padded pajamas for a lighter spring outfit. The dog had to bow its head beneath the eaves, while the energetic yellow dog leaped and bounded, eagerly chasing the flying ball, yet missed each time. Facing the threat of becoming dinner, crueler than its previous owner, it showed no mercy. As they played, Sururo messaged him from her spare phone. Zhou Chen, can we talk? He tossed the toy ball, urging the dog to pursue it. Had this pack of beasts already devised a plan to use women against him? Yet, he relished the thought of dogs tearing at each other's fur. After all, he had sown a toxic seed among these beasts, awaiting the harvest of its venomous fruit. Even if they guessed his intentions, what of it? The seed was insurmountable. He picked up his phone, a smirk curling at the corners of his mouth. What? Have you decided to crawl before me, begging for favor? Sururo replied swiftly, her irritation palpable. Zhou Chen, must you speak in such a manner? Zhou Chen was no longer swayed by her tactics. Is that so? What remains to be discussed? Between men and women, it is merely a matter of fleeting concerns. Chapter 17. The performance of the community. And on this tumultuous night, the anxious populace sought every conceivable means to reach out for help. Although the torrential rain had ceased, the nation was now gripped by a terrifying drop in temperature. The northern regions fared somewhat better. Rural areas had their heated Kong beds. And while urban heating systems were rendered ineffective, most possessed sufficient winter attire for warmth. However, the plight of those in the south was dire. Not only had the early onset of winter caught them off guard, but even under normal circumstances, they lacked adequate clothing to withstand temperatures plummeting below -30 degrees. Clad in every article of clothing available, they still found solace only in their blankets, yet the chill persisted. Television and the internet had been commandeered by the authorities, with all programming now severely restricted. Major broadcasting networks were unified in transmitting a single channel, synchronizing both internet and television. In the CCTV studio, the host and several experts from various fields were bundled tightly, shivering uncontrollably, their breath forming clouds of vapor as their teeth chattered audibly. At -30 degrees, the heating function of air conditioning units was insufficient. Now faced with a staggering -40 degrees, the external units had succumbed to a thick layer of ice, failing to operate altogether. Alarmingly, meteorological reports indicated that temperatures continued to decline. The super typhoon and torrential rain had already caused power outages and disrupted internet services in certain areas. The sudden onset of such extreme cold posed a significant risk of widespread paralysis in the national power grid, compounding the suffering. Distressed netizens, unable to connect with rescue services, flooded various chat groups with cries of panic and fear, hoping to find solace and solutions from others. In the Sakura community group, messages flashed incessantly. Is this truly the apocalypse? Awakening to temperatures below -30 degrees is surreal. August snowfall is not the horror. The real terror lies in the abrupt drop from 29 degrees to -40, an astonishing 70-degree variance. Who can endure such a shock? Has the world gone mad? If madness is to ensue, a warning would be appreciated. After eagerly anticipating the rain's cessation, winter has now descended with a vengeance. No, it has never been this frigid. I never imagined that I would perish from the cold before facing starvation. Who has a down jacket to lend me? Who can spare 2 silk comforters? Or even ordinary cotton quilts? I truly cannot withstand this any longer. I implore everyone to sell me some food. My child is wailing from hunger. I am on my knees, begging for sustenance, as my father's health deteriorates without nourishment. It is my fault for being such an unfilial child. Where's that community at? Come forth. If you hadn't barred us from venturing out to procure supplies, I would have at least had enough to last a few more days. Indeed, food replenishes energy and fortifies against the cold. Aunt Wang, show yourself. Did you not say the rescue team would arrive tomorrow? Did you not assure us that supplies would be delivered to our doors? How many tomorrows has it been? Where is the rescue team? Where are the provisions? Silent as a wilted vegetable are we? The siblings from Building 10 went to summon her, should she dare to hide again. They would not hesitate to give her a good beating to vent their frustrations. It is that old woman who has brought us this misfortune. I wholeheartedly support the siblings from Building 10 in their quest for retribution. Even if the police were to pursue the matter in the future, consider me complicit. The residents on the same floor as the community committee aunt wrapped themselves tightly in blankets, braving the chilling cold of -40 degrees to rush outside and kick down her door. Under immense pressure, Aunt Wang had no choice but to make a statement in the group chat. Please remain calm. I deeply empathize with your feelings at this moment. I have been in constant contact with the organization, which is devising a plan to provide food and winter clothing for everyone. However, the frigid weather and high water levels are severely hampering rescue efforts. Let us not succumb to panic. The more dire the situation, the more we must maintain our composure. Impulsive actions could lead to irreparable consequences. I have received confirmed information that the military has been mobilized, and the organization is engaged in a race against time and nature. Please await rescue with patience. The anger of the residents subsided considerably upon hearing of the military's involvement. In their collective memory, any natural disaster seemed manageable with the army's intervention. Yet, such REA she firmly believed that the organization would undoubtedly deploy the military for a nationwide large-scale rescue. Thus, she had the audacity to fabricate tales of troop mobilization in the group chat, hoping to soothe the residents on the brink of emotional upheaval. The community committee matron, with a steely resolve, continued her charade. A phone call from the authorities had indeed mentioned the good news of military deployment, urging our committee to ensure the residents remained calm and patient as they awaited assistance. The call originated from the encrypted line of the Emergency Management Office, a mere 4-digit virtual number that could not be dialed from your devices. Trust me, military aid will surely arrive. All we need is to endure for another 2 to 7 days. Zhou Chen, while savoring fresh grapes, found amusement in the matron's performance. The mention of military involvement certainly brought a sense of reassurance. The encrypted phone call from the Emergency Management Office lent credibility to her claims. Had it not been for the encryption, the line would have likely been overwhelmed by desperate locals. One must concede that the matron possessed a certain skill, deftly grasping the psychological needs of the people, her few words assuaging their intense outcry. Yet, upon hearing they would have to wait an additional 2 to 7 days, the residents were far from pleased. What? 2 to 7 days? Just collect the bodies already. I can't wait. Even a SI the household is left with so little. Insufficient even for our own family. If we relinquish what little we have, what will our family eat? We are merely ordinary citizens. So let us not speak of boundless altruism. Yet, a staggering 80% of the residents in the community are starving, each fervently clamoring in the group chat. Should one dare to voice dissent, they would be swiftly drowned in a torrent of verbal assault. While verbal attacks may be bearable, what if a neighbor from the same building were to confront me? A group of famished and frostbitten individuals, all in a foul mood, could easily resort to violence over a mere misstep in conversation. Who among us can withstand the onslaught of a mob? Contemplating this, these residents join in the uproar while simultaneously concealing their food supplies. The list of building leaders, spearheaded by the community committee matron, has emerged, totaling 30 individuals, including herself. Upon seeing this list, Zhou Chen couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. This roster is nearly identical to the one from her previous life. Without exception, these individuals share familial ties or vested interests with the elderly matron, as well as connections to wealthy benefactors and second-generation elites whom she seeks to curry favor with. In her past existence, this group hoarded all the resources, failing to distribute them fairly among the residents, while they themselves gorged in gluttony. By the time the residents realized what was happening, this group had relocated to Building 10, huddling together. Under the duress of hunger and cold, the dazed residents, furious, sought retribution, demanding the return of what was rightfully theirs, only to be overwhelmed by this vigorous band of scoundrels. Many did not rise again. Subsequently, each day, lives were lost to starvation, while the motley crew led by the matron of the community committee emerged unscathed through 3 months of extreme cold. The matron was exceedingly proactive. The list has been drafted. Everyone should take a look. If there are no objections, the leaders of each building should commence their actions forthwith. Naturally, Zhou Chen would not allow this to transpire without challenge. I have objections. What is wrong with you, Zhou Chen? The matron seethed through gritted teeth. Are you addicted to contrariness? This is not the time for delays. If someone dies of hunger because of your procrastination, can you bear the responsibility? The starving residents immediately began to hurl insults. Zhou Chen, are you out of your mind? I am on the brink of starvation. If you have objections, keep them to yourself. Anyone who impedes the leaders in distributing resources should not blame me for the consequences. Your objections suggest you do not wish for the resources to be shared, correct? Residents of Building 21, heed this warning. We will ensure that someone brings forth all the resources. Zhou Chen reclined comfortably on the sofa, listening to the crackling of the fire. He sent a voice message. Alas, I am merely considering everyone's interests. Please examine this list closely and reflect on the relationships between these individuals and the elderly matron. A group of relatives and friends, as well as her usual sycophants. Are you not concerned that they might collude in private, only to gorge themselves while disregarding the plight of everyone else? The community committee matron was incensed. Zhou Chen, you are not only wrongfully accusing an innocent person, but you are also sowing discord among the ranks. Do you realize that? The designated 29 building leaders quickly emerged to criticize, blame, and curse. They had just established a new group, fervently discussing the benefits of gathering supplies, and now their ulterior motives had been swiftly uncovered. Zhou Chen, you are judging others with the narrow mind of a petty person. Only the vile would project their own depravity onto others. You possess supplies and feel superior. Yet please do not jeopardize the precious lives of others. We are all neighbors, all victims of disaster. How could we possibly commit such a despicable act of self-enrichment? Do not be swayed by his manipulations. Ultimately, it is his selfishness that drives him, likely hoarding supplies at home while refusing to share with the community, wishing to witness others starve and perish in the cold. Despite his polished appearance, who would have thought him capable of such treachery? I have heard that his own aunt and old classmates are on the brink of starvation, and yet he refuses to spare even a morsel, a truly cold-blooded creature. The appearance of a photograph instantly silenced the group. The sound of a pin dropping could be heard. The image depicted a kitchen, with a bag of 10 pounds of flour, 2 bundles of noodles, a packet of dumplings, 4 eggs, 5 pounds of potatoes, 5 pounds. Ladies and gentlemen, I do not wish to impede the orders issued by the organization. We all understand that unity is essential to weathering difficulties. However, can you truly place your trust in the individuals designated by the elderly woman as leaders? A team of leaders formed solely from friends and those with vested interests. Do you genuinely believe there are no ulterior motives at play? When the time comes, if they indulge in excess while you find yourself starving, will you be able to confront them when you realize you've been deceived? In a society that prides itself on being enlightened, it is alarming that such autocratic tendencies exist. Regarding the selection of leaders, you have every right to cast your votes. Moreover, do you not find it peculiar that the community committee comprises more than just the elderly woman? With a team of 5 to 11 members. How is it that only she can liaise with the organization? Reflect on this matter, my friends. The committee members and the 29 designated leaders have faces darker than the bottom of a pot. The little rascals seem intent on creating discord. Standing in the way of others' financial gain is akin to committing murder. They have undoubtedly taken note of this grievance. Unfortunately, they have yet to devise a countermeasure. And now another photograph has surfaced. It features our community security guard, Old Sun, who displays 2 bags of instant noodles and 3 bags of hot dogs. Each bag of instant noodles contains 5 individual packets, and each bag of hot dogs contains 10 sausages. Upon the release of this image, the residents' excitement has been reignited. These typically inexpensive and often disregarded junk foods have suddenly become the lifeline for many. Old Sun remarked in a voice message, I believe there is merit in Xiao Zhou's words, for the sake of fairness. The selection of leaders should be conducted through a transparent and public voting process to ensure it meets the approval of the community. The leader of Building 21 will come to 2302 to collect my supplies. Chapter 19. What a perplexing situation. Zhou Chen's maneuver was simple yet effective. Particularly among the exuberant residents of Building 21, it triggered a butterfly effect. Those who initially had no objections to the designated leader now voiced dissent. Regardless of whether the committee members harbor malicious intent, the individuals listed as leaders are either closely related to her or are wealthy elites. These are undeniable facts. The chat group descended into chaos, with residents expressing their opposition to an autocratic system, insisting that the leaders should be elected through their own votes. Consequently, they dispersed into their smaller groups to begin voting. The residents of Building 21 were particularly forthright, declaring, we should appoint Brother Zhou Chen as our leader. In these precarious times, who among us would dare to harm those willing to share their entire stockpile? I concur. He requires another force to counterbalance him. Yet he wishes to exert minimal effort. As for me, I shall step down from this role. Recently, I have faced some setbacks in my career and find myself devoid of the spirit to engage in other matters. Life is at stake. And in order not to hinder everyone, I kindly ask that another leader be chosen. Everyone, I believe Old Sun is quite commendable. Although he is not an owner in our community, his work ethic over the years has been evident to all, and he is a man of integrity. Any concerns can be addressed later. Our immediate priority is to secure some nourishment. The residents of Building 21 naturally expressed dissatisfaction at having a security guard as their leader. But with Zhou Chen's endorsement and Old Sun's willingness to provide supplies, his character is indeed commendable, coupled with the incessant growling of their stomachs. They could not afford to delay any longer. No one wishes to continue drinking tap water. Zhou Chen aptly remarked that with starvation looming, there is little point in overthinking. The urgent matter is to consume food. Very well, let Old Sun be our leader. At that moment, Old Sun was utterly bewildered, staring at his phone repeatedly, failing to comprehend the meaning behind Zhou Chen's message, yet he complied nonetheless. Called to duty in a time of crisis, I, Old Sun, shall not decline. The lower floors are already submerged. I will compromise on the levels. To the two owners on the 15th floor, who is responsible for boiling water. I will take down some instant noodles and ham to prepare a warm meal for everyone to quell their hunger. And then we can gradually gather supplies from door to door. The two owners on the 15th floor were eager to assist, promptly stating they would boil water. The residents, having exhausted their provisions, shed tears of joy at the thought of soon savoring steaming hot instant noodles. Dressed in a military coat, Zhou Chen opened the door with a bag in hand. Simultaneously, Old Sun, clad in a military coat as well, opened his door. Old Sun, trembling and carrying 3 large bags of instant noodles, rushed over and handed one bag to Zhou Chen, exclaiming, "Xiao Zhou, how can you only keep one handful of noodles? With your size, a single handful won't suffice for multiple meals. Keep this bag. I have secretly saved a little for myself." Zhou Chen did not refuse, but with curiosity asked, "How come you live across from me?" The property management has its own duty rest area at the front desk. However, the security captain is an owner on the 8th floor of Building 21, and after the front desk was flooded, he assumed Old Sun was temporarily staying at the captain's home on the 8th floor. Just as Old Sun began to respond, a noise emanated from the back door. Zhou Chen turned his head, eyes widening in surprise. What did he see? A Russian nesting doll? Old Sun hurried back, whispering a few words to the doll before promptly shutting the door and locking it. The next moment, he reopened the locked door, scooping the doll into his arms and bringing it before Zhou Chen. "Xiao Zhou, could you please help take care of this? I still need to collect supplies from door to door, and it's too cold inside. I cannot leave such a small child home alone." Zhou Chen observed the nesting doll, all bundled up, revealing only a pair of round, glistening eyes. This indeed presents a significant predicament. Zhou Chen hesitated to extend his hand, astonished, and inquired, "What is happening here?" Lao's son wore a benevolent expression, gazing at the nesting doll with the affection of a grandfather observing his grandchild. With a hearty chuckle, he explained, "There is an elderly gentleman in Building 1 who cannot care for himself. His children are stranded elsewhere and unable to return. On the night of the typhoon, Ah Fong, out of compassion, went to assist him. This child was inconvenient to bring along, so Ah Fong, thinking of our shared hometown, requested my help in looking after the little one. I never anticipated that I would end up caring for the child for an entire week." Speaking of the child, Lao's son sighed with sympathy. At such a tender age, to be without parents, and with an elder brother unreachable. How truly pitiable. Zhou Chen could not suppress a cold smirk. What compassion to assist. Was it not merely a facade for engaging in secretive work outside of his duties? Sakura community consists of 2 households per floor. The father of the nesting doll is a traffic officer who leaves early and returns late, while the mother operates a seafood restaurant, known for her kindness. There is also an elder brother serving in the military, reportedly a reconnaissance soldier. It was once a blissful family, but their happiness was shattered by a tragic accident. On the evening of the 3rd of the month, the father was on duty, conducting a DUI check when a drunken heir, refusing to exit his vehicle, struck the child's father and dragged him for 2 kilometers. By the time the car was forced to halt, the man had already succumbed. The mother, devastated by the loss, suffered a heart attack and could not be saved. The elder son hurried back to handle the funeral arrangements, hastily hiring a nanny before rushing back to the military to process his discharge. Time was of the essence, and he had only a day or 2. Regrettably, the nesting doll did not wait for the return of her only family member. In a previous life, Zhou Chen, along with a few neighbors, ventured out of the city in search of survival, intending to take the nesting doll with them. However, upon forcibly prying open the door, they found no sign of the child, nor could they hear her voice. The nanny sat alone in the dining area, cradling a bowl of meat soup, while in the pot lay the skeletal remains of a 5-year-old child. The flesh had been stripped clean, indicating it had been boiled repeatedly. In tea, he harbored a certain apprehension towards the new member, the nesting doll, incessantly nudging Zhou Chen's pant leg with his head. Fearful of losing affection and being cast aside, the nesting doll, somewhat withdrawn, avoided even a glance at the dog. Perhaps instinctively drawn to the warmth of the flames in the fireplace, its round eyes fixated upon the flickering fire. Zhou Chen placed the nesting doll upon a single armchair before the hearth, scratching his head in distress. Alas, what a blunder. Chapter 20. Even trash dogs won't eat this. The presence of the nesting doll left Zhou Chen in a state of turmoil. His kindness and compassion had been worn thin from his previous life. He lacked experience in caring for children, and in this world, children and small animals were the most vulnerable, innocent, and endearing, seeking affection. Adults possessed an innate protective instinct towards the weak. In the course of nurturing, one could unknowingly become enamored, and by the time one realized it, they would be cradling the vulnerable in their hands, unable to let go. Zhou Chen fixed a wary gaze upon the nesting doll. Once, just this once, Old Sun returned, the nesting doll would be cast back. Delaying even a moment would be a disrespect to the apocalypse. He suppressed the urge to toss the nesting doll out the door, instead rummaging through his supplies for some toys, leaving it to entertain itself. Only then did he find the opportunity to check his phone messages. Brother Zhou, we have returned to the 11th floor. You haven't surrendered all the supplies, have you? Zhou Chen, didn't you promise to bring us supplies? If you've turned them over, what will my cousin and I eat? The 7 individuals who had braved the cold returned to the 11th floor, their faces pale, limbs stiff, nearly numb all over. Were it not for the timely offering of a large cup of hot water from the others in the room, they might have succumbed to the cold by now. Once they had regained a semblance of warmth, they immediately seized their phones to inquire about the supplies. After all, Zhou Chen had promised to bring them down. Zhou Chen responded with a resigned expression. I did indeed intend to share half of the supplies with you earlier, but now that the organization has issued orders for centralized management and distribution, I must comply. If I refuse to surrender them, I will be held accountable later. Rest assured, the landlord is cooking instant noodles. It should be mealtime soon. However, with so many of you in the room and being outsiders, I'm uncertain whether you will receive a portion. The thin monkey, in a state of urgency, pleaded. Brother Zhou, you cannot do this. I know you must have surplus supplies at home. I beg you to help us this once. I promise to testify against Zhang Li when the time comes. Brother, isn't the landlord your friend? Could you perhaps speak a few good words for us? Even a bowl of porridge for each of us would suffice. We truly cannot endure any longer. Brother, we can draft a testament for you right now. The thin monkey poured forth an abundance of pleas, yet received not a shred of response. Contemplating a second visit to plead, he recalled the harrowing experience of nearly freezing to death, which left him devoid of the courage to approach the door again. Anxious and desperate, he could only bombard Zhou Chen with incessant messages. As the temperature continues to plummet, the content of communication grows increasingly desperate. Returning to the master bedroom, Zhou Lily and her family find themselves in a state of anxious anticipation. Zhou Chen, have you left yet? When will you bring the supplies down? You must not go back on your word. We are family. Zhou Lily suddenly realizes that she may have been deceived. Zhou Chen never intended to provide supplies, only wishing to avoid a tragedy at his doorstep. Are they truly destined to perish from hunger and cold? In a moment of panic and emotional collapse, she slaps her future daughter-in-law across the face. It's all your fault, you shameless woman. Is being pregnant such an accomplishment? Do you think you are the only woman capable of bearing children? With your bulging belly, you demand money, a house, and a car. If it weren't for you, our family of 3 would have food and drink in the comfort of our home. How could we be suffering like this? Don't think I'm unaware of your past at the foot massage parlor, how many men you've entangled with. The pregnant woman, already filled with unexpressed rage, retaliates with 2 swift slaps. If it weren't for the fact that I can't fight while pregnant, do you think I would marry your son? What good can come from 2 gambling fools? Outside, a group of 10, gathered in anxious discussion, suddenly hears a blood-curdling scream. Moments later, a woman, blood streaming from her lower body, emerges, her face a mask of terror as she pleads for help. Help me. Yet, the cold is so severe that she collapses after just a few steps. The instant noodles on the 15th floor are ready, and the notified residents are filled with excitement. Wonderful. Finally, there is something to eat. Each household sends forth a representative, braving the cold with their largest soup pot in hand. Upon reaching the 15th floor, they are dismayed to discover that the feast they had envisioned is far from reality. 6 large buckets are lined up, each filled with a broth resembling discarded waste. A layer of something akin to flour floating atop, an utterly revolting sight. What on earth is this? There are no instant noodles, just this soup. How are we supposed to eat this? Do you even know how to cook? This trash is unfit even for dogs. Have you secretly consumed the noodles and left us with nothing but broth? 2 homeowners on the 15th floor, along with their family members, erupt in anger. Are you blind? The noodles are all in the soup. With 50 or 60 residents in the building, how can they distribute the noodles if they aren't chopped before cooking? I poured the last half bowl of lard from my home into this pot. What more do you want? At a time like this, how can anyone still afford to be picky? We might as well starve. A group of famished residents, suppressing their nausea, form a line to collect a bowl of noodle soup to take home. Zhang Li and others living in Unit 602, after waiting in vain for the noodle distribution announcement, are left with no choice but to inquire via their phones. The response they receive is disheartening. The noodle soup has already been completely allocated. Zhang Li nearly leapt from his bed, exclaiming, "Is the allocation complete? What do you mean by that? I reside in Unit 101 on the 6th floor, and we have received no notification from you." A man with a bushy beard stepped forward, stating, "I am the deputy building manager. The building manager is currently gathering supplies, and I am responsible for the distribution of food. I have set aside provisions for you. Zhang Li from 101 and Yang Sitian from 602. Hurry up and collect them." Upon hearing this, everyone let out a collective sigh of relief. The task of retrieving instant noodles naturally fell to Yang Sitian and Su Wanwan, as they were the only ones among the group, along with a young girl, who had winter clothing. The rest, including Zhang Li and his companions, were clad in flimsy summer attire, huddled together under their blankets, reluctant even to venture to the bathroom. When the two women arrived on the 15th floor, carrying 2 large soup bowls, they were met with a shocking sight. On the kitchen counter sat only 2 bowls of broth, each the size of a fist. Shivering, Su Wanwan stared in disbelief. Isn't the distribution per person? How can there be so little? There are over 10 of us in our unit. The bearded deputy manager, savoring his own bowl of broth with deliberate slowness, replied, It is indeed per person. I allocated as many portions as were listed on the property management's roster. Dumbfounded, Su Wanwan stepped forward to argue. How can this be fair? Even if we are not owners in the community, you cannot simply disregard us. Are those not on the property list condemned to starve? The deputy manager greedily eyed the 2 bowls of broth, licking his lips unconsciously. If there's an issue, take it up with the building manager. With limited food, priority must be given to our own residents. If you don't want it, I will gladly take it. Yang Sitian, unable to contain herself, lunged forward, finishing her bowl in a matter of moments. Su Wanwan was taken aback by this scene, the aroma of the broth wafting irresistibly toward her nostrils. Hunger overwhelmed her remaining sense of reason. She disregarded everything else and lunged forward like a famished dog. Chapter 21. White Lotus, your performance begins now. You 2 lunatic women. Zhangli seethed, wishing to slap each of them across the face as they returned home with empty bowls. Chen Chong and others wore grim expressions, their fists cracking ominously beneath the blankets. Had they not been frozen in place, they would have certainly pounced, pulling their hair and delivering a flurry of blows. That was their lifeline. These 2 mad women were only thinking of themselves, oblivious to their plight. Spit out our food. You little harlot, you're asking for trouble. Yang Sitian, still relishing the flavor of the broth, sneered, You can't blame me. The portions weren't allocated per person. The property management has a list of community residents, and I drank what belonged to me. She then cast a disdainful glance at Su Wanwan beside her. At that moment, the starving and cold group turned their furious gazes upon Su Wanwan, their eyes sharp as daggers, wishing they could pierce her to the ground. Su Ruinsoft did not perceive herself as at fault. She began to arrange her hair while gazing at her phone screen. In that moment, she seemed to regain her goddess-like image. Why rush? Let us not forget our plan. What is there to fuss over a bowl of meager soup? Moving into a house with a fireplace and savoring a bowl of egg noodles sounds delightful, does it not? Zhang Li suppressed his anger. Are you implying that? Su Ruinsoft, brimming with confidence, replied, What significance does a bowl of egg noodles hold? Surely, you do not genuinely believe that Zhou Chen would relinquish all his supplies, do you? Zhang Li firmly asserted. Of course not. In the current situation, who would be foolish enough to surrender all the food in their home? Chen Chong, gritting his teeth, warned, You had better persuade Zhou Chen to open the door willingly. If you fail to do so, do not blame us for lacking compassion. Yang Sitian, frozen in place, stomped her feet, observing the group with a cold gaze. A smirk of derision crept across her lips as she turned and retreated to her room, promptly locking the door behind her. She retrieved her phone and found Zhou Chen's WeChat from the group, sending him a friend request. Zhou Chen was at home preparing a fruit salad, featuring fresh watermelon, mango, peach, strawberry, kiwi, cantaloupe, cherry tomatoes, and dragon fruit, topped off with a glass of pure milk and a sprinkle of nuts. A sight that was indeed appetizing. The large dog, drooling, wagged its tail in a bid for affection. Zhou Chen gently kicked the dog's backside, sending it back to its kennel for dog food. He kept a large bowl of fruit salad for himself and handed a smaller one to the doll-like figure beside him, sternly threatening. If you require someone to feed you, I will promptly throw you out the door. The doll was merely introverted, not lacking in intelligence. It stared blankly at the bowl of fruit salad handed to it, lifted a spoon, and fed itself without a care for its surroundings, thus remaining indifferent to Zhou Chen's threats. Zhou Chen reclined on another single chair, his long legs stretched out, relishing the warmth emitted by the fireplace. The fresh fruit was delightful, lifting his spirits immensely. He placed a skillet over the fire, containing a freshly prepared king crab. Ding! His phone chimed again. Zhou Chen leisurely picked it up to see that the message was from Su Ruinsoft, along with a friend request from a woman identifying herself as Yang Sitian from room 602. Zhou Chen accepted the friend request before turning his attention to Su Ruinsoft's message. Was she attempting to deceive him into opening the door? Ah Chen, let us have a discussion. Rest assured, I am currently alone in my room, not with them. It is too cold. Would it be convenient to speak via voice? Hearing Su Ruinsoft's trembling voice, the change in address struck him oddly. He had never found this form of address so distasteful before. Zhou Chen replied curtly, Inconvenient. Su Ruinsoft responded instantly. Inconvenient? What are you doing right now? Zhou Chen snapped a photo of his fruit salad, capturing a glimpse of the crab legs in the skillet. Nothing much. I just attempted to make a fruit salad. It tastes mediocre, and I have lost my appetite. Shivering under the covers, Su Ruinsoft's eyes were almost glued to the photo. Bastard. She had endured hunger for so many days, and just moments ago, she consumed a small bowl of broth resembling dishwater. While he sat by the fireplace indulging in a fruit medley, the photograph was strikingly clear. She could discern several types of fruit pieces. Wait, was that a crab leg in the skillet over the fire? A leg so large, it was undoubtedly that of a king crab. Had Zhou Chen's household amassed such abundant provisions? The others crammed onto the bed, including Zhang Li, felt their eyes turn crimson with jealousy upon hearing Zhou Chen mention his fruit medley. They longed to rush to the top floor, forcibly break down the door, deliver a beating to Zhou Chen, and then compel him to surrender all his fruits. Not just the fruit, but all food and the warmth of the fireplace. Everything belonged to them. The fact that he had fruit suggested there were surely many more hidden provisions he was reluctant to part with. Reluctance was precisely what they desired. Su Ruinswan couldn't help but swallow her saliva, contemplating the next phase of their plan, and had to muster her composure to exhibit a semblance of restraint. How delightful. I recall our frequent visits to the bund for that fruit medley. Its flavor was unparalleled. Zhou Chen chuckled lightly. If you find it delectable, you should indulge in it often after we leave the community. Under the urging of everyone, Su Ruinswan spoke with a tone laden with guilt. Ah Chun, I know you must despise me right now, but I was coerced regarding the factory. It was truly Zhang Li who pressured me. He hinted at you several times. Yet you failed to heed his words. A cold smile crept across Zhou Chen's lips. Zhang Li pressured you? Oh, White Lotus, please commence your performance. Su Ruinswan hastily replied. Indeed, Zhang Li has fallen into gambling, accruing debts amounting to millions. If he cannot repay them, they threatened to bury him alive in the mountains. He was terrified and, knowing you to be the only affluent friend, he realized you loathed gamblers and would never lend him money. Thus, he resorted to threatening my life. He claimed if I did not comply, he would kill you. I feared for your safety, and you were oblivious to his insinuations. The factory affairs were orchestrated by him and Chen Chang. The signatures were forged, and I did nothing. Ah Chun, my willingness to align with Zhang Li is not a betrayal. I am clandestinely gathering evidence for you. You have treated me so well, and my feelings for you run deep. How could I possibly aid anyone in harming you? I have nearly amassed sufficient evidence and gathered much useful information these past few days, ensuring we will win this lawsuit, and the factory will undoubtedly return to your hands. Ah Chun, this matter is of utmost importance. Shall we discuss it face to face? Let us arrange a meeting during the next food distribution, and I shall use the pretext of collecting food to come see you. After sending this voice message, Su Ruinswan felt her heart leap into her throat, as did Zhang Li and the others. It was a factory, after all, one left to Zhou Chen by his parents. They believed that with a chance to reclaim the factory, Zhou Chen would not refuse. Yet, he did precisely that. His voice resonated through the air, casting a pall of despair over everyone present. Zhou Chen's tone carried a peculiar, almost mocking quality. I implored, could you conjure a more convincing excuse? The entire city is on the brink of devastation. Where are the factories to be found? Perhaps it would be wiser to ponder how to avoid freezing or starving. As I reiterated, my household only shelters women. I wondered aloud about the name of Chen Chang's girlfriend, who appeared quite lovely. The mentioned young lady was taken aback, her heart racing with uncontainable joy. Among so many women, Zhou Chen had chosen her. She could hardly restrain herself from rushing to the 23rd floor to beckon Zhou Chen, yearning for the warmth of the fireplace and the delightful taste of food. As for his intentions, she was not blind. Zhou Chen was 100 times more admirable than Chen Chang. The atmosphere shifted, becoming distinctly tense. Some were furious, others envious, while a few were anxious or fearful. Chapter 22. A frigid world at -70 degrees. Dawn broke, revealing a world blanketed in white. Skyscrapers, trees, and the earth lay ensconced in ice and snow. The temperature plunged to a bone-chilling -70 degrees, icicles adorning rooftops and tree branches, while the surface of the floodwaters froze solid. People suddenly felt as if they had been catapulted back to the Ice Age overnight. In the Sakura Community Owners Group, residents began to share images of icicles the size of children's arms. My goodness, this is utterly absurd. What on earth is the meteorological station doing? I pay my taxes every year to support a bunch of incompetents. Please do not tell me the apocalypse is truly upon us. Could it be that we are collectively dreaming, ensnared in a nightmare of a frozen era, merely trapped in this illusion? Clad in every layer of clothing available at home, I still felt an increasing chill. Was I destined to freeze to death? Who was it that called for a quick-acting heart remedy? I have found one. In which building are you located, and how might I deliver it to you? No need. Thank you. my father has already passed. The once boisterous chat group fell into an overwhelming silence. The residents were taken aback, realizing that someone had indeed succumbed to this calamity. Would there be more casualties? Where was the rescue? With no aid in sight, were they and their families destined to become the next victims? In that moment, a pervasive sense of dread enveloped all the inhabitants. They suddenly grasped the terrifying reality that they could truly perish, and that their loved ones might depart from them at any moment. Survival is an innate instinct. The more one fears death, the deeper the dread grows within. Zhou Chen sensed the shift. Those who had previously dismissed the floods and cold front were now slowly coming to the grim realization that this might indeed herald the end of the world. He stoked the fireplace with several logs, igniting a fierce blaze. He exchanged his luxurious mattress for one favored by a certain celebrity, draping it with a sumptuous wool blanket, and retrieved 2 down comforters from his space, arranging the bed into a cozy haven. Then, a knock echoed through the air. Zhou Chen surmised it was Old Sun, and prudently confirmed through the peephole. Upon opening the door, a gust of cold air rushed in, causing the exposed skin to sting as if sliced by a knife. Old Sun, who had previously managed to endure the chill, now trembled uncontrollably. Had he not donned a cotton hat and scarf, his ears would likely have succumbed to frostbite. At his feet lay a cardboard box, containing a pitifully meager supply of provisions. Zhou Chen inquired, "How is it?" Old Sun, shaking his head in disappointment, replied, "Even if the organization truly issued this command, they cannot conduct searches door to door. Moreover, the inhabitants of Magic City seldom hoard supplies. The vast majority have long since exhausted their resources, relying solely on water to stave off hunger. Collecting what little we have is an arduous task. Surely, there are those hoarding supplies, like you, Zhou Chen, who even keep some for yourself. Why should we demand others relinquish everything? Especially in these dire times. Isn't that tantamount to driving them to despair?" Old Sun stamped his feet, feeling as though his toes were on the verge of losing all sensation. "Xiao, I can't shake the feeling that this weather is rather abnormal. Do you think it could be like those American disaster films, where humanity's transgressions lead to the Earth's breaking point, heralding the apocalypse?" Zhou Chen felt it prudent to say little in response. Anything is possible. We must be prepared for whatever may come. Old Sun shivered. "I'll move the supplies indoors first. You should bring the child out afterward." Zhou Chen called to Old Sun, saying, "I was unaware you were assisting with the child. My current advice is to either entrust the child to someone else or find someone to oversee the supplies. Ultimately, you can only manage one of the two." Old Sun squinted. "Are you suggesting someone else take on the role of building manager? That makes sense. In this frigid weather and with scarce food, managing a child alone is already quite challenging." Zhou Chen shook his head. "If you cannot part with the child, then entrust the supplies to another for safekeeping. Initially, managing supplies may seem simple, but in dire circumstances, they could become a death knell for you." Having navigated the streets in his youth and worked as a security guard for nearly 2 decades, Old Sun, a seasoned veteran of society, swiftly grasped the implications of Zhou Chen's words. "You are quite right. Then, you shall be the building manager." Zhou Chen declined. "I have no desire to deal with such trivial matters. We'll discuss this later." Old Sun suddenly lowered his voice, whispering, "I observe that the owners in the entire building are reluctant to share food with the outsiders in Unit 1001. Zhou Chen found this quite understandable. After all, self-preservation is a natural instinct. Resources were already scarce, and with over 80 residents in the building, Zhang Li and his group comprised a third of that number. Everyone was suffering from hunger and cold. Who would care about the plight of others? He merely found it curious that Old Sun specifically mentioned Zhang Li and his associates. Old Sun offered an explanation. "Your factory's affairs have already circulated within the community. Although you have not explicitly stated your intentions, I suspect you wish to take this opportunity to deal with them. Damn that bunch of beasts. Such unscrupulous acts deserve harsh retribution. In my youth, I would have charged forth wielding a watermelon knife, striking fear into their hearts, causing them to wail and lament, leaving them with severed limbs that would haunt their dreams for a lifetime." Zhou Chen gave a thumbs up, exclaiming, "Impressive." Old Sun, feeling a bit embarrassed, scratched his head. Age had taken its toll. One of his legs was maimed, and now, at his advanced age, all he could do was boast. "I will first secure the supplies and find someone to guard them. Then I shall return shortly to fetch the child." Half an hour later, Old Sun knocked at the door once more. Zhou Chen, as if delivering a harbinger of misfortune, handed the nesting doll to Old Sunday. The moment Old Sun cradled the child, he felt the warmth emanating from the little one, akin to holding a portable heater. It dawned on him that Zhou Chen had a fireplace, not just one but 2. They had been cold as ice outside, and to claim he felt no envy would have been a lie. As he gazed at the strikingly beautiful child in his arms, and then glanced at Zhou Chen, he hesitated, words unspoken. Bang! Zhou Chen swiftly shut the door to prevent old Sun from voicing any thoughts. He had no desire to invite trouble upon himself. After a yawn, he made his way to his cozy bed, sinking into the soft woolen blanket, enveloped by a warm down comforter, listening to the crackling of the firewood. He felt utterly content. Outside, the world was frigid, but within his abode, it was as warm as spring. In such comfort, Zhou Chen quickly drifted into slumber. While he enjoyed a blissful sleep, the other residents struggled immensely, particularly the newcomers, such as Zhang Li and his group, who lacked winter clothing and were numerous in number. 2 small quilts could hardly accommodate them all. Yang Sitian was yanked from her bed onto the icy floor. "What are you doing?" she exclaimed. Chen Chong and his cohorts forcibly seized her quilt, raising a fist in threat. "If you keep yapping, I'll strip the clothes off your back for my girlfriend." Indignant, Yang Sitian was taken aback, instinctively crossing her arms over her chest, only to scramble to the wardrobe for warmth. "Monsters! Wild beasts!" she cursed. To forcibly kick down the door and steal her quilt was already outrageous. Now they were even taking the mattress cover. Were they intent on freezing her to death? Yang Sitian curled up in the empty wardrobe, fearing that in the next moment, someone would strip her of her winter attire. Shivering, she retrieved her phone. Tears streaming down her face as she sent a message to Zhou Chen. Regret washed over her. For the sake of a mere bag, she had truly invited wolves into her home. "Brother Zhou, they mean to harm you. If one scheme fails, they plan to have Chen Chang's girlfriend deceive you into opening the door. If you would only take me in, I am willing to help you eliminate this trouble. I am ready to be your blade." Chapter 23. If you don't recognize me, stay far away. Zhou Chen awoke in the afternoon. The first order of business was to stoke the fire in the fireplace. The flames blazed brightly, maintaining a delightful temperature of around 30 degrees Celsius within the home. Growing weary of steak, he decided to prepare a hot pot instead. The space is filled with hot pot base, complemented by exquisite cuts of beef and lamb, fish balls, shrimp balls, tripe, yellow throat, duck intestines, duck blood, and a plethora of vegetables, culminating in a sumptuous hot pot feast. A couple of bottles of beer enhanced the experience, allowing one to savor the meat while admiring the falling snow outside the window. The mobile phone resting on the dining table remains incessantly active, bombarded with calls and messages of all sorts, yet he chooses to eat in silence, ignoring them completely. His cousin's girlfriend has passed away? The meddlesome gambling aunt naturally places the blame on him, accusing him of failing to provide timely supplies, which allegedly led to her starvation. A single death implicates 2 lives. Should the police investigate, he could face imprisonment. She even threatens Zhou Chen, insisting that only by allowing their family of 3 to enter his home for sustenance will they consider assisting him in clarifying matters before the police. The vivid memories of his past life resurface. Regardless of whether the blow aimed at his head by the pregnant woman was to protect her unborn child or merely a selfish act of survival, he harbors no sympathy for her demise. This time, Zhou Chen has decisively blocked them, allowing them to fend for themselves. However, a message from Yang Sitian piques his interest. Living under the same roof, a frail woman surely struggles to get by. He is curious to know what method she intends to employ to assist him in resolving this predicament. If someone is willing to lend a hand without dirtying their own hands, why not embrace the opportunity? Halfway through the hot pot, a commotion erupts from downstairs. Zhou Chen recognizes the voices of his aunt, the scrawny monkey, and even the furious shouts of Zhang Li. It appears a dispute over food distribution has ignited tensions. The clamor escalates, accompanied by the sounds of furniture being moved, followed by a scream. "Damn it! Our entire building can barely feed itself. Why should we share with you? You've ruined our food. We'll make you pay." The consequences of audacious theft are dire. Soon after, Lao Sun calls. Zhou Chen answers on speakerphone, leisurely feeding a slice of Wagyu beef into his mouth. "A few of those who bear a grudge against you have come to demand food, insisting it's unfair, and resorted to theft. They accidentally knocked over a pot of gruel, and a group of property owners, incensed, rushed in and retaliated. How badly are they hurt?" "Not too serious. They came wrapped in blankets, unprepared for the cold, and took some punches without the means to evade. Be cautious. A corner dog is dangerous." Within half an hour, Zhang Li frantically calls Zhou Chen. Zhou Chen answers languidly. "Zhou Chen, I know you have plenty of supplies at home. I'm willing to purchase them. Name your price." "Are you out of your mind? You intend to buy my supplies with my own money? What good is your money? It's currently in my pocket. If you dare, summon the police to retrieve it." "Huh? Before the police arrive, do you think you might freeze to death? Or perhaps starve? Either fate seems fitting for you." At this moment, Zhang Li, with a bruised and battered face, cowered beneath the covers, his body trembling incessantly, both from the cold and from rage. Accompanied by several robust individuals, he ventured outside into the biting chill, finally managing to ascend to the 15th floor, nearly succumbing to the frigid air. Yet, Those neighbors steadfastly refused to distribute food equitably. As a property owner in the community, he could only secure a meager bowl. But if he couldn't advocate for sustenance for everyone, would they heed him? That pot of dumpling soup wasn't intentionally spilled. How could they have been so merciless? A pack of scoundrels. This matter is far from over. The factory had just secured several significant contracts, and once the calamity passed, a substantial profit awaited. Each person who had laid hands on him would pay dearly. And Zhou Chen, he should have been dealt with back then. He ought to be luxuriating in a 5-star hotel, savoring gourmet delights, rather than here, starving and freezing, being assaulted by others. Zhongli wiped a trickle of blood from his nose and issued a threat. Zhou Chen, if you refuse to sell me supplies, I shall reveal the information about the vast stockpile hidden in your home, and you will soon regret the state of your fireplace. Zhou Chen, with an air of indifference, replied, do as you wish. Perhaps you should be more concerned about how to deal with your own companions. After all, they came here because of your pretentiousness. Upon the call ending, Zhongli erupted in fury. A group of cold and hungry individuals, their pallid faces revealing their plight. Chen Chong, equally battered, had lost the pretense, directly issuing a warning. Zhongli, we are here because of you. We have all gone days without food. If you don't find a way to procure sustenance, don't blame us for being inhospitable. Zhongli's face flushed crimson. He struggled to contain his anger, but ultimately chose to swallow his pride. What is the rush? You all know Zhou Chen. He despises me. Yet he shows mercy to others. He scanned the room, his gaze landing on Su Wanruan beside him. You go. Don't use your phone. Just go directly to him. A face-to-face meeting might elicit some compassion. Chen Chong's girlfriend expressed her doubts. Her again? If she were capable, we would have long been feasting before the fireplace. Zhongli was well aware of the woman's desire to go. He found it quite amusing that Zhou Chen's casual remark had led her to believe she was favored. Did she not look in the mirror? With 2 oversized headlights. Did she think herself irresistibly charming? Just look at Su Wanruan's appearance and figure. She ought to realize how discerning Zhou Chen's taste is. Chen Chong was torn. On one hand, he was displeased with his girlfriend's eagerness, yet on the other, he wanted her to give it a shot. After much contemplation, he still wished to avoid any potential fallout. Su Wanruan was also conflicted, not only due to the bitter cold, but also because Zhou Chen's recent demeanor had diminished her confidence. However, the competitive nature among women prevailed. As a recognized beauty and the factory owner's wife, she felt overshadowed by a less intelligent, buxom rival. Moreover, she harbored a touch of selfishness. Before stepping out, she wished to adorn herself with a meticulous makeup look. However, as she trembled while rummaging through her bag, she discovered that her skincare products and foundation had all frozen into solid blocks. Zhongli, standing nearby, cautioned, if we lack winter attire, we want to accompany you. Once you successfully enter the house, find an opportunity to knock Zhou Chen unconscious, then promptly retrieve some clothing for us. And remember to take the keys. Su Wanruan meticulously arranged her appearance, seemingly exuding confidence as she departed, all the while internally rallying her spirits. On the couch, nestled under a blanket, Yang Sitian, held in the embrace of a little ruffian, sent a reminder message to Zhou Chen. Knock, knock. Zhou Chen was nestled on the sofa, engaged in a game with his dog. Hearing the knocking, he approached the door and peered through the peephole. Who is it? It's me, Wanruan. Zhou Chen was taken aback. The disheveled figure outside was Su Wanruan. Her hair was a tangled mess, her complexion sallow, dark circles under her eyes. Bundled up like a 300-pound pig, dressed in a riot of colors, one could hardly argue against labeling her a lunatic. Shivering uncontrollably, Su Wanruan remained blissfully unaware of her dismal appearance, desperately attempting to muster a smile that she deemed enchanting. However, her smile left Zhou Chen feeling quite queasy. With a look of disdain, he turned to leave. I don't know you, get lost. Chapter 24. Another malcontent seeks to harm me. Zhou Chen grabbed his notebook and plugged in his headphones. He opened this year's most popular anime, donning his earphones to block out the persistent knocking and the plaintive pleas. This woman was toxic, replete with deceit. Were it not for the memories of his past life, he would have long since softened and let her in. In his previous life, Su Wanruan had deceived him into signing his name on a blank sheet of paper, then conspired with Zhongli to embezzle his factory, showing no remorse afterward. 3 years into the apocalypse, when they crossed paths again, Zhongli and Chen Chong snatched away his only piece of bread and pummeled him, with Su Wanruan watching coldly, her gaze reminiscent of that of a bystander observing a stray dog. It was also his fault for allowing his principles to be swayed by his senses. From the very first moment he laid eyes on Su Wanruan in university, he was captivated by her goddess-like beauty and figure. There were many beautiful women and many with enviable physiques, but few possessed the angelic visage paired with a devilish body. His heart was soft, and throughout their romantic entanglement, He had been exceedingly compliant with Zhou Chen. In daily life, he was generous, often gifting her clothes, bags, and jewelry, and frequently taking her on trips both domestically and abroad. Each year, the red envelopes he sent to her family exceeded 100,000. Unfortunately, her family's demands were high, insisting on 2 properties worth over 2 million each, one for her parents and one for her brother. As the saying goes, in Kyoto, do not compare ranks, and in the Magic City, do not compare wealth. A person like Zhou Chen, with a fixed property and a modestly sized factory, hardly qualified as wealthy in a city teeming with affluent individuals. The factory's annual revenue is indeed sufficient for him to lead a life of leisure. Yet it merely allows for a modest existence, far from the realm of the ultra-wealthy. After several years, subtracting the funds necessary for the factory's regular operations, he finds himself with merely around 10 million in savings, a slight improvement over the average individual. Zhou Chen once entertained the notion of proposing to Zhou Chen. However, the mere thought of her vampiric family immediately extinguished any romantic aspirations. This sentiment intensified when Zhou Chen suggested selling the property left to him by his parents to purchase a villa for her family to reside with him. In that moment, thoughts of separation began to surface in his mind. Perhaps sensing his inclination to part ways, and fearing a loss of everything, Zhou Chen resorted to betrayal. Regardless of her beauty or how she might sculpt her appearance, Zhou Chen now harbored no interest in a woman with such a venomous heart. The fierce sounds of battle filled his headphones as the animated series reached its climax. Zhou Chen had long since cast aside thoughts of Zhou Chen waiting outside. This week, he had downloaded an extensive collection of the finest domestic and international television shows, films, animations, and variety programs. As he swapped out new USB drives for storage, he occasionally glanced at the unfolding animation. In the harsh reality of a post-apocalyptic world, lacking entertainment to pass the time could easily lead to mental distress. Time was of the essence. Soon, power and internet would be lost, and he needed to download more content. Once the flood completely froze, he planned to visit the largest library to gather all the books within. During the bitter cold of 3 months, with the city lacking heating resources, books would quickly become a source of warmth for the afflicted. 3 days passed, yet the residents' hopes for rescue remained unfulfilled. To make matters worse, the extreme cold had wreaked havoc on the electrical and gas systems, causing power outages throughout the city, rendering even gas appliances useless. This terrified the residents. While they could still melt ice for water and cook, the loss of electricity and gas felt like a death sentence. The homeowners group buzzed with anxious discussions, each person voicing their fears. They called for the community committee members to emerge and demanded answers about the promised military assistance. The committee member, initially preventing everyone from venturing out to hoard supplies, had repeatedly obstructed their efforts. The dire situation at Sakura Community could undoubtedly be attributed to her actions. With their lives at stake, the increasingly panicked residents felt compelled to arm themselves and confront the detestable old woman. Yet, the harsh living conditions did not affect Zhou Chen. He had stockpiled generators and fuel in his space, ready for use at any moment. However, he felt it was not yet time to act. Survival in such a brutal world required careful planning and decisive action. One must never tread into danger due to carelessness. At present, chaos had not yet erupted, but should word spread of his home's power supply, he would quickly become a target. In truth, Zhou Chen sensed that danger was approaching. The past 3 days have been eerily silent. Zhang Li and his band of ruffians have made no noise whatsoever. Not even the lean monkey has sought supplies. It is a tranquility reminiscent of the calm before a storm. Zhou Chen contemplated reaching out to Old Sun to inquire about recent developments. Just as he picked up his phone, a resounding crash echoed from the front door. The force of the impact was substantial, reverberating throughout the entire building. Uninformed neighbors, in a state of panic, feared an earthquake had struck. Zhou Chen immediately became alert, and De Huang, nestled in the corner, sprang to his feet. Baring his teeth at the door, animals possess an innate sensitivity to their environment, often more acute than that of humans. During this period, De Huang had gradually sensed the shifts in the world around him, instinctively understanding that his new master would not tolerate a pet that merely consumed without contributing. Now was the time for him to demonstrate his worth. Outside, a group led by Zhang Li, appearing as fierce as demons, relentlessly pounded on the door with hammers. Yet, despite their fervent attempts, the door remained steadfast, showing only minor dents. Bewildered, they wondered if the door had been reinforced. Their original plan to breach the entrance within 3 minutes and subdue Zhou Chen in 30 seconds had evaporated, along with their hopes of seizing the fireplace and all the supplies. Zhou Chen, it is now common knowledge that you are hoarding a significant amount of supplies. If you willingly surrender everything, we shall not cause you further distress. Zhou Chen approached the door and peered through the peephole. Noticing that the gang of ruffians had nearly all assembled, They were clad in winter attire, and to his astonishment, Zhang Li, Chen Chong, and the lean monkey were donning military coats. If they were indeed attempting to forcibly acquire someone else's supplies, such an endeavor would surely create a commotion. In temperatures plunging to -70 degrees, it was improbable they had ventured out to gather supplies. This could only imply that someone within the building was aiding these ruffians. Had Zhang Li swiftly found an accomplice? It would make sense. In recent days, several fatalities had occurred within the community, and the pooled resources, no matter how meticulously conserved, would hardly suffice for a few meals, truly a dire situation. In this icy peril, no one dared venture out recklessly. Regardless of whether Zhou Chen genuinely possessed ample supplies, Zhang Li could easily find a collaborator. Another rogue seeks to harm me. Whoever stands against him must meet their demise. Woof, woof. The group outside, amidst their various threats, perked up at the sound of barking, each one of them animatedly gesturing and swallowing their anticipation. Zhang Li wore a smug expression. I told you so. Zhou Chen must be hoarding a wealth of supplies. Everyone, including Chen Chong, and as the raucous threats echoed from that group of brutes, Zhou Chen retrieved a water gun from his space and filled it to the brim. To hell with you. If you wish to perish, I shall oblige. Zhou Chen inserted the barrel into the peephole and squeezed the trigger. The next moment, anguished screams erupted from outside the door. Those drenched instinctively sought refuge, but despite having finally donned their winter attire, they were still insufficiently warm. Venturing out in temperatures plummeting to -70 degrees was already perilous. Being doused with water now was akin to adding insult to injury. Upon reconciling, Chen Chong and the skinny monkey, eager to pledge their loyalty to Zhang Li, stood resolutely at the forefront, becoming the most severely drenched among them. The instant the water made contact with their skin, it felt like being flayed alive. The toy water gun in Zhou Chen's hand boasted significant pressure, with a reservoir capable of holding 1,000 milliliters. Under normal circumstances, this volume would be inconsequential, but at -70 degrees, even 100 milliliters splashed upon the skin could prove fatal. Following the initial chaos, the brutes quickly distanced themselves, yet they did not concede defeat. The fire in the hearth blazed vigorously, and Zhou Chen, clad in a temperature-regulating suit, felt no chill at the door, sheltered by 2 layers of protection. He even fetched a chair, leisurely enduring the standoff. Each time someone approached, he would immediately fire. After several repetitions, within mere minutes, these brutes could no longer withstand the torment, and, trembling, limped away. Before departing, Zhang Li issued a fierce threat. Zhou Chen, I will surely break your limbs and cast you outside to freeze to death. Zhou Chen's gaze sharpened, his tone dripping with disdain. Bring it on. Let us see who meets their end first. Returning to the living room, Zhou Chen began to ponder. This band of ruffians was merely a disorganized mob. Dismantling them was as simple as tossing a morsel to a dog. He was unwilling to waste even a grain of food. Reflecting on the attire of Zhang Li and his cohorts, it was evident that the presence of several stout winter coats could not be the result of an individual's efforts. This implied that a formidable force was backing Zhang Li. A plan swiftly formed in Zhou Chen's mind, and he dialed Lao Sun's number, only to discover that it was switched off. Had Lao Sun encountered trouble, or had he joined the opposing faction? Just then, a voice from outside broke through, Lao Sun's voice. Xiao Zhou, are you all right? Uncertain of Lao Sun's allegiance, Zhou Chen refrained from opening the door. He approached the entrance and peered through the peephole, catching sight of Lao Sun alone. I'm fine. That's a relief. Understanding Zhou Chen's hesitation to open the door, Lao Sun continued. I sensed something amiss over the past few days. I discovered that someone has been clandestinely forming alliances, secretly contacting some homeowners, though I was unsure of their intentions. I had hoped to investigate further, but it seems your enemies have found you first. Zhou Chen inquired, what about your phone? Lao Sun's expression turned regretful. It was damaged by the cold and won't power on. Zhou Chen pondered for a moment before suggesting, how about this? You return to your room first, and I shall place a walkie-talkie at the entrance. Retrieve it in a minute, and we shall use it to communicate. Lao Sun nodded, drawing in his neck as he rubbed his hands together before departing. Zhou Chen, after ensuring that Lao Sun had entered the adjacent door through the peephole, pressed his ear to the door for an extended period, confirming that no suspicious sounds emanated from the outside. He then retrieved a sharp machete from his space and cautiously lifted 3 bolts, carefully opening the door crack. After placing the walkie-talkie outside, he swiftly closed the door and secured the bolts. Upon acquiring the walkie-talkie, Lao Sun promptly contacted Zhou Chen. Zhou Chen laid out his plan, stating, you may refuse. Lao Sun's expression darkened as he sighed. Must it truly come to this? His words were not directed at Zhou Chen, but were merely an expression of his own dismay. Observing the child curled beneath the blanket, sniffling, his heart ached even more. Lao Sun then declared, no problem, we shall proceed as you suggest. However, I have one condition. I assure you that the provisions will meet your satisfaction. It is acceptable if the supplies are scarce or even absent. I wish to leave the child in your care. Zhou Chen, who was grilling a crucian carp over the fire, nearly toppled into the flames upon hearing this. No way. Lao Sun continued his plea. I still have some food. You can use it to feed him. It would merely be a temporary arrangement, and once your matters are settled, the child will return to me. Zhou Chen furrowed his brow. Lao Sun, do you realize what you are proposing? In such perilous circumstances, how can you ensure his safety? Lao Sun managed a bitter smile. Xiao Zhou, your youth prevents you from comprehending my sentiments. Due to my disability, I have no wife to share warmth with, no children to experience the joys of fatherhood, and certainly no opportunity to cradle a grandchild. This child was once full of life, calling me grandpa every time we met. At that time, I was merely moved. As we spent time together, I have truly come to regard him as my own grandson. Zhou Chen understood then that Lao Sun had developed genuine feelings. Lao Sun's voice came through again. Xiao Zhou, this child truly has no family left. On the night of the typhoon, his brother was on a high-speed train, and after a night had passed, they lost contact. It is likely that his fate is dire. Since he has called me grandpa, I cannot simply abandon him. I assure you it will only be a temporary arrangement. I will find another solution. After much contemplation, Zhou Chen conceded. In light of the fact that his father was a martyr, I will agree, temporarily. He reiterated, only temporarily, expecting Lao Sun to express his gratitude. A knock at the door interrupted. Xiao Zhou, Zhou Chen thought, that was rather swift. He cautiously surveyed the hallway, where only a pair of round eyes from a nesting doll and the beaming face of Lao Sun were visible. As the door opened, Lao Sun hastily handed the child to Zhou Chen, followed by a multitude of bags. Wait, what are all these? Zhou Chen inquired. Lao Sun pointed to several bags of varying sizes on the floor. These are the child's change of clothes, 2 thick blankets, and this small bag contains his meals. Zhou Chen surveyed the deflated little bag, which likely contained the last remnants of food from old Sunday. An intense premonition surged within him as he gazed upon the collection of items. Old Sun was entrusting him with a legacy. Aware of the ample supplies Zhou Chen possessed, grain, medicine, and a fireplace, Old Sun must have packed his belongings days prior, awaiting the right moment. It was undoubtedly so. Frustrated, Zhou Chen merely picked up the bag filled with clothes, stating, you must take these back. Without waiting for Old Sun's refusal, he shut the door firmly. He returned the nesting doll to its original place, took an apple, and set a box of milk beside it before preparing some provisions: bread, eggs, noodles, dumplings, buns, corn, and potatoes. Considering the impending water and power outages, he refrained from including rice. He stuffed a large bag to the brim and called Old Sun to the door via intercom. Upon opening the bag, Old Sun was taken aback by the sheer quantity of supplies inside. This, Zhou Chen remarked, is far more persuasive when tangible. Old Sun instinctively inquired, how much more do you have? Sensing the shift in Zhou Chen's demeanor, he quickly clarified, do not misunderstand. We are truly running low. Several buildings have descended into chaos, and I fear a major upheaval is imminent. Any single item from this bag could sway people's hearts. A few in this building remain reliable. Zhou Chen remained unflappable. You need only seek. A hint of ill intent is inconsequential. Those with corrupt hearts, no matter how strong, are utterly unwelcome. These supplies are too valuable for me to squander on the unworthy. Old Sun, not one for pretense, agreed. Very well. I shall make contact immediately. Zhou Chen had barely stood at the door for 2 minutes before the cold became unbearable. It was easy to imagine how difficult life was for the other residents. Rubbing his hands together, he approached the fireplace and tossed in a few logs. Just as he extended his hands to warm them, a soft, childish voice called out, Daddy. Zhou Chen was taken aback. I am not. I don't have. Please do not shout such things. In Chapter 26, a 360-degree cold shower, refreshing or not. The nesting doll held a half-eaten apple, its round eyes brimming with tears. Following the child's gaze, Zhou Chen realized it was the image of a traffic officer from a television show, the striking uniform evoking memories of the child's father. At just 5 years old, the child had lost both parents overnight. Children, though sensitive and astute, may not grasp the concept of death, yet they instinctively sense the absence of their parents, leading to a sudden onset of autism. With the only remaining family member now unaccounted for, Zhou Chen couldn't help but recall his own loss on the same day. However, he had been an adult then, having wept countless times and gradually emerged from sorrow with cherished memories of his parents. Daddy, the nesting doll called out again. Zhou Chen turned off the television and switched to Peppa Pig. As the pink pig appeared, the nesting doll looked somewhat bewildered. After a moment of bewilderment, his gaze turned vacant, and he once again became immersed in his own world. The flames danced upon the child's round face, and as Zhou Chen observed for a while, he noticed that the child's skin appeared abnormal. When Lao Sun had handed him over earlier, The child had been bundled up, revealing only a pair of eyes. Now, having unwrapped his scarf to eat an apple, a rosy face was exposed. Delicate cracks and frostbite marred the skin, indicating the child had suffered from the cold. A faint scent reminiscent of baby lotion lingered in the air. It was evident that Lao's son had taken great care of the child. Yet he could not withstand the harshness of the frigid temperatures. Zhou Chen reached out to touch the child's forehead, finding his temperature to be normal. Nearby, De Huang, anxious about losing affection, wagged his tail and approached. Zhou Chen gently shooed De Huang aside and examined the child's belongings. Although there were plenty of clothes of decent quality, none were winter garments. Judging by the child's round figure, it was clear that he had been dressed in layers of long sleeves. The supplies in the space were abundant. Yet there was a conspicuous absence of winter clothing for children. Thankfully, the house had a cozy fireplace. He filled a kettle with mineral water and placed it over the fire to boil while retrieving a small bathtub and toiletries for children. Zhou Chen rolled up his sleeves and began to undress the child. True to form, the layers came off, revealing dozens of garments. With socks piled into a small mountain in the living room, the bare-bottomed child was slightly thinner than expected, his skin pale and tender. With red bumps of frostbite on his hands and feet, he placed the child in the tub and started washing from the hair down. A child who is withdrawn possesses the virtue of being quiet and compliant, allowing him to wash and scrub without protest. After bathing, the child sat on the sofa, wrapped in a woolen blanket, while his damp hair was dried. Zhou Chen found a child-specific moisturizer and frostbite ointment from the space, taking another 10 minutes for the application. In the pleasant warmth of the environment, the heavy constraints lifted, and the child fell into a deep, restful sleep. Looking at the pile of dirty clothes, Zhou Chen felt no inclination to wash them immediately, opting instead to gather them into a bag. After a brief rest, he began preparing dinner. With a roaring fire, how could he resist making a beggaress chicken? The earth was plentiful in the orchard of the space. He wrapped the marinated chicken in cleaned lotus leaves, evenly coating it with mud, and placed it atop the firewood in the fireplace. Lamb legs were scored and skewered on the grill, seasoned, and slowly roasted over gentle heat. 8 treasure rice was placed in a clay pot to simmer. As Zhou Chen was picking vegetables, a loud knocking echoed at the door once more. Zhou Chen, you have 1 minute to open the door. We can smell the meat. You've indeed hidden something good. If you don't want the entire building to come after you, you'd better hand over the goods. Zhongli led the charge, shouting and pounding on the door. Zhou Chen's temper flared, and he tossed the basket of vegetables aside. Seeking death, he retrieved a tank filled with mineral water from the space, along with a hose and a sprinkler head used for park irrigation. A hose connected at one end to a water tank and at the other to a nozzle was brought to the doorway, where the nozzle was inserted into a hole and the pressure valve was turned on. Outside the door, a raucous group of individuals emitted sounds akin to the cries of slaughtered pigs. This time, they returned with a vengeance, deliberately avoiding the peephole's position and taking positions on either side. Little did they anticipate that Zhou Chen possessed a 360-degree sprinkler that left no angle unsoaked. The moment the room temperature mineral water sprayed forth, it transformed into icy water. Those who ran swiftly were doused with frigid water, while those who lagged behind felt as if they were caught in a freezing rain. In the extreme cold, each person was left screaming in agony. The icy water quickly froze, clinging to their scalps, faces, necks, and hands. Every inch of skin felt as if it were being sliced by knives. Zhou Chen's arrogant laughter echoed through the door, reaching every ear. A 360-degree cold shower, was it refreshing? It was excruciating. Instinctively, everyone attempted to brush away the ice. Chen Chong suffered the most. The ice water had encased his entire face, and the stinging pain rendered his breathing labored. In a moment of panic, he inadvertently slapped one of his ears. Chen Chong cradled his left ear, his emotions spiraling out of control. Zhongli reprimanded him. Shut up. What are you shrieking about? Chen Chong, with his hands outstretched, looked at everyone in terror. My ear, quickly take me to the hospital. Upon seeing Chen Chong holding his left ear, everyone recoiled in fear, checking to ensure their own ears remained intact. In a state of despair, Chen Chong clutched Zhongli's collar. Zhong, please, take me to the hospital. Zhongli forcefully pried Chen Chong's hands away and pushed him aside. Chen Chong then rushed towards the others. Xiao Chui, Xiao Zhong, Thin Monkey, Xiao Shen, you must take me to the hospital. I need to get my ears stitched back on. Both those named and those not named were retreating from Chen Chong. The flood, several meters deep, had already submerged the hospital, burying buildings and equipment beneath layers of ice. Even if there were upper-level operating rooms or surviving doctors, were there conditions to perform surgery? Moreover, they could not escape. In the biting cold of -70 degrees, their clothing was insufficient for warmth. Spending more than 20 minutes outside left their limbs stiff and movement slow, and a delayed return indoors could result in a fatal freeze. Zhongli gritted his teeth. We must withdraw. Back on the 8th floor, the empty living room blazed with a roaring fire, the firewood consisting of wooden furniture. A few tall men lounged on the sofa, passing around a bottle of erguo, consuming strong liquor and exchanging lewd banter. The doors to 2 bedrooms were tightly shut, from which the sounds of male laughter emerged. Oh, have you only been gone a few minutes? Truly pathetic, returning like a dog so quickly. Huh, if he weren't pathetic. How could he offer a woman to our captain? Haha, to willingly don a green hat. This is a first for me. Heh, I must admit, that woman is truly exceptional. It makes my heart race. Impatience lingered in the air as Zhang Li's countenance darkened with indignation, feeling an immense humiliation. His fury reached a boiling point. Yet he remained silent, rooted to the spot, devoid of the courage to confront them, let alone resort to physical altercation. Initially, when the conflict erupted, both parties had exchanged blows, but despite their numbers, they were outmatched by a mere 5 or 6 adversaries. These individuals were seasoned fighters, striking swiftly and mercilessly, wielding clubs and hammers without regard for life. Cooperation thrives on a foundation of parity, yet they found themselves at a distinct disadvantage from the very outset. The door to the master bedroom swung open, revealing a brawny man with a scarred face, who emerged with a sense of satisfaction, adjusting his trousers as he walked. Through the crack of the door, one could glimpse a woman lying on the bed, weeping, with a menacing glare. The scarred man raised his hand and delivered a resounding slap to Zhang Li's face, exclaiming, "I do not provide resources merely to collaborate with a bunch of useless fools. If so many of you cannot breach a single door, what purpose do you serve?" Chapter 27. I do not accept rubbish, Xiao Zhou. I have gathered the information. Came Lao Sun's voice over the intercom, while Zhou Chen was dressing a little boy. The child wore a pair of tiny trousers, a thermal shirt, and woolen socks, topped with Zhou Chen's sweater that just covered the tops of his feet. The sleeves were rolled up, allowing for ample movement. On the dining table, dishes exuding a gentle fragrance of lotus leaves were laid out. Fragrant beggar's chicken, golden and juicy roasted leg of lamb, 2 plates of vegetables, a bowl of fruit salad, and a pot of 8 treasure porridge. Zhou Chen placed the little boy on a chair, set a small bowl of porridge beside him to cool, then tore off a chicken leg, added 2 pieces of lamb, and some vegetables onto the empty plate in front of him. The eagerly awaiting dog, Da Huang, drooled beside him, wagging its tail. Watching the little boy pick up his chopsticks, Zhou Chen seized the intercom. "Who is that man?" Lao Sun replied immediately, his voice low. "He is our vice captain, nicknamed Scar." Zhou Chen pressed for clarification. Lao Sun continued, "He is well connected, rumored to have served time in prison, with a relative in a position of authority who placed him here. His temperament is peculiar. He disregards even our captain. Do you recall the list of candidates for the building manager designated by the community committee? The representative from Block 21 is him." However, Zhou Chen grasped the situation. Obstructing someone's financial pursuits is akin to murdering their kin, and now he had become their target. Someone had proactively sought to join forces against him, leading to a swift alliance. Lao Sun elaborated. On the night of the typhoon, Scar happened to invite a few colleagues to play poker at the captain's residence. They've been staying there ever since, while the owners across the way are out of town. They pried open the door and locked those women inside. Zhou Chen's mind began to piece together the unsettling answer. Women? The girlfriends of that pack of brutes, Zhangli? Lao Sun responded affirmatively. Indeed. There is also that female tenant from apartment 602. This information was gleaned using the resources you provided. My captain vehemently opposed the actions of those with scarred faces, resulting in a beating, and he was confined with those women. At this point, the typically righteous Lao Sun was filled with righteous indignation. Damn it, this is utterly lawless. Worse than beasts. Curse their ancestors for generations. Xiao Zhou, when shall we take action? I, Lao Sun, will lead the charge and eliminate those vile creatures. Zhou Chen took a bite of lamb and inquired, "How goes the other matter you were handling?" Lao Sun replied, "I am in the process of addressing it. Yet most remain unwilling to engage. They are kind-hearted and timid." Zhou Chen could not help but scoff, though he expressed understanding. There is no need to force them. Those people are not virtuous and will inevitably come knocking on doors one by one. When they find themselves with no way out, they will naturally seek you out. That night, anguished screams and cries echoed from below. "What are you doing? Is there no law? Please, this is the last of my family's food. My child." It was not only Building 21. Similar violent home invasions transpired in the other 29 buildings. The victims were mostly young couples, elderly individuals living alone, and solitary men and women. Through the windows, one could see a group armed with torches raiding from the 6th to the 10th floor, amidst the chaos. A homeowner was pushed off a balcony. The sound of the fall was a chilling thud, reverberating through the nearby buildings, sending shivers down the spines of the residents. Following this scene, many victims who attempted to resist, for the sake of their own safety and that of their families, abandoned their defiance. helplessly watching as these thugs ransacked their homes, seizing all provisions, as well as valuables like gold, watches, and cigarettes. These beasts bore the weight of lives lost. They may have felt fear or even regret in that moment, yet as the harsh environment persisted, they realized they would not face legal repercussions, only escalating their brutality. One life is a burden. 2 lives are also a burden. The social fabric began to unravel. This was merely the first night. The chaos would only intensify, with lives becoming as expendable as blades of grass. Zhou Chen drew the curtains and donned a bathrobe as he made his way to the living room. He had placed a child's bed by the fireplace, layered with cotton padding and covered with a wool blanket, creating a soft and comfortable haven. The child, clad only in autumn attire, was snuggled beneath 2 lightweight down comforters, sleeping soundly, undisturbed by the tumult outside. On the second night, the turmoil in the community escalated further. The residents, already suffering from hunger and cold, lacked the strength to resist against a pack of ferocious beasts. Some homeowners had their winter clothing stripped away, and within minutes, they were left as lifeless corpses. On the third night and the fourth night, civilization succumbed to moral decay, and social order collapsed entirely. From the 5th day onward, those beasts began to terrorize during the day, leaving the timid and cowardly residents in profound despair. It was not merely the Sakura community. A similar tragedy unfolded across all neighborhoods in the city, with thick smoke billowing and countless casualties. Zhou Chen placed a cup of warm milk before the child, encouraging him to call him daddy. He had learned from old son that the child's name was Chuzakai. For the past few days, aside from dealing with the harassment from Zhang Li and his band of beasts, he had been attempting to coax the little one into calling him daddy. Unfortunately, the child was withdrawn, consuming food when offered, drinking water when presented, and relieving himself without complaint. He remained indifferent even when his toy was snatched by the large dog. Upon seeing police officers on television, he would call out daddy, and upon seeing soldiers, he would refer to them as brother. When he spotted an actress named Jiang Xin, he would call her mama. Beyond these interactions, he remained ensconced in his own isolated world. Zhou Chen found himself exasperated. Yet he still had to meticulously care for the child's 3 meals a day. Prolonged exposure to the heat would accelerate the evaporation of moisture from the skin, leading to dryness and dehydration. Once the child finished the milk, he began to apply some fragrant lotion. Magic City, being an economic hub, had many supplies washed away into the river when seawater surged into the city. During the 3 days Zhou Chen spent by the riverside, he salvaged numerous luxury men's skincare products, high-end women's skincare items, and even some for children. After residing in Zhou Chen's home for 10 days, the child's skin resembled that of a peeled egg, smooth and tender. Achoo! The little one sneezed, captivated by the fragrance. Zhou Chen sliced a plate of fruit and placed it in the center of the sofa, applying a sumptuous moisturizing mask to his face. Stretching his long legs and feeling utterly comfortable, suddenly, his phone rang. It was Su Wanswan, who had been silent for so long. As Zhou Chen munched on fruit, he answered the call. There was no voice on the line, only the sound of breathing and a stifled sob. At that moment, Su Wanswan appeared disheveled and gaunt, with handprints on her face and blood at the corner of her mouth, curled up in her blanket in a state of undress. Fearing that Zhou Chen might grow impatient and hang up, she hurriedly suppressed her emotions of grievance, seizing this rare opportunity to seek help while those beasts were absent. "Ah Chen, please save me." Old Sun had been secretly active, using supplies to gather intelligence about the entire building, including the plights of women like Su Wanswan. Initially, Zhang Li sought cooperation with Scarface. Upon learning that Zhou Chen possessed substantial resources and having several photographs as evidence, Scarface naturally did not refuse. However, he had long since grasped the specifics of these individual situations. The first step in their collaboration was that he would provide food and winter clothing, while Zhang Li would supply women for their amusement. A group of beasts on the brink of starvation and freezing naturally agreed to this demand. Women are like clothing. How can they compare to one's own life? Su Wanswan pleaded through tears. "Ah Chun, for the sake of our past, please save me. I know you still have supplies. If you could spare just a little." Su Wanswan perked up her ears, acutely attuned to the sounds emanating from the living room. The audible click of the lock sent shivers coursing through her body, compelling her to cower further into the corner. The memories of her recent mistreatment and the increasingly dehumanizing behavior of the scarred man filled her with regret. She understood that Zhou Chen would not easily forgive her, yet she felt compelled to take a gamble. With desperation, Su Wanswan declared, "Zhou Chen, if you are willing to rescue me, if you would let me stay in your home, I would gladly serve as your maid." Zhou Chen smirked, a cold laughter escaping his lips as he replied, "I do not accept refuse." Chapter 28. Esteemed one, please accept my knees. The biting wind howled like a beast, coating the walls of the room with a layer of frost. The temperature had plummeted further, and amidst a severe scarcity of resources, death was an everyday occurrence. Within room 802, a dozen disheveled women huddled together on a single bed, seeking warmth in each other's company. No one found it cramped. They longed to be even closer. It was unbearably cold. Starvation gnawed at them, and despite their exhaustion, they dared not fall asleep, each fearing that slumber would claim them forever. Suddenly, the door was violently kicked open, and a frigid gust swept in, eliciting terrified gasps from the women as the cold air assaulted them. A group of men clad in padded jackets and hats surged in. Disregarding their young citizen carefully discerned the direction in which the group had ventured. They headed towards buildings 9, 10, and 11. The young girl gritted her teeth, rose from her bed, and braved the biting cold, tiptoeing to the door. She listened intently to the sounds outside, returning to her bed with a face full of despair. It's no use. There are guards outside. We cannot escape. Yang Sitian regained her composure and reassured her. Do not fret. Even if we could flee, where would we go? Many floors have been controlled by these people, and no one would dare offer us refuge. If we are to escape, we must prepare meticulously. Otherwise, we may not only be captured but also succumb to the freezing cold outside. The young girl, visibly anxious, replied. But that beast has only given us 3 days. Who can we rely on in such a short time? I would rather leap to my death than become like them. Yang Sitian embraced the girl's shoulders, her expression resolute. You saved my life and have always protected me. Rest assured, I will find a way to get you out. If I cannot, I shall jump with you. The young girl, moved, said, Sitian, I am grateful to have you by my side. I truly regret not heeding my uncle's advice. He always taught me that girls should be well-behaved and sensible, warning me against wandering outside, claiming it was dangerous and that he might not always be able to protect me. I never imagined. Yang Sitian could not help but scoff at herself. Did I not also end up in this predicament over a bag? You are paying the price for your recklessness. And I too must bear the consequences of my vanity. At this moment, she recalled the warning from Zhou Chen, inviting the wolf into the house. How apt it was. Thinking of Zhou Chen, Yang Sitian immediately perked up. I believe there is only one person who can save us now. Fearing the guards outside might overhear them, the two girls huddled beneath the blankets and deliberated for a long time. On the top floor, Zhou Chen, peering through binoculars, clearly saw Zhang Li and others leading a group of women into the 10th apartment building. Through the stairwell windows of each floor, he observed them ascend to the 9th floor. The door was opened by Aunt Wang from the neighborhood committee, and they exchanged a few words at the entrance, leaving 2 women behind while escorting the others to different floors above. Through the floor-to-ceiling window of one resident's home, Zhou Chen noticed a rotund man handing over a packet of instant noodles, selecting one of the women to take into the room. Su Ro and Li Sisi were among this group of women, once a campus beauty and a class flower, now appearing disheveled and haggard, with visible scars on their faces. Zhou Chen almost failed to recognize them. Every cause has its effect. Now treated as mere commodities to be exchanged for supplies, they had brought this upon themselves. Zhou Chen's heart remained tranquil, devoid of any sympathy for their plight. However, Aunt Wang piqued his interest. In this power outage, mobile phones had become mere ornaments, and the once boisterous residence group had transformed into a silent one. He had thought Aunt Wang, at her age, would have perished from hunger or cold. Yet she not only survived but appeared quite well fed, now even engaging in the role of a madam. Impressive. Indeed, those who lack shame become invincible. Yet, how could there be so many people with resources in the 10th building? The resources are abundant enough to be used as currency? A sense of unease crept upon Zhou Chen, as he harbored a lingering suspicion that a grander scheme was afoot. The crackle of static emanated from the walkie-talkie. Old Sun was calling for him. It seemed that after a fortnight, Old Sun had finally made some significant progress. Zhou Chen picked up the device and responded. Old Sun's heavy breathing revealed the toll of the cold. It's done. Initially, these individuals were reluctant. Some clung to their homes while others were consumed by various fears. Now, having realized the gravity of their situations, they all agree to follow your directives, though they have one condition. They hope you can provide resources. Zhou Chen responded with a cold smirk. Of course, provided they comply. He had grown weary of the incessant harassment from those beasts. The longer this dragged on, the more advantageous it would be for them to amass resources, placing him at a greater disadvantage. He needed to cultivate his own power to counteract them. He would supply the resources while this group of expendables would exert their efforts. In a world governed by the survival of the fittest, it was either perish or thrive through one's own merit. The supplies within his space were sufficient for a lifetime. Yet he could not afford to squander them on a band of useless individuals. Moreover, how could he sustain them? The age-old adage of a favor today may lead to resentment tomorrow rang true. If he generously offered resources today, he would face dire consequences tomorrow should he fail to provide. If there were those willing to fight for their survival, they would need to earn it themselves. After half an hour of deliberation, they resolved to act that very night. As Zhou Chen prepared to draw the curtains, a fleeting glance caught his eye. On the 14th floor across the way, a woman was fervently waving at him, dressed in thick winter attire and sporting binoculars around her neck. She gestured excitedly while pointing at a notepad in her hands. Zhou Chen raised the binoculars to his eyes, magnifying the scene before him. A young girl, disheveled yet not unkempt, emerged in view. She seemed to belong to the resource-rich class. However, after a month, even the most affluent would likely find their supplies dwindling. He focused on her notepad, which bore the words, "Zhou Chen, look here." Upon realizing he was observing her, the girl became animated, hastily erasing her message and scribbling an 11-digit number, gesturing to indicate a phone call. Who was this girl? Zhou Chen, possessing an excellent memory, quickly noted the number. The phone rang once before being answered almost instantly. The voice on the other end trembled, whether from the cold or excitement, perhaps a combination of both. "Boss, please accept my submission." Chapter 29. The comedic young lady. The phone, now on speaker, rested upon the coffee table in front of the fireplace. Flanking the table were two armchairs occupied by a large figure and a small one, with a golden retriever lounging nearby. Both the adult and the child held cups of fruit salad, and even the dog had an apple to gnaw on. Life was indeed indulgent. As the other party spoke animatedly, Zhou Chen gleaned her identity and the reason for her approach. Qi Rou, aged 20, a wealthy second-generation heir, and a first-year student at a teacher-training university. This affluent second-generation individual is entirely distinct from others of her kind. She possesses no interest in nightlife, extravagant parties, shopping sprees, travel, reckless driving, or studying abroad. Her sole passion lies in the comfort of her home, engrossed in her own world. Her mother passed away at a young age, and her biological father remarried, producing a younger brother. With a stepmother comes a stepfather, who, apart from providing financial support, shows little concern for her well-being. Consequently, Qi Rou has retreated further into her solitude, distancing herself from the outside world. As soon as summer vacation commenced, she ventured to the supermarket and amassed supplies worth 20,000 yuan, choosing to remain indoors day after day. To indulge her viewing habits, she owns 5 mobile phones and 10 portable chargers. Considering her solitary lifestyle, her grandmother, prioritizing safety, had fortifications made to the home's entrances 2 years prior. The main door, in addition to the outer security gate, is reinforced with an iron grille and an inner iron door, while the windows are equipped with protective grills. When calamity struck, she found herself comfortably sheltered at home, unaffected save for the chill. Recently, the neighborhood has been plagued by violent incidents, and her building, number 19, has seen a gang attempt to invade her home thrice. Each time they pried open the security door, they were thwarted by the 2 additional barriers. Due to the extreme cold, prolonged outdoor exposure was unfeasible, leading the gang to abandon their plans after 3 failed attempts. Although Qi Rou indeed spent 20,000 yuan on supplies, her purchases were made at an import supermarket, primarily consisting of imported goods, which, despite the hefty price tag, amounted to little in terms of actual sustenance. Staple foods were scarce, with snacks like drinks, chips, and nuts constituting half of her stock. These supplies were nearly depleted on the day of the typhoon, leaving her with just enough to scrape by until now. As the chaos in her neighborhood escalated and she narrowly escaped harm on 3 occasions, anxiety began to creep in, especially with her dwindling resources. A few days prior, she had taken note of the household across from her on the top floor. In the bitter cold of -70 degrees, other residents had burned their furniture for warmth, now left huddled in bed like her. However, the family on the top floor maintained a constant flame in their home. Using binoculars, she peered through the curtains and was astonished to discover that they not only had children, but also a dog. While children are not surprising when warmth is assured, the presence of a dog is indeed remarkable. To her knowledge, nearly all the pet dogs in the neighborhood had perished. During the flooding, some residents resorted to killing dogs for meat, the anguished barks echoing day and night. In the biting cold, dogs either succumbed to starvation, froze to death, were consumed by their owners, or stolen by neighbors. In short, she had not heard a single bark in half a month. Yet, the family across the way not only refrained from slaughtering their dog, but had also managed to keep it plump and well-groomed, a clear indication of their abundant resources. After observing quietly for several days, she made yet another astonishing discovery, as other residents appear gaunt and disheveled. The gentleman residing on the top floor across the way indulges in a daily facial mask, nonchalantly draping himself in a robe that accentuates his physique, slim when clothed, yet robust when revealed. In short, he is strikingly handsome. Oh my goodness! With my decade-long experience as a voracious reader, I can confidently assert that she is not mistaken. In a post-apocalyptic scenario, such a figure would undoubtedly embody the quintessential heroic male lead. Indeed, She has set her sights on him, summoning her courage. She readies her kitchen knife and pepper spray, intending to pay him a visit today, hoping to barter her meager supplies for a seat on his luxurious sofa, particularly as he seems quite affluent, maintaining a constant warmth in his abode. Yet, she is not foolish enough to venture out unprepared. Sitting on her bed, she tunes into the sounds of the entire building, utilizing binoculars to survey the nearby residential structures, waiting for the nefarious individuals in her building to depart before she makes her move. It is then that she spots two women on the 8th floor across the way. In the frigid temperature of -70 degrees, these women daringly open a window, repeatedly gesturing towards her. Luckily, having studied lip reading in her youth, she discerns that they are calling for help. Being a mere damsel herself, younger than the two women, she realizes they are not seeking her assistance, but rather hoping she might connect them with the esteemed gentleman on the top floor. How fortuitous. Chi-Ro feels as though her throat might ignite. Esteemed sir, do you grasp my meaning? Those two young ladies have expressed that if you are willing to part with some supplies to redeem them, they would be more than willing to serve you. The one named Yang Sitian stated that if given a moment to recover, she would be the first to confront your enemy. Zhou Chen sets aside his half-eaten fruit bowl, rubbing his temples. Then why don't they strike now? Are today's young ladies so eloquent? After half an hour of chatter, I am only now afforded the opportunity to speak. His head throbs. Chi-Ro scratches her head. It seems they have been stripped of their winter coats, and someone is watching over them. Zhou Chen chuckles mockingly. Are you trying to be a good Samaritan? Of course not. It's merely incidental. The voice of a girl from the phone comes through, laced with feigned sweetness. Esteemed sir, I still possess a few supplies and humbly request a sofa in your living room. My home lacks firewood for warmth. Even if I do not freeze to death, I cannot cook. The buns are harder than stone, and my teeth are at risk of crumbling. Moreover, those villains will certainly not spare my family. Zhou Chen remains speechless. No, were it not for Lao Sun's assistance, he would not have temporarily sheltered this young girl, and he certainly would not extend kindness to outsiders. Women are untrustworthy. In this day and age, there are plenty of young girls skilled in deception. It's possible someone is laying a trap for him. No. My esteemed friend, came a lamenting wail. I can care for children, and I can also tend to dogs. As long as you extend your benevolence and grant me a humble sofa, I shall become the most loyal and dedicated caretaker in the galaxy. Can you care for children? That might indeed be of some utility. Zhou Chen chuckled at the amusing side of the other. Are you truly willing to part with your home? Chi-Ro responded with unwavering determination. Money is but a material possession. When one closes their eyes for the final time, a mere box is the ultimate destination for humanity. What use is a home when life itself is lost? Upon hearing this, Zhou Chen found a measure of admiration for her nonchalance. If the residents that old Sun had secretly contacted shared such a carefree attitude, their matters would have been resolved long ago. After a moment's contemplation, Zhou Chen replied, while entry into my dwelling is out of the question, I can arrange alternative accommodations for you, provided you remain obedient and care for the child. You shall not be deprived of resources. Chi-Ro exclaimed excitedly over the phone. I promise to speak little, work diligently, and avoid causing trouble. Following her excitement, Chi-Ro did not forget to mention the dire circumstances of the two young women on the 8th floor. Esteemed friend, what about those two young ladies? Zhou Chen absently tapped his fingers on the table. Relay this to them. I will not barter resources for their freedom. The opportunity to survive must be earned through their own efforts. He was unaware of the identity of the woman accompanying Yang Sitian. Yet there was potential in Yang Sitian herself. The ability to seek help amidst despair exemplified a certain tenacity. However, what relevance did it hold for him? At 2 in the morning, a time when most slumber deeply, a portion of the surviving residents of Building 21 had not succumbed to sleep. Instead, they quietly shouldered their belongings and stealthily exited their homes. Without a word, they tread lightly down the stairs, step by step, ascending towards the upper floors. Zhou Chen shed his usual languor, donning a winter coat, insulated boots, and a helmet, exuding an air of authority. For precaution, he had inserted steel plates into both the front and back of his attire. Armed with a mountain knife in his left hand and an electric baton in his right, with an axe hanging from his belt, he stepped out of the door fully equipped. Chapter 30. The expendable neighbors in the biting cold. The relocating residents gathered on the 15th floor. Women covered their children's mouths, huddling tightly in their husband's embrace. Each person was tense, anxiously awaiting the unknown. The corridor was shrouded in darkness, with only a faint sliver of moonlight illuminating a corner window. Soft footsteps echoed from above, and a tall figure emerged into the moonlight. Old Sun stepped out from the crowd, lowering his voice. Xiao Zhou? Zhou Chen produced a flashlight, scanning the area to find approximately 25 individuals. Both men and women appeared gaunt and emaciated, with no elderly present, and the few children were all over 10 years of age. It seemed that the elderly and infants within the building had not survived. In just a month since the calamity, half of the residents in a single building had perished. How many had succumbed across the city? And how many had died nationwide? Yet this is merely the beginning. As various natural disasters descend upon us, the environment for survival continuously shrinks, and resources become alarmingly scarce. The number of survivors will inevitably dwindle. He tossed a bag. Let us head to 1502. First, let us partake of some sustenance. Gazing at the bag on the ground, knowing it contained supplies, the crowd was filled with the sound of swallowed saliva. A father of 2 children gently patted his wife's hand for comfort, trembling as he stepped forward to retrieve the bag. Turning to lead his wife and children into the house. Lured by the promise of food, others followed suit. The bag was not large, and the provisions scant. Sufficient only for tonight's meal. Yet, for those who had gone days without food, it was a source of immense joy. With food comes motivation. Several women settled their children, braving the biting cold to open windows and fetch ice to boil water. Frying a batch of eggs and submerging handfuls of noodles into the boiling water, then patiently waiting. Steam rose from the pot, wafting the aroma of egg soup, causing both adults and children to experience rumbling bellies. Meanwhile, the men gathered in the master bedroom to deliberate on the next steps. A solitary candle flickered on the table, while old Sun huddled with others in a corner, and Zhou Chen stood at the door, armed and vigilant. Civilization had collapsed, and human nature had turned malignant. He dared not expose his back to others. The group outside, with their children, posed little threat. A ragged assembly of men, initially taken aback by Zhou Chen's full armament, soon became fixated on his winter attire. They were all bundled up, shivering from the cold, while Zhou Chen appeared scarcely clad, yet seemed unfazed by the chill. Zhou Chen inquired of Old Sun, "Is everyone here?" Old Sun had already counted and replied, "No, 2 households are still absent. One refuses to leave the remains of their parents, and the other likely fears retribution from Scarface." Zhou Chen waved dismissively. "It matters not. Such timid souls cannot accomplish much, and their presence would only squander resources." He scanned the familiar faces of neighbors he had known for over a decade. Zhou Chen got straight to the point. "I shall not waste words. You are all acutely aware of our predicament. If you are willing to cooperate, there will be ample provisions." In the crowd, someone raised a hand. "Zhou Chen, can the supplies you possess truly sustain us all?" They could scarcely produce a single packet of instant noodles. Could Zhou Chen really support over 20 individuals? The thought ignited a spark of greed in the darkness. Zhou Chen, wielding a machete, tapped his clothing. "I can venture out to gather supplies. Can you endure the outdoors for 20 minutes? Realization dawned. The man fell silent. Those harboring greed in the shadows temporarily quelled their sinister thoughts. Zhou Chen continued, "This collaboration is born out of a shared enemy. We are all striving for survival. You offer your labor, and I provide the supplies. It is a fair exchange. If your intent is merely to bide your time, I regret to inform you that there is no place for you here. Soon, I shall require you to take action. Even if you manage to survive this meal, you shall not secure the next. As for whether you choose to confine yourselves at home and await your demise, or seek refuge with the enemy, I shall not impede your decision. However, should you ally with the enemy, you must show no mercy when facing them." Upon hearing this, silence enveloped the room. In such circumstances, they risked becoming mere cannon fodder, losing their own lives without ensuring the safety of their wives and children. How long can they endure beyond tonight? In truth, they find themselves with no viable options. The ruthless gang led by Scar is still able to barter women for supplies. But once the resources in the community are depleted, they may resort to cannibalism. Even if starvation does not claim them, they will become nothing more than livestock. Apart from collaborating with Zhou Chen, it seems there are no alternatives. Furthermore, Old Sun has been providing everyone with a minimal amount of food daily. Half a bag of dumplings, 2 or 3 buns, a pack of instant noodles. Each morsel is a precious lifeline. According to Old Sun, these provisions are sourced by Zhou Chen, who ventures out into the night to procure them. In such bitterly cold weather, he truly manages to scavenge for supplies. Without Zhou Chen's assistance over the past 10 days, they would have perished from hunger long ago. Understanding that Zhou Chen lacks the gift of eloquence, Old Sun stepped forth to voice his sentiments. "Everyone, what is there left to hesitate about? If not for yourselves, should you not consider your wives and children? How many among you have watched your elderly parents starve themselves to save food for you, to ensure you have winter clothing? Your parents have locked themselves away, freezing to death. They have done this much for you, preserving the hope of life. You must strive to survive even in the face of insurmountable odds. Otherwise, how can you justify your existence to your parents?" Old Sun's words struck a chord, and the room filled with muffled sobs. A man, tears choking his voice, lamented, "Scar has killed my mother and wife. Were it not for my son, I would have confronted him long ago. I fear not death, but my son is only 11 years old." Zhou Chen replied, "In a confrontation, there are no guarantees of survival. Yet, If your strikes are fiercer than those of the enemy, it is they who shall fall. Scar's gang currently lacks for resources and will inevitably dominate the entire building. At that point, you will become expendable. If you do not serve as their dogs, how can your wives and children hope to live? These scoundrels will never part with food to nurture their own offspring. Consider the fate that awaits the women under their control. In fact, the beasts on the 8th floor have begun to set their sights on their wives. Having attempted forced entries on several occasions, Zhou Chen, unwilling to waste any more time, reiterated, "As I stated earlier, those unwilling to comply may eat this meal and leave. However, if you choose to cooperate, you must adhere to the arrangements. What is there to fear? We are all human, and in a conflict, injuries are inevitable. I can venture out to seek medical supplies, can they?" A man with a buzz cut stepped forward, questioning Zhou Chen. "You demand our obedience. But is it not your intention to use us as cannon fodder?" Zhou Chen gazed at him, a sardonic smile gracing his lips. "What other alternative do you propose? I am not your parent, providing you with resources for free." Upon hearing this, the men collectively inhaled sharply. The winter clothing in the south is notably lightweight, inherently less capable of withstanding the harsh cold compared to that of the north. In temperatures plummeting to -70 degrees, this group of beasts could gather countless garments. Yet they would scarcely endure 20 minutes outdoors. Zhou Chen, clad in thermal attire, layered with sweaters and thermal pants, along with a protective jacket, still felt a hint of chill while standing in the corridor. Old Sun promptly concurred, stating, "Given the current scarcity of supplies, is it realistic to send Xiao Zhou on a perilous quest for resources that may not even benefit him? Would any of you be willing to do the same?" He continued with bravado, "I will be the first to charge forth, and you can follow closely behind." It's perfectly normal to feel apprehensive during the initial confrontation. However, with experience, courage will grow. Let us not forget that these beasts have been increasingly associating with the rabble from the neighboring buildings. It won't be long before they attempt to dominate the entire community. Many who previously resisted their tyranny have met a grim fate, being cast from the heights. If death is inevitable, why not take a chance? These individuals, driven by an instinct for survival, naturally harbored doubts. Yet, upon hearing Zhou Chen and Old Sun's words, and catching a whiff of the fragrant egg noodles, their reservations began to dissipate. With death looming regardless, seizing an opportunity for life seemed preferable. They resolved to act. Zhou Chen declared, "You all should fill your bellies first. Old Sun, accompany me outdoors." The women and children waited eagerly, their eyes fixed on the table laden with large bowls of egg noodles. A throng of men streamed out, their eyes gleaming at the sight of the abundant noodles. Truly, it was egg noodles, rich in both eggs and noodles, unlike the meager broth they had endured previously. After enduring days of hunger, they were finally presented with the prospect of a hearty meal. As the first mouthful of egg-laden noodles entered their mouths, many felt a wave of emotion wash over them. Their noses tinged with the scent of nostalgia. What once seemed ordinary had transformed into the most exquisite delicacy. The women present were acutely aware of what was to come. As they swallowed hard, they discreetly transferred some of the noodles from their own bowls to their husbands. Though they too felt the pangs of hunger, they restrained themselves, ensuring that the last remaining noodle found its way into their men's bowls. Eat heartily, for a full stomach will shield you from the cold and provide strength. With strength, you shall remain unscathed. Meanwhile, they sipped delicately on the broth, the rich aroma of the egg soup, a result of simmering pork fat, delightfully lingering with every sip. Even if it was merely a bowl of noodles, how wonderful it would be if they could be satiated at every meal.